Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto was in Senran Kagura. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Naruto, what did you do? The deadly visage of the majestic-tailed beast got into Naruto's face with a roar. What once was a titanic-size fox, was now the size of a large wolf. Nine tails continued to sway dangerously. Kurama, I'm going to be honest. I have no idea how that worked. Naruto replied with a nervous smile on his face. He was nervous for various reasons, but the pissed-off Kyuubi certainly took priority. Reaching a shaky hand out to pat Kurama on the head, he pulled it back when the beast's jaw aimed to separate him and his body part. Naruto, this isn't a normal summon. The voice of Suzune accused him. She's seen summons before, she even uses one herself. A talking nine-tailed fox that reeked of malicious intent. Rin can safely say this one was new for her. The shinobi girls all looked equally as confused or shocked. None of them have seen an animal talking before, despite all the oddities that came along with heavy-ho training. Facing his teacher, Naruto's brain was working overtime. Unfortunately, his brain had no answers. He opened his mouth and closed it multiple times, not wanting to come clean and say, "Hey Suzune-sensei. I shouldn't even exist here." His clan, his hidden shinobi clan, used summons such as myself for combat. I've been attached to him to years. Kurama's tone still hinted at underlying anger, but the Kyuubi still came in to help its partner. I wasn't aware of his clan. Naruto is an orphan, is he not? Also, how did he not know of shinobi techniques and our energy if he holds such a lineage? Rin needed answers. Naruto's skill being beyond anything she's seen before in a Yomi-like summon. It was ridiculous to her. Uzumaki. Kurama growled out with slight spite. The women of that clan were annoying to the Biju. They were called Uzumaki. Rin noticed the use of past tense in Kurama's words. Were, she inquired. This is the first time I'm hearing of such a clan. You'd think with summons of your uniqueness, both good and evil shinobi would know of it. The woman was rightfully suspicious. Naruto kept his gaze on Kurama, genuinely surprised the Kyuubi was covering for him. Not because Kurama didn't care, but rather it seemed like the Biju enjoyed seeing Naruto in tough situations. Faye, I don't think I need to explain to you the importance of being a hidden clan woman. Surely you don't think his clan was going around proclaiming their shinobi status. Rin's face turned sour at the patronizing tone of Kurama. As for why he was clueless about your so-called energy and my own shock at the scroll. Well, we don't use this nonsense, yin and yang, energy. This caused everyone in the room to stare questionably at the beast. Hikage already knew about Naruto's chakra, but she couldn't help but want to learn more. After all, Naruto was everything to her. Naruto, show them. Turning to the sheepish Naruto, Kurama waited for him to catch on. Show them what? Naruto squinted his eyes at the Biju. Kurama's sharpened teeth glinted dangerously at Naruto's confusion. Your chakra. Maybe I have some trouble remembering, but were you always this much of an idiot? Kurama had no issue insulting Naruto right now. He turned the mightiest of the Biju into the size of an overgrown dog. Kurama, I'll kick your furry ass into the ground. I'd like to see you try, brat. What are those little knives going to do to me? Little knives, huh? You're the only little one here right now, partner. Naruto. Kurama. Hikage stared at the absurd scene of her boyfriend arguing with a talking fox. Homura looked like she was going to jump in and insult Naruto if not for the snappish glare Suzune-sensei gave her. They are like best friends, right, Yomi-chan? Haruka asked as she watched the two bicker like old friends. I suppose so, Haruka-san. Kurama-san did say they've been together for a long time. Yomi fiddled with her long skirt as she took in the interaction. Admittedly, she liked how Kurama looked. The red-eyed fox was very cute to her. Haruka hummed in agreement before turning to the silent Hikage and smirking. Oh, maybe hubby-chan over here will have more competition. She moved her foot quickly to avoid the knife thrown by a frowning Hikage. Oh my. Naruto. Do what? Kurama says. Suzune pushed her glasses up with a small sigh. Hearing a summoned beast argue with its apparent partner was amusing and all, however she had more questions. Naruto gave Kurama one last glare before crossing his fingers into a position that his teacher has never seen before. She narrowed her eyes at the strange sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Clouds of smoke enveloped the room at Naruto's loud exclamation. It would only take a few seconds for the smoke to clear and the girls were able to take in the sight of many Narutos standing around. Oh, Haruka sounded out with a slight blush on her cheeks. Hikage glared at her again. The snake girl's seen this technique already. Naruto didn't exactly hide it from her. So many. Yomi's eyes moved from each clone, admiring the form of the person she looked up to. Hey, so it's a cloning technique then. PSH, I bet all of them are just as dickless as the original. Homura loudly stated, getting a small chuckle from Kurama. Naruto looked betrayed as he turned to the fox. Kurama, why? She's amusing with those comments about your lack of anatomy. Naruto hung his head in defeat. This technique. It's an illusion. Suzune scrutinized the uncomfortable clones thoroughly. She circled the ones close by as they shuffled nervously under her gaze. No, Suzune-sensei. They are all solid. They can take a hit and do their own thing, but after that. Naruto kicked a clone harshly in the side, resulting in a small puff of smoke. They dispel. He received many dirty looks from the clones. I see. Cloning illusions weren't new to her. However, solid replicas that were capable of their own actions. That was rare and the possibilities seemed endless. It's called ninjutsu, woman. None of that ridiculous yin and yang stuff. Kurama tails idly twitched. The Biju was resisting the urge to attack the clones again. Kurama had no idea how Naruto even used a summoning. Did that scroll manage to bypass the seal? You mentioned chakra. If he uses this energy, how can he still shinobi tension? Does this mean both energies are fundamentally the same? She witnessed both Naruto and Kurama simultaneously shrugging. We got no idea. Yep, clueless. That was helpful. Kurama blinked before glaring at the purple-haired woman again. How do we undo this scroll shit? The fox had a way with words. Typically there's 3 ways. For my own summoning, there is a time limit and the animal itself is able to leave on its own. Are you incapable of doing this? That'd be odd considering the beast claimed to be attached to Naruto. Attached how? Rin felt the usual Naruto-induced headache coming back. Of course I can. Do you know who you are talking to, woman? I am Kurama. The Kyuubi know. A small popping sound was heard as Kurama suddenly disappeared. Naruto held a scroll in his hands, the same one he used to summon Kurama. Only it was tightly closed now. That was the 3rd way. Simple, but effective. You cut my speech off. You'll pay for this, Naruto. Naruto heard the growl in his head. Yeah, whatever. It seems like closing the scroll literally sends you back to the seal. How did it accept our chakra anyway? I knew it. You did put my chakra into the scroll. Naruto, it's dangerous messing with the objects and techniques of this world. We don't know of the consequences. I've never been able to escape your seal from a basic summoning, not even when that disgusting Madara tried it. It didn't take a genius to recognize Kurama's hatred for the Uchiha. How the hell was I supposed to know? You keep telling me to overload everything with chakra, so I did that. But, I just added a tiny bit more. Of yours, he admitted to the growling-tailed beast. I tell you to do that since I expect no results. Yet, this damn world keeps surprising me with constant bullshit. I could expect the pitiful Ikibi to be summoned from a scroll. Shukaku has less power in its whole body than I have in my fingernail. Naruto started to ignore the rant. Kurama went on to prove superiority to someone that wasn't even there. Naruto's head shot up when he felt his clones being destroyed. The feedback of memories he received made him glare at the perpetrator. Homura, you wanna get your ass kicked that badly? The girl paused in her training of swinging around her blade to smile at Naruto. Is that a threat, fox boy? That name fits now, considering you actually summon a fox. She knew she was getting under his skin and that made her smile widen. It's better being called a fox boy than an exhibitionist. Look at that short skirt. Naruto knew he was being hypocritical. Hikage and Haruka also wore their clothes provocatively. Homura's hand immediately went to her skirt, doing her best to hold it down from an imaginary wind. Shut up. This is the uniform. I didn't choose this. She glared at him with a blush tinting her tanned cheeks. Actually, Homura-san, there's no rule about skirt length. Yomi commented as she gestured to her appropriate length. Homura had no response to that. Her cheeks blazed more at Naruto's loud laugh. It wasn't a threat by the way, Homura-chan, it was a promise. His grin and teeth looked similar to the fox he previously summoned. Homura shook off her embarrassment before stabbing a nearby clone again. The yelp of pain made her give her own evil grin. Let's go then, fox boy. Her arm was firmly grabbed by Rin. The woman was staring at Naruto with an indescribable look in her eyes. You will lose. Not only is he more experienced than you. That fox. She paused and pondered her words briefly. You wouldn't last a second. Especially without a transformation. The seriousness in the woman's tone made Homura stand down. She knew she wasn't weak. She'd been training her whole life even if her allegiances were different now. However, if Suzune-sense was uneasy around Naruto, should she be as well? Yeah, that's right. Experience Homura-chan. He spelled the word out sarcastically for the girl. Homura froze in place at his cocky tone. Flailing her arm out the grip of the annoyed teacher, Homura ran full speed at Naruto. Katana gripped tightly. Naruto's grin showed off his bright white teeth. It was almost like he was expecting this outcome. He reached to his belt quickly, cloak shuffling with his movement. Clang. 2 special trench knives were held in a crossed position as they clashed with her katana. If he didn't block, she'd actually go to kill him. He kept his guard up just in case she tried doing that again. You bastard. What's so funny? Homura spit out through grit teeth. Seeing his smug face was pissing her off. Your attitude. What's the matter? Is that Nodashi on your back too heavy for you to use? He poked fun at the sheathed blade. Keeping his knives against her weapon, Naruto looked almost casual in his stance. That's none of your business, fox boy. Homura pressed her lone katana against Naruto with even more strength, but the teen wasn't budging. Maybe that's why you got such a stick up your ass. You can't remove it. Just like that sword. He was cocky, but there was a clear difference in strength between them right now. Homura let out a yell of rage before pulling her blade back and aiming for right between his legs. Naruto blocked it with wide eyes, not expecting her to go for that area. I like her. Really, Kurama? What's the point in those trench knives if you aren't even going to use them? I bet you've never fought with them before anyway, that's why all you're doing is defending. Homura shouted as she put distance between them. It was an ignorant comment, but she was getting worked up now. Naruto heard her comments and raised his knives to his face, admiring the craftsmanship that his late mother gifted him. Use them. Homura, you know what I did with these blades before. The smile was wiped from his face, traces of amusement in his voice were gone as well. Naruto began a slow walk towards the girl who tensed in her stance. His eyes were searching her face intently. These blades. Homura's eyes widened in shock when a clone disarmed her quickly. She didn't even see any behind her. Unless he had them hidden from before. The clone forced her arms behind her back as she struggled helplessly. The original walked closer. A man. He was a shinobi. Suzune perked up at the information. He took my Ka-chan from me. The distance between the two was closing. It wouldn't be long before Naruto's slow strides reached her restrained form. Homura's heart started to beat faster in fear. Suzune-sensei mentioned that evil shinobi can challenge each other whenever they wanted, should that challenge result in death. So be it. I took his eye, Naruto grimly stated before his own eyes darkened. Bright blues seemed dim, and despite only knowing him for a full day, Homura knew the look didn't fit his face. That's not enough for me. When I saw him stabbing Hinata, I felt hopeless. I'll find him. I'll avenge her, he told her with no emotion. On the sidelines Hikage began to feel something at his words. This wasn't like Naruto. Even Haruka and Yomi were frowning at the attitude change. Suzune played the role of a silent observer. Naruto may be a gigantic pain in her ass, but she could never deny her interest in him. He was an enigma. I see this as the result of his upbringing here. Instead of Haruka and the old Hokage, he had a criminal to raise him and Hikage. The way Naruto was acting didn't surprise Kurama entirely. Naruto was full of hate at times in the past. If they weren't partners, the Biju would be overjoyed at Naruto's emotions boiling over with hatred. However, it was different now. The fox actually cared about him. Kurama knew Naruto would be fine. It was normal for him to feel like this, and it wasn't the first time he was overcome with emotion. The boy couldn't be a bright ball of sunshine constantly, he was human after all. I do hope this vengeance doesn't get to his head though. Like that Uchiha. Homura's body locked up, her mind started to replay events she wished to forget. The blood-stained face of the one she trusted and loved. She struggled more against the grip of the clone. A pointless effort. Naruto's grip was inhuman. Was she going to die? Tears formed at her eyes, but she refused to close them. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her losing her pride. Her pride. That's all she had left. She had no family, no home, no one to trust. Pride. That's all she held dear to her now. Her breathing became heavier as he closed the distance. In her fear she didn't notice the clone's grip slacken, she could have escaped if she tried now. Her eyes, green with fear, stared into Naruto's dead blues. I can't even use Angestuka. I'm going to die. Homura only heard the sound of her own frantic heartbeat pounding in her eardrums. Naruto was directly in front of her. He raised the blades to her face. This was it. She didn't want to die here. She had too many regrets. She had too much pride. But it was hopeless. It's not over until you've stopped fighting Homura. That's what Ka-chan used to tell me. You feel hopeless. I see it on your face and in your eyes. I made a promise to my Ka-chan. A promise to be stronger. Stronger to protect others. Strong enough to make her proud. When I look at you, and past the insults, I see someone who's given up. Homura couldn't move. The clone's grip was practically non-existent, but his words were rooting her in place. We don't know each other, and I know you don't like me. But if you're going to be my teammate, I need you to be strong. How can you be strong physically, Homura, when you don't even have a goal? You don't need to dream of avenging family like me. That doesn't mean I'll let you drag the people I care about down, all because you lack purpose. He lowered his knives, watching her trembling form. He couldn't tell if it was rage or fear. It didn't matter. Naruto turned his back to her, the clone behind Homura dissipating with a cloud of thin smoke. All those present in the room watched Naruto walk towards the entrance, not a single one spoke up. Hikage made a move to follow him before Homura's now quiet voice began to call out. The girl's head was lowered. Naruto still didn't slow his pace to the entrance of the room. She began to raise her voice higher. I'll get stronger. I'll be the best damn shinobi around. I never want to feel hopeless again. You hear me, you bastard. I'll be the leader here. Homura's eyes gained a little glint that was previously lost. Naruto stopped for a second in his step. Turning his head just slightly, he was going to speak before deciding against it. He pushed open the large doors and they closed behind him quickly. Suzune-sensei. Homura shouted out, breaking the purple-haired woman out of her thoughts surrounding Naruto. Let's start training. Now, please. Homura was determined. She'll show him strength. More strength than he's ever seen before. For the first time since her parents disowned her and she was betrayed by her own teacher. Homura had a purpose. Almost making the girl piss herself in fear was a little out of character. Naruto. You may not be the exact same anymore, Naruto, but revenge was never your way. Not even when it was justified. Naruto was seated on the top of the dorm building, watching the setting sun as he listened to Kurama. Maybe I'm not the same person you once knew, Kurama. You are. Your priorities may change, and your emotions may run wild. But you're Naruto Uzumaki. Whether or not you get your memories back in full won't change who you are deep down. Kurama watched the sunset through Naruto's own eyes. Since the seal was open, the Biju was able to experience things like this. Naruto Uzumaki. HMPH. Naruto-kun. His head snapped over to where the voice revealed itself. Haruka. He said nothing, content in his position on the edge of the roof. His legs dangled over the side aimlessly. Haruka moved slowly to him before taking a seat to his left. She sat as properly as she could despite her skirt. Turning her gaze to the setting sun, she tried to break the silence. So whenever you'd run off to meet this Kurama in the past, it was a fox. Here I was worried it might be another one of your lovers. Haruka turned to the motionless boy with a coy smile. She sighed when he didn't take the bait. Teasing Naruto was one of her favorite things. Naruto-kun. What happened back there? She tentatively reached her hand out to place it on top of his own. When he didn't withdraw his own, she knew she should be happy. But she wasn't. She frowned deeply. What do you need, Haruka-chan? He finally turned to her and Haruka was surprised at his face. His eyes. They looked older almost. They were slightly different from the bright blue eyes she loved to watch daily. Haruka squeezed his hand lightly. Yomi and Hikage began to search for you. We all went different ways, and it looks like I got lucky, Naruto-kun. She tried to force a smile onto her face, but his lack of reaction lessened her fun severely. I see. Is Hikage-chan alright? Naruto asked her, noticing the way her eyes darkened slightly at his question. Why wouldn't she be alright, Naruto-kun? She wasn't hurt before. It stung to hear him ask about Hikage first. She doesn't like seeing me act the way I was before. He hesitantly explained. Naruto knew how his little show could have affected Hikage. Haruka looked down at her lap, removing her hand from Naruto's for the time being. Haruka. I don't like seeing you act that way either. Naruto-kun, revenge. We may be evil shinobi, but it doesn't seem like you. Her eyes traced the pattern of her short skirt as she spoke. Maybe you don't know me then, Haruka. He didn't mean for it to sound cold, unfortunately it did. It was the same response he gave to Kurama. I do know you. She looked up at him. The blonde girl's eyes were fierce now. You were the first person I've talked to outside of my family. You were the only one to make me feel normal. Reaching up and touching the large pink bow that was situated in her hair, she continued. Can you come with me somewhere, Naruto-kun? It should only take a little while to get there if we travel like shinobi. Haruka's voice turned shy, something Naruto doesn't hear often. The girl is usually completely confident about herself. Giving a nonchalant shrug, he figured it couldn't hurt. She stood up and offered him a hand. He knew he shouldn't take it. Being in a relationship with Hikage and knowing of her jealousy, he couldn't betray her. How would he feel if she held some random boy's hand? He would. Take her hand. You're not having sex with the girl, calm down. Wherever she's taking you must be making her incredibly anxious. Kurama had enough of Naruto's worry. He wasn't going to betray Hikage by holding her hand, besides the blonde girl has bathed with him countless times at this point. Maybe I should let him summon me from that stupid scroll to talk with that snake girl sometime. The Biju supposed it couldn't hurt to tell her how Naruto struggled around Haruka. That would probably ease the green-haired brat's jealousy a little. Taking the hand slowly, Naruto watched as Haruka's eyes widened and her face flushed. She probably wasn't expecting him to accept. She wouldn't miss this opportunity though, so she interlocked their fingers together. Giving him a nod, they began to move fast. Naruto was dragged along with her. Traversing rooftops and streets was easy for them both. Haruka wasn't as fast as Naruto, but considering he didn't know where they were going, she led easily. They dropped down in front of a small area. A park. Why are we here, Haruka-chan? He felt her release his hand finally. She moved ahead of him. The sun was set completely, it wouldn't be long before the moon sat high in the sky. He watched her back and swaying skirt as she moved slowly. She opened a gate that led to a set of swings in the park. Luckily, the park was empty at this time. The children and parents retreated home for the day, leaving the two shinobi alone. Naruto-kun. Haruka gave him a small smile. Her sultry nature was gone for the time being, she was being surprisingly meek. Can you push me on the swings for a bit? Naruto thought over her strange request. Then he remembered that she's been waiting for this for years. Haruka seated herself on the swing, the chain holding it up rattled with her movement. She looked expectantly to Naruto, who gave her a small nod. Laying his hand against the swing's chain, he gripped it and began at a steady pace. Pulling and pushing the chain, Haruka began to swing gently. The soon-to-be nighttime breeze was hitting her in the face as she sat there. Naruto-kun, you can't push any higher. Don't tell me you were stronger when you were 11. Haruka teased him gently. Naruto couldn't help the smile that came to his own face at her teasing. Oi, you know I'm strong enough to push you. Unless you gain some weight, Haruka-chan. He jokingly replied, knowing she wouldn't take such a comment personally. Haha, you wish, Naruto-kun. If I gain any more weight, you'll notice, trust me. Her voice was laced with suggestive intent, and Naruto's smile only widened as he began to push her higher. Haruka gripped the chains tighter as his speed increased. They hung out by the swings for another 10 minutes before Naruto slowed down. Oh, maybe I did gain some weight if you've gotten tired already. Haruka gave him a grin as her eyes focused on him. He shook his head with an eye roll. I've had a long day, Haruka-chan. There's a lot on my mind, ya know. Naruto plopped down onto the swing directly next to her. If she swayed slightly to the left, her body would hit into his own. Haruka hummed at his words, turning her eyes away from his face to take in the rising moon. The moon. The free moon. She was free now, wasn't she? She peeked over to Naruto, watching as he pushed himself very slowly on the swing. Free. I envied the moon, you know. The freedom it had to rise at night. Sure, the sun takes its place during the day, but the moon would always come out. Shining moonlight down on everyone, nobody could stop it. Haruka began to speak, her voice somber. I know this sounds silly. Forgive me. She was cut off by Naruto swinging into her. The back of his hand grazed her own as they held onto the chains. No, go ahead. I'm listening, Haruka-chan. I won't judge you. He gave her an easygoing smile. Those words. Haruka waited to hear those for some time. Naruto. I'm not the person you think I am. Haruka told him, ignoring her rising dread that formed in the pit of her stomach. Naruto said nothing in response to that. The park seemed 1,000 times quieter now. He couldn't even feel Kurama anymore. The Biju probably cut the connection. I didn't get placed in Hebiho because Suzune-sensei was a family friend. Rather, she found me right as I was about to burn my house down. Haruka turned her gaze to the ground. The rustling of chains was all they both heard before she continued. My mother and father were awful, Naruto-kun. That day at the park, that was the first time she let me interact with anyone besides my father or her. When you told me both you and Hikage would be my friend, I don't think I've ever felt happier. She smiled at the ground before losing it with her next sentence. She never let me leave the house after that day. My father, he was a vile man. Being a shady doctor during the day and cheating on my mother by night. Naruto watched as Haruka gripped the chains tighter. His face remained unchanged at her story. He lied and lied. I hated him. I still do. After Suzune-sensei stopped me from burning the house down, she taught me how to use puppetry and hypnosis techniques. I used those skills to force my father into admitting his crimes. He lost his wife, his job, and they threw him in jail. It was the second happiest day of my life. She told him in a shaky voice, wavering with emotion. Then, my mother wouldn't let me leave whatsoever. She forced me into my room for hours. I could only leave when she would dress me up like a doll and have her photo shoots. Haruka bitterly explained. Day after day I was reaching my boiling point. Finally I snapped and controlled my mother the same way. Instead of making her leave or killing her, I made her serve me. As a doll. My personal doll to do whatever I wanted. The blonde girl didn't dare look up to see Naruto's face. After that night, I realized something. I'm no better than my parents. What I've done to them, what I'm still doing in Hebiho. I'm a bad person, Naruto-kun, but when I heard you talking about revenge and telling Homura how that's basically your goal, it hurt me. She finally looked up at him, tears leaking out of her eyes. You are the only one that makes me feel normal, Naruto-kun. These past 2 years, even when I'm fighting with Hikage for your attention, I'm happy. That's why I don't want to see you like that. That's not who you are. Through teary eyes she reached out to place her hand against his own. Naruto-kun. I'm an awful, manipulative person. Though every time I'm around you, I want to be better. I can't stand by and watch you end up like me. You deserve much better than that. She tried wiping at the tears with her free hand, but they kept coming. If you don't want to be friends with me anymore, Naruto-kun. After all I've done and trying to take you away from Hikage, I fully understand. I'll leave you alone outside of lessons with Suzune. Haruka never cried this much. The obvious cause was the pain over potentially losing her best friend, the boy she loved, forever. She tightly closed her green eyes to wait for his response. Her ears picked up the sound of a rustling chain. Maybe he was leaving her alone as she should be. Feeling a flick on the forehead, Haruka opened her eyes again to see Naruto smiling softly at her. His blue eyes returned to the way she loved. Haruka-chan, stop being stupid. I'm not leaving. You've been through a lot with your family, and while you feel you are a horrible person, you're wrong. You say you want to be better, so that's all that matters. Besides, you're my friend. And after all, Naruto Uzumaki only accepts the best as friends. He puffed his chest out in pride, unintentionally using the last name he would once shout from the heavens. Haruka gave a mixture of a sob and chuckle at his words. Naruto moved his hand to her face, wiping at the stray tears that continued to fall. Do you think I should stop controlling my mother then? Haruka asked him hesitantly. Naruto frowned at her words now. I'm going to be honest, your father sounds like an awful person. While your mother certainly isn't much better, wouldn't you feel good if you were the bigger person, Haruka-chan? Don't let her make you sink to her level by controlling her. I told you I'd never judge you, and I still won't. This is your decision at the end of the day, but I know you, Haruka. You're a good person. Behind all those teasing jokes and questionable hugs you give me, is a girl with a heart of gold, you know. Still crouched in front of her swing, he let his hand rest on her cheek. This doesn't need to happen right now, Haruka-chan. I won't force you to do anything, it's not my place to make you stop. I'll support you though, that's what friends do. They support each other through thick and thin. No matter what you choose to do, or what choices you make in the future, you're still my Haruka-chan, right? He closed his eyes and gave her a huge grin. My Haruka-chan. Haruka felt the waterworks start anew, but they weren't from sadness. Never did she value friendship or relationships more than in this moment. Releasing the grip on the chains, Haruka shot forward and tackled Naruto onto the ground of the park. Sitting on top of the boy, she watched through blurry vision as he let out a small curse at hitting his back against the floor. Naruto-kun, what about your goal? Your revenge? She still had to ask even though her body began to heat up at their position. Naruto's face flushed at the feeling of her body pressed into him before he processed her question. I don't know, Haruka-chan. I need to find him and make sure he doesn't hurt anyone like he did to Ka-chan. He paused and reached up to the embarrassed Haruka. But I won't put it above you all. I want to protect you girls. Even that pain in the ass, Homura. I won't make it my sole reason for existing. I will find him though, that's a promise. His eyes were serious, but not with the same grim look that unnerved Haruka. And what if I manipulate you or the others, Naruto-kun? Haruka had to ask. Her upbringing caused her more issues mentally than she could count. She felt him patting her cheek lightly. Bad Haruka-chan. No controlling friends. I know you and hubby-chan don't get along, but deep down I know you have each other's backs. And if you try to do anything silly with your hypnosis, puppets, whatever, I'll be there to flick you on the forehead even harder than before. Got it? He gave her a mock glare, making her begin to laugh at his silly answer. Naruto-kun, thank you. She laid her hands on his chest, eyeing the necklace Hikage got him. What for, Haruka-chan? I'm just being myself. He gave her a smirk, earning a very small playful hit to the head. That's why I'm thanking you. For being you. Her green eyes shone with an emotion that Naruto has seen elsewhere, and it made him both worried and flattered. A deadly combination. Hikage-chan looks at me the same way. Haruka leaned down and threw her arms around his head, pulling him into her bust. Naruto flailed at her actions, using every ounce of strength he had to break the deadly hold. Haruka-chan, you're gonna suffocate me like that. You're not exactly small, he yelled out as he took in air greedily. Haruka's grin widened at his words. Maybe that's my goal, Naruto-kun. Are you complaining about the size of my boobs? She placed her hands on her own chest, groping herself slightly. Naruto tried averting his eyes anywhere else, but that knowing smile on her face brought his attention back to her. Haruka-chan. He whined out. You know hubby-chan is my girlfriend. Naruto reminded her and expected two reactions. For her to either get angry or become silent. He didn't like seeing his friend act that way, but he'd never cheat on Hikage. He would have never expected Haruka to slide down from sitting on his chest, to sitting directly on his crotch. Naruto deadpanned at her. Why? Oh my, it seems someone down here is awake. Girlfriend or not, you seem to be quite excited, Naruto-kun. She wiggled her ass ever so slightly on top of him, making him grit his teeth. Okay, that's my cue to get up. Mustering up the willpower of the gods, Naruto shot to his feet as Haruka blinked owlishly at ending up on the cold ground. Oh, look at the time, Haruka-chan. We have to train with Suzune-sensei early tomorrow. Why don't we head back now? Naruto had his back turned to her, hiding his excitement due to her actions. Naruto-kun, just because you turned around doesn't mean I don't know it's there. Haruka teasingly told him. It's getting pretty cold out. I think we should go now. Come on Haruka-chan, I'll lead the way. You don't know the way back Naruto-kun. Let me lead. She stepped in front of the boy with her hands behind her back, eyeing him from head to toe. Naruto turned his back to her again, making her start giggling uncontrollably. No, I have a good sense of direction. It's this way. He pointed at a random direction in the dark. Haruka shook her head with another fit of laughter. Naruto-kun, you still get lost on the way to the cafeteria. How can I trust you to lead me back to campus? Naruto indignantly shouted in the nighttime about his lack of direction. Haruka lead him back with a wide smile on her face. Naruto. They were evil shinobi. Relationships and friendships were supposed to be seen as negative or pointless distractions. Right now though. Hikage, I won't give up on Naruto. Never. She was more determined than she's ever been before. Pouring your heart out to someone changes the relationship drastically. Looking back at the whiskered teen who was childishly pouting at her as she held his hand, Haruka squeezed it tightly. I love him. Love felt good to Haruka. It seems Yomi-chan is already sleeping. Haruka closed the door to her shared room lightly, turning to Naruto as he stood in the hallway. It was pretty late now. Getting back to Hebiho took longer than expected. Haruka dragged out their trip to the school, for the sole purpose of spending time with him. I already know Hikage-chan is going to be pissed. Unless she's asleep, he whispered to Haruka since the hallways were quiet. The blonde girl shook her head in amusement, not feeling any jealousy towards Hikage in the moment. Why should she feel jealous right now? She's never felt closer to Naruto. I'm happy we were able to talk tonight Naruto-kun, and thanks for pushing me on the swings again. Haruka gave him another shy smile, getting a small grin in return. We'll do it again sometime. What kinda teenage girl likes playing in the park though? He teased her again. Haruka slapped him lightly on the chest before reaching her arms around him. Naruto was momentarily surprised at her actions before hugging her back. They stood like that for what felt like a minute before Haruka broke it and stepped back. She eyed his face for a moment. I can't be like my father. Even if I envy Hikage. A hug is enough for now. She wanted to kiss him so badly but it wasn't the time. Haruka hoped there would even be a time in the future. She didn't know how, though she'll hold out hope. Good night Haruka-chan. I better sneak into my room before I get stabbed by hubby-chan. Naruto said it calmly, and while Haruka understood Hikage's liberal usage of knives, she wasn't too worried for him. Good night Naruto-kun. I'll let Yomi-chan know you're okay. She told him quietly, getting him to give her another one of his classic cheesy thumbs up. Haruka watched him get close to his room's sliding door before breathing in deeply and saying a small prayer. She had to stifle her laugh at his over-exaggeration. He locked eyes with her one more time and she felt her body heat up again. Then he entered his room. Haruka stood in the hallway all alone. Yet, she didn't feel alone for once. I have Naruto. And the others. Haruka was about to enter her own room to get ready to sleep when she heard Naruto's hushed yell of, Hikage-chan, wait. And a smile bloomed on her face again. Instead of eavesdropping, she decided to let them have their own moment now. Maybe the green-haired girl deserved it. Hikage, wait. Okay, I'm sorry for not telling you where I was going. Put the knife down. Naruto tried to keep his voice low, but the glare on the face of his girlfriend didn't allow for that. Do you know how worried I was? We all looked for you Naru. I can usually find you wherever you are, but for once I couldn't. She lowered her knife slowly, placing it on their shared desk. She was wearing one of Naruto's thin sleeve shirts and orange panties. Despite the clothing, it didn't make her less intimidating in Naruto's eyes. Naruto frowned while approaching her and extending his arms. The snake-eyed girl didn't waste any time as she latched onto him. Her arms clutched at him like a lifeline. Which, to be fair, Naruto was her lifeline. Hooking his arms around her waist, he stood there as she breathed in deeply, feeling bad for genuinely worrying her. You smell like Haruka, Naruto. She looked up at him with slightly narrowed eyes. His face paled at her words before shaking his head rapidly. It's not what you think Hikage-chan. She's the one who found me on top of the dorm's roof. Then she wanted to go to a park and talk for a bit. Hikage didn't lose her glare at his explanation. Haruka-chan told me about herself and how she ended up here. I would tell you but it's personal. Hikage-chan, I don't want to betray her like that even though I love you. He knew Hikage would get jealous, and he hoped she didn't let that block her rational thought. Naruto never lied to her though. What did you do at the park? She had to know. I pushed her on the swings and we talked just like I said. She's had a hard life hubby-chan. If you want to know, you'll have to get closer with her right. He gave her a big smile, amused at her softening glare. Pushed her on the swing. What is she 10 again? Yep, she was jealous. Hikage-chan, I'll push you on the swing whenever you'd like. She tightened her grip around him before pulling him to the bed. They landed on it together, her body sitting on top of his own. Hikage eyed his school clothes for a second before attempting to take them off, ignoring Naruto's flat look. I can take my own clothes off. They smell like doll girl's perfume. Get them off. Naruto grumbled as he obeyed her command. It's not like he planned on sleeping in a school uniform anyway. Stripping out his clothes with Hikage as a one-woman audience, he laid in only his boxers with a pout on his face. I'm sorry for running off. I had a lot on my mind. He told her and she interlocked their hands together. Hikage's usual face didn't change as she laid her head on his chest. Listening to his heartbeat briefly, she decided to ask him some questions. Uzumaki. I guess. Kurama meant they were a clan from your world. The situation was still strange to Hikage. Naruto nodded his head at her statement, twirling a lock of her messy green hair calmly. Yeah, so that makes me Naruto Uzumaki, right, hubby-chan? He gave her a look that made her feel warm inside. She placed her face deeper against him, struggling to fight the smile from coming onto her lips. Uzumaki. I'll be taking that name in the future then. She mumbled to herself. Naruto didn't hear it thankfully. She knew he would tease her for that one. How did you summon Kurama? You told me there's a seal involved. Hikage couldn't deny her curiosity over talking to the summon, who knew Naruto long before her. Truthfully, we both aren't sure how it worked out. This energy Suzune-sensei goes on about must be similar to my chakra. Don't worry, that asshole is still in the seal. All I did was channel a bunch of chakra into the scroll, and I may have added a bit of Kurama's. His face was sheepish, knowing it wasn't the best idea. Is that how big Kurama is normally? Naruto shook his head rapidly. No, that damn fox is huge. I bet I can use more of Kurama's chakra to increase the size of the summoning. Does that sound right? How should I know, Naru? Aha. Sorry, hubby-chan. Hikage began to draw imaginary patterns into Naruto's chest while she pondered the situation. And what you said to Homura. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw him frown slightly. I can't let what happened to Ka-chan go. He will pay for what he's done. He told her with a determined face. Hikage hummed lowly at his words. You know I'll be there every step of the way, Naru. I just don't want you to only live for that. Ka-san wouldn't want that. It was true. While Hinata held grudges of her own, she'd never want her children being consumed by revenge. Naruto began running his hands through her hair again as he answered her. I know. Haruka-chan was worried about me acting like that. I don't even want to imagine how worried Yomi-chan was. That poor girl gets worked up easily. He sighed deeply. My goal hasn't changed though, Hikage-chan. While I plan to avenge Ka-chan, it won't be my number one priority. You come first. The girls come first. Don't be jealous please. I really care for all three of you, ya know. Hikage closed her eyes at his words. Yes, she felt the telltale pain of jealousy strike her chest, but she knew why Naruto said this. It was just who he was. He wasn't the cold, deadly boy she saw approaching Homura today. Naruto was someone who cared for those precious to him. While she didn't mind the eccentric Yomi being close to him, Haruka was a pain. You're too good of a person sometimes, Naru. She whispered and Naruto heard, despite having to strain his ears to do so. I'm not. Look what I did to Homura today and not to mention what I plan to do to that bastard. Naruto growled out. Hikage stopped her lazy drawing of patterns on his chest to look him in the eye. You are. Even if you plan to avenge Ka-san and were a little harsh on Homura despite her deserving it. You're a good person. She began to push herself up lightly. If it weren't for you, Naru, I wouldn't be here today. I would have been lost on those streets. You saved me long before Ka-san found us. Hikage was only inches away from his own face now. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't feel anything. Naruto began to grin at her words. He knew the answer to his next question, but he had to ask. What do you feel now, Hikage-chan? You know I've always tried to get you feel literally anything ever since we were young. Love. The word came out of her mouth with no hesitation. What once was a girl who couldn't even grasp the concept of being happy or sad, was now someone who loved another. Love, huh? It's a shame you love someone else. When will I meet that special person? He was messing with her, hoping for her to play along. Hikage wouldn't be playing any verbal games tonight. You're an idiot. Cold. Very cold, hubby-chan. You're my idiot. That was the last thing the yellow-eyed girl said before she initiated a kiss. Hikage wasn't having any of their usual playful verbal fights, even if Naruto always won those. No, she preferred the more physical fights that she reserved for only one person. She always won those fights. Love felt good to Hikage. Yomi was awake bright and early the next morning. Nervously playing with the hem of her nightgown, she waited outside Naruto's room door. She debated on whether or not to knock multiple times, but her nerves wouldn't allow it. After living in his house, which was technically Hinata's, for an entire summer, Yomi felt somewhat close to Naruto. Did she know him as well as Hikage or even Haruka? No. Did she want to? Yes. Growing up in poverty allowed Yomi to understand others only performed actions for their own benefit or for pity. She hated pity. She didn't want others to feel bad for her past situation, she was past that point in her life. Rather, she had her own goal of helping the homeless who weren't as lucky as her. Hebiho supplied her with a shared room, the roommate being Haruka, and handled the expenses for food and other commodities. During the summer, Naruto practically opened up the door to his home for her with no hesitation. That's what stunned Yomi. After a botched attempt of a robbery, Naruto still wanted to help her. Not to make himself seem like a better person, not because he pitied her and wanted to give her an easy handout. No, he did it because he wanted to. There was no ulterior motive, no tricks. Naruto simply cared. That's not to say Hikage and Haruka were cold to her. Heavens no. Hikage was certainly aloof and distant at times, but Yomi appreciated the girl for never pushing her away. The same goes with Haruka. Yomi understood that she could be a little overbearing when it comes to her love, bean sprouts, though neither of the girls insult or ignore her for it. Naruto even asked her again about the history of bean sprouts and other nutritional facts. Even he must enjoy them. While Yomi knew they were evil shinobi and Suzune-sensei mentioned how their bonds can be turned against them, she wouldn't disregard her relationship with the others. That's why she stood in front of Naruto's door. Haruka told her he was okay, and she wanted to make sure. She had to check on the boy who took her in out of the kindness in his own heart, and the one she not so secretly admires. Naruto was nothing like those disgusting upper-class rich people who claimed to help the poor. They were liars, only interested in lining their own pockets and fabricating stories for the media. Yomi wasn't stupid. That's why she cared about Naruto. He was nothing like those scum. Closing her eyes and taking a deep breath, she extended her closed hand to knock on the door. Wrapping her hand slowly against a soft pillow wasn't what she expected. Opening her eyes, she turned red at the emotionless Hikage standing there with raised eyebrows. Why are you knocking on my boobs, Yomi-san? Yomi sputtered complete nonsense at the question. I should have kept my eyes open. My troublesome nerves. She eyed Hikage's sleeping attire which consisted of only orange panties. Hikage-san, where are your clothes? Hikage looked down at her own body in confusion. Tilting her head slightly, she faced Yomi. What? I'm wearing panties. I was naked before. Hikage spoke evenly, not understanding Yomi's questioning. But Naruto-san can see your. The tips of her ears were burning red and her face felt hot. Yomi wasn't used to the lack of modesty that most shinobi seemed to have. Or maybe it was just Hikage and Haruka. Although, Homura's skirt was certainly short. Yomi was starting to see the trend here. Yomi-san. He's my boyfriend, he's seen a lot more. The green-haired girl scratched her head slightly, watching the blonde lazily. I see Hikage-san. I'm sorry for intruding. Is Naruto-san available ye? Who's there's hubby-chan? The groggy voice of Naruto stopped Yomi's questioning in its tracks. He appeared over the shoulder of Hikage and his eyes lit up upon seeing Yomi. Ah, Yomi-chan. Come in here. Reaching out and grasping the arm of the shocked blonde girl, Naruto pulled her gently into the room. Hikage locked eyes with the stunned girl and offered a small careless shrug in response. Dragging her to their bed, Yomi sat on it awkwardly. She couldn't even look down. Naruto-san is only wearing underwear. She may have lived with them for a few months, but they were usually up before her, and if they weren't, she never entered their room. Yomi felt her heart beat faster due to her embarrassment. Two half-naked people in a room with her was too much right now. Cute nightgown, Yomi-san. Hikage idly commented as she leaned against Naruto's back. The green nightgown Yomi was wearing covered her body, but considering her bust was equally as developed as most girls Hikage's seen, it didn't hide her assets too well. Yeah, green suits you, Yomi-chan. Naruto nodded his head approvingly. Yomi felt like she would die of embarrassment here. There's been too many situations in the past few days involving things like this. Thank you. She looked down at her lap, furiously blushing. I came by to check on you, Naruto-san. I know Haruka-san said you were okay after you ran off, but I needed to. Yomi didn't look up even after explaining herself. Her eyes widened when she felt a hand gently rubbing the top of her head. I appreciate it, Yomi-chan. I'm alright though. I may have gone a little too far with Homura. I wanted to make sure you girls would be alright when you start joining us on missions. I can't have someone risk your safety for no reason. Naruto told her with an easygoing smile, continuing to ruffle her soft blonde hair. Oh okay, Naruto-san. I'm happy you're alright. She began twiddling her thumbs due to his ministrations. Naruto felt a small pang in his heart as he watched her do that. It felt very familiar to him. The door to the room opened and closed quickly. Hikage already had a glare up and ready for the intruder. She knew who it was. She did this whenever she wanted to. Doll girl, why don't you knock? She almost hissed out at Haruka. Instead of an insult back, Haruka surprised her by flashing her a bright smile. Good morning. I came to make sure Yomi-chan got over her nerves. The poor girl was standing in front of your room for almost 10 minutes before you opened the door. Though I do see the air must be a little chilly this morning, right Hikage-san? Everyone in the room picked up on her hidden meaning, if you could call it that. Jealous. Hikage's voice was the definition of a person who doesn't give a damn. Normally I would be, but I'm greeted to a nice treat before breakfast. Naruto-kun. Haruka angled her view down to Naruto's body. Yomi began to blush at the implication. Hikage. That isn't for you. He's mine. Of course. Yomi-chan certainly doesn't mind the view considering she's basically eye level with Naruto-kun's crotch while on the bed. Haruka's smile widened when she heard Naruto facepalm and Yomi began to stutter again. The blonde girl on the bed threw her face into the pillow to block her vision. Yomi-san doesn't care about that. Hikage told her with a small frown. Yomi was pure, she didn't have any inappropriate thoughts involving Naruto. Hikage was sure. Sure. That's why her eyes are peeking at him from behind that pillow. You're right as always Hikage-san. Hikage turned to glare at Yomi who let out a small eep. In response. I'm not a juicy piece of steak for people to stare at hungrily, ya know. Naruto grumbled out as he listened to their interaction. I can always enjoy a juicy piece of steak Naruto-kun. Haruka's gaze was dangerous now. He's mine. Haruka. Hikage's yellow eyes were also predatory. Lewd. Yomi began to mumble into the pillow. Hikage-san, you would deny a friend if they were hungry. You can starve. What a shame. I'd share some of Naruto-kun's meat with you. Maybe. Lewd. Yomi started to get louder as her face was lit up in an atomic blush. Naruto began to gather clothes to wear after his shower. He was looking forward to breakfast too, he was pretty hungry. Which shampoo should I use today? I like the one Yomi-chan's been using. The boy began to tune out the chaos occurring in his room. The door slammed open with a loud bang again. Naruto didn't even acknowledge the noise. You fox bastard. I came too. Where's your fucking clothes? Why are they all in here? Homura, the new intruder, pointed at the chaotic room. Oh Homura-san. What a pleasure to see you so early. Haruka turned to the confused girl with another evil smile. Tell me, do you like meat? Homura thought about the question for a second before nodding confidently. Any type of meat is my favorite. She replied casually despite the fact that she just busted into a room uninvited. How interesting. You see, we were just discussing some very interesting meat that I've been dying to try. Haruka's words were ridiculously inappropriate for 8 in the morning. Haruka. Hikage started to reach for the knife she left on the desk last night. Bean sprouts aren't meat. Bean sprouts aren't meat. Naruto. Bean sprouts. Lewd. Yomi wasn't making much sense. What meat are you talking about? After I kick this bastard's ass, I'll enjoy some of this interesting meat. Homura was a self-proclaimed meat connoisseur. Haruka laughed mischievously at her answer. She turned to Naruto only to blink in confusion when he wasn't there. Only a single piece of paper remained on the floor. Hikage was also confused, they didn't even see him leave. Homura noticed their gaze and bent down to grab the paper. Flipping it open, there was a small note scribbled. I'm never eating meat again. Love Naruto. Homura dryly read it out loud. That bastard. Disregarding meat and leaving without hearing her out. Unacceptable. This is your fault, Haruka. As usual, you cause trouble, doll girl. Don't worry, Hikage-san. I'll handle all the meat Naruto needs. Yomi felt lightheaded. It was probably due to her face being stuffed into a pillow and the lack of oxygen. Homura was extremely clueless. Why the hell would Haruka handle his meat? That dumbass can't even eat food on his own. Meanwhile, Naruto was whistling a happy tune as he strolled down the hallways. Luckily, he had the foresight to grab his scroll on the way out. His transformed outfit covered his boxer-clad form for now. He avoided the approaching storm in that bedroom, and he was glad. Putting his hands behind the back of his neck and comfortably walking, he felt good. Oh, you going to the showers, cutie? A voice asked him. A voice he dreaded. One he hasn't heard for over a year. He gulped and turned around in pure fear. Aiko. The mountain of a girl told him with a gigantic smile. Why was she here? She should have been a graduate by now. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Surprised to see me. Despite graduating already, I still report to Hebiho to assist in training the first years. Her eyes didn't hide their intention of admiring his body thoroughly. Naruto felt like he lost his virginity through her eyes alone. Hey Aiko. It's nice to see you again. I have to go now. People need me. The girl grinned roughly at his words. It's an unwritten rule for underclassmen to follow their superiors, Naruto-kun. Come with me for a second. I need an adult. Oh cutie. I am an adult. Naruto mentally demanded to see these unwritten rules of Hebiho. Yo, Suzune-sensei said you needed to see me. Naruto entered the extravagant office belonging to the head of Hebiho. Reo, the father of Miyabi, sat behind the large desk. The years following his daughter's coma certainly didn't do the man any favors. The man's usual pristine suit was a bit more wrinkled and his face certainly aged. Despite the image he puts up around their benefactors or his shinobi, he still regretted being a cause of his daughter's injury. Naruto, we have a few things to discuss. As your second year at Hebiho comes to a close, some things were brought to our attention by Suzune. Reo rubbed at his tired eyes, missing Naruto's confused look. Young Naruto, it's always a pleasure to see you again. A rather upbeat yet deep voice told him. Naruto was surprised at the sudden appearance of Dogen. He didn't even sense the man nor see him prior to his announcement. Kurama didn't comment on it either. Nice to see you as well. Naruto replied to the greeting in an unsure tone. Dogen merely smiled widely at the boy. Naruto, or should I say Naruto Uzumaki, Suzune has brought some things to light. While she may be your teacher, she reports everything to me, and by extension Dogen-sama. Naruto tensed at the principal's words, his mind already kicking into overdrive for the lies he was about to weave. I can't say I was surprised. Naruto here was capable of besting your daughter in combat on 2 occasions, Reo-san. It's not a shock to me that his shinobi lineage spans generations. Dogen's strangely colored eyes glinted in the darkened room. Reo flinched at the mention of his daughter before coughing lightly to bring attention away from it. Yes, Naruto, not only are you apparently from a clan of shinobi. Suzune mentioned a summoning, a very peculiar summoning. He left out the description that Suzune gave him. Reo wanted to hear it straight from the boy himself. Naruto forced his hands behind his back, lest they would certainly try to seek out his neck. His habit could come to bite him in the ass here if they discovered he was lying. Yep, he began cheerfully, doing his best to throw them off from the obvious lies. My clan was capable of summoning unique creatures such as my own Kyuubi. Kurama growled at the claim of ownership. A Kyuubi? Is it by chance similar to the ones included in legends and myths? Dogen asked with that cheerful smile crossing his features. Reo merely studied Naruto. Naruto nodded very slightly, preparing another lie. You got it. Unfortunately I can't really say what my Kyuubi is capable of though. Haha, we've never truly had to go all out, ya know. His laugh sounded fake even to his ears. Intriguing. I look forward to the day when I can see the capabilities of your summoning, Naruto-kun. Dogen seemed almost giddy at the thought. His distraction of the supposed mythical summon seemingly made him forego judging Naruto's words for truths or lies. Reo still continued to observe. Me too. As for my clan, well, I'm an orphan. I'm not sure what happened to them or even much about them, but after summoning my partner I was able to at least get my last name. You're not a very good liar, Naruto. You think you can tell what they are feeling right now, Kurama? Are they buying this bullshit? He questioned internally. All I can detect from the white-haired man is heavy regret and sadness. As I told you before, this Dogen, I can barely sense his presence in this very room. Stay alert. Got it, Naruto. Believe it. Never utter those words to me again. Naruto-kun, are you alright? Snapping back to reality, Naruto looked at the concerned face of Dogen. Sorry. Whenever I think about the family I could have had, I get a bit lost in my thoughts. He gave the man a fake saddened smile. I understand. However, Hebiho is now your family, right, Reo-san? Dogen's words did their best to seem reassuring, but all Naruto felt was nauseousness. Something was off. Indeed, Dogen-sama, Reo dryly stated, eyes piercing Naruto's face. The gigantic man next to his desk straightened his own colorful suit before admiring the view from the office. Naruto-kun. Dogen saw Naruto stiffen from the reflection in the window. While I'd certainly enjoy a demonstration today, along with Reo, we can take a rain check. Rather, I'd like to inform you of something before I head out. I'm a busy man after all. The reflection of Naruto hesitantly nodded at his words, making him grin again. Whatever, Naruto muttered, showing his disrespect for authoritative figures even at the worst of times. This didn't deter Dogen, and if anything it pleased him more. This information is classified, of course. Suzune only knows the minimum for the time being, but considering your status and ability, well, Reo-san believes you are fit to know. I agree with that line of thinking, seeing as you impress me, Naruto-kun. The benefactor of Hebiho praised him yet again. Within your third year, there will be quite a few changes to the missions you undertake. Up until now, I've seen your group's track record. Simply stealing for corrupt politicians and silencing a few businessmen here and there, child's play. Dogen's words made the room tense for reasons Naruto couldn't understand. So what do you want from me? Naruto was blunt, there was no beating around the bush when the man obviously had plans of his own. Waving his hand dismissively, Dogen turned to the boy again. Oh hush. Don't use that tone here, it isn't anything bad. We aren't going to send you on a mission to assassinate groups of people. No, we have something a bit more discreet. You know what? Ryo-san, why don't you tell him? You are the principal after all. The man's voice was faintly amused, whether that be at Naruto's bluntness or Ryo's silence, neither knew. Naruto. A school of good shinobi, known as Hanzo Academy, is in possession of something Hebiho could benefit from greatly. While that academy holds the image of a regular institution to the public, its roots are grown from a history of shinobi. The principal's tone was serious. Now that you claim to come from a clan of hidden shinobi, we can have this work in our favor. Your third year will still be spent among Hebiho, however you will be given a mission of extreme importance. Spying and reconnaissance of Hanzo Academy through very specific means. Ryo rose an eyebrow at the frown that appeared on Naruto's face. Specific means. Naruto's face scrunched up at the thought. He didn't like where this was heading. Yes. You will infiltrate the school under the guise of a student. You are to discover the shinobi students hidden within and report every detail. Your fellow teammates will have their own involvement with this after you're already established as a student. Ryo dropped the bomb on the second-year student. Naruto was about to speak up about his problem with the mission before Dogen cleared his throat again. Naruto-kun, while I know you may not personally enjoy such a mission, you are a shinobi for Hebiho. You cannot deny a mission from the higher-ups. This information you gain will be beneficial to the school and for the future of your own career. Dogen did his best to be sympathetic. You said this is during my third year. I'll be there every day then. What about my teammates? How can I find time to train with them and go on other missions if all my time is taken up by Hanzo? The questions came pouring out of Naruto's mouth. Details. Everything will be clear when the time approaches. We already have a way for you to enter the school, and your so-called clan only makes this situation smoother. Dogen began his stride towards the exit of the room. Ryo-san will explain more in the future. I'm sorry, but I have places to be, Naruto-kun. Again, while you don't seem thrilled at the idea, you are a shinobi here. He locked eyes with the narrowed blues as he reached the large door. Understood. Naruto got out through gritted teeth. Very well. I bid you both a good day. Keep up that training, Naruto-kun. I look forward to seeing you and your partner in action. The man left the room, the door closed softly behind him. Naruto and Ryo basked in the silence of the office before the white-haired man began tapping on his desk very lightly, getting Naruto's attention. I've heard that you've been visiting my daughter. The room went from tense to awkward instantly. The previous questions about Kurama and his mission were gone now. Naruto gave him a small smile. I try to go as often as I can. She wanted to kick my ass, and probably still does. Still, I can't help but want her to wake up, you know. Naruto finally allowed himself to rub at the back of his neck. I see. Ryo shook his head very lightly. You are dismissed, Naruto. With this school year coming to an end, you will be reporting to Suzune for training and such during the summer despite classes being over. At the start of your third year, we will discuss your mission more. Do not inform your teammates of your future mission, this is confidential. Ryo began to look down at this paperwork, almost ignoring Naruto's presence now. He missed the frown and glint in Naruto's eye. Kiss my ass. Nobody tells Naruto Uzumaki what to do. Alright. It was nice seeing you again, old man. Try getting out of the office more often. Miyabi-chan will probably be able to kick your ass the minute she gets out of that coma if you stay locked up in here every day. Naruto turned to exit like Dogen. Ryo paused in his writing and signing forms at Naruto's words. He felt compelled to speak up before deciding against it. Kurama. I'm glad you didn't instantly deny the mission and cause any problems. You're a shinobi for this school, you can't pick and choose missions. The only reason I didn't is because of you. You keep telling me to stay under the radar. If you bring too much attention to yourself, you know what will happen. It's a bit late for being under the radar, but you deny that mission and it will bring the ire of Hebiho and other benefactors onto you. There's no denying we can blow these people away, Naruto. However, what happens when they go after those girls? You don't exactly make your friendships and relationships a secret. That's not to mention all those people we may not know about. Good shinobi, evil shinobi, politicians, governments. Should I go on? Kurama's voice was stern, knowing Naruto's nature would make him jump to deny being away from the girls he's grown attached to. Spare me the lecture, Kurama. I get it. He sighed lowly and put his hands behind his head, leisurely walking the long hallways of Hebiho. It's not always going to be easy to stay hidden, Kurama. Dogen, Ryo, even Suzune. They all have plans. His blue eyes hardened as he stared ahead. If they hurt anyone I care about. He let the threat hang, knowing Kurama understood. We are an existence outside of the rules. You do well to remember that, Naruto. This isn't the elemental nations and you are nowhere near capable of taking on every problem in this world. Play by their rules for now. I hate it just as much as you. Naruto didn't respond, his gaze was focused on the clearing visible from his vantage point. Hikage, Haruka, Homura and Yomi were all doing various exercises and training while Suzune spectated. Existence outside of the rules, huh? Don't tell me this is all ya got. Yomi, Homura shouted as she rushed down the blonde-haired girl. They were both in their transformed state and sparring. Homura was getting angry due to Yomi only being on the defense. 6 katana blades were somehow held within the tanned girl's grip, showing her unique and wild fighting style. Clashing them relentlessly against the gigantic sword in Yomi's gloved hands, Homura started to grit her teeth in frustration. How the hell does she even hold up that damn sword? It's almost the size of her body. Homura jumped back to observe her opponent. The blonde girl didn't look worse for wear. Her transformed outfit was only cut up a little bit. Homura took in the outfit, and compared to her own, Yomi's was certainly different. It was reminiscent of a maid, and Homura supposed it made sense. Yomi was prone to clean up after others in the shinobi room. She wore a white teal dress that revealed a lot of cleavage. Her arms were covered by long white gloves with frilly arm sleeves. Around her waist was a small white apron with a shuriken pattern decorating it. Yomi's belt held a brown bag that no doubt carried ammunition. Ammunition for the large wrist cannon weapon she used alongside that huge sword. A teal beret was situated on her blonde hair. Under her dress was a pair of white stockings covered by long brown boots. Looking at the outfit, Homura felt a bit inadequate outfit-wise compared to everyone else. Homura-san, this is a spar. You've been going for killing blows the entire time. Yomi's voice called out to her. Homura stopped lamenting about her plain transformed outfit, which was just her school uniform, to stare at the green eyes of her opponent. So, we are shinobi. We aren't playing games, Yomi. She scowled at the girl. Wishing the bean sprouts obsessed girl would fight back. Playing. Yomi began. You're right. We aren't playing. She began to raise her large sword named Ragnarok over her head. I'll make the next move then, Homura-san. Homura's eyes widened at the energy radiating for Yomi's strangely huge sword. Sigmund. Listing her large sword overhead with a yell, it extended to become simply massive. With another battle cry she slammed the large sword down, sending it directly at Homura. If I dodge left or right, it'll still do damage to me. The impact once that hits the ground. Damn it, I have no choice. Homura tensed her body and allowed red flames to burn at her blades. Raising all 6 of them towards Yomi's ridiculous sword, she pushed everything she had into her defense. Hikage-san, who do you think will come out of this as the winner? Haruka watched from the sidelines in her transformed state as well. Hikage was seated on the floor next to her, dead stare on the 2 girls. I don't know. Yomi's strength is no joke. Homura is skilled though. Hikage mumbled, yellow eyes focused despite her bored tone. Homura-san certainly doesn't use that brain of hers often, but when it comes to fighting she's a major threat. Haruka commented at Homura's rather one-sided thinking at times. She's observed her for months. Homura tended to be what Haruka called a mindless thinker. The girl got flustered easily when the situation didn't call for fighting. Homura should take this one. Suzune commented coolly from the side. Pushing her glasses up, her red eyes watched Homura's arms shake under the pressure of Yomi's sword. Watch, she commanded the girls. The pressure from the blade crashing against her defenses caused Homura's clothing some damage. Her top exposed some of her breasts that were wrapped in white cloth. Homura's taste for undergarments was strange to some of the onlookers. The ripped clothing didn't deter her. Her modesty was a non-issue right now. With a shout, she pushed up and with a loud clang, she forced Yomi's Ragnarok blade upwards. The blonde girl widened her eyes at the display of power before Homura disappeared in a burst of speed. Crouched in a low stance behind Yomi, Homura adjusted her blades and screamed out, Hayabusa. Her katanas ignited with her fiery energy as she created a barrage of slashes towards the stunned Yomi. The girl didn't have time to defend with her sword as the uppercut of katanas sent her into the air with a cry of pain. Homura smirked and jumped before slamming her energy-infused blades down onto Yomi. The blonde went flying down to the ground with a slam. Her large sword knocked out of her grip. Homura loosened up to observe the cloud of dirt that formed from the girl's impact. Only a second later, her eyes widened when a few of the darts from Yomi's wrist cannon flew directly at her. Using her blades to smack away any of the dangerous shots, she took another stance and waited for Yomi. The blonde girl stood up slowly, hand reaching out towards the fallen blade to use as a crutch. Her dress's top was torn. Her pure white bra exposed to the entire clearing, and that was barely hanging on. One of Homura's sword strikes managed to hit one of the bra's straps, resulting in the fabric working overtime to support Yomi's pronounced bust. The normally cheerful girl was glaring at Homura. Raising her arm with the attached cannon she lowly whispered, Niflheim. As an uncountable amount of darts flew towards Homura. The tanned girl was instantly on the defensive again, making sure none of these shots hit her face. Her clothes weren't safe from the onslaught, of course. Rips and tears overtook her transformed state as Yomi continued firing shot after shot. Growling in annoyance, Homura blitzed the kneeling girl who looked surprised at the frontal assault. Readying another weapon from her satchel attached to the bottom of the dress, Yomi didn't get a chance as 6 katanas became dangerously close to her neck. Reacting quickly, Her previous discarded blade was used to direct those hits away from a potentially fatal wound. Homura certainly didn't play around. Swinging her Ragnarok in wide arches at the katana user, Yomi briefly felt frustration at how she began to dance in between her swings. Her large sword was becoming a detriment rather than helping in this situation. A devious idea came to Yomi's mind when Homura stepped back slightly to begin her own offensive onslaught. Two hands firmly holding the handle of her weapon, Yomi heaved it with all her might at the girl who looked surprised at such an action. The sword flew through the air, and if that connected, it had a chance of taking Homura's head off. That was a big if though. Homura crouched low and dove at the girl who still had her arms extended from the throw. Throwing her body at the girl, she forced them both down to the dirt ground. Three of her katanas sought to hold down the wrist cannon while the others went to Yomi's neck to coax out a surrender. Two sets of green eyes glared into each other before they heard clapping. Both of them turned their attention away from the fight to see a cheekily smiling Naruto. Homura already knew his next words would piss her off. Oi, Homura, wipe that glare off your face. It won't work when you got your chest out like that. It succeeded. She released her hold on Yomi and was about to get up to approach the whiskered boy. That's when she felt something press into her lower back, right above her skirt. I win. Homura-san. Yomi's steely voice whispered into her ear. Homura felt her blood boil as she glared at Naruto. Suzune sighed deeply on the sidelines. Here they go again. If it wasn't for you showing up, I would have won this. I had her pinned. Homura yelled at him, green eyes brimming with anger. If you get distracted by a couple of claps and words, that's your fault, Homura-chan. You're a big bad shinobi, right? Don't let me distract you. Naruto gave her a bright grin, her glare not affecting him. Why you? She felt the wrist cannon dig into her lower back some more. Do you yield, Homura-san? Yomi asked her calmly now. Resisting the fury building deep within her, she gave a stiff nod and felt the pressure in her back disappear. I wasn't playing, Homura-san. I don't have time for that. Not when I have my own set of goals. Yomi spoke out loud. Homura saw Naruto frown at the girl's words. It's over. Yomi wins. Suzune-sensei approached the group of three with Hikage and Haruka following quickly. Naruto, I have to ask that you don't interfere next time. Distractions or not, this isn't an on-the-field situation, it was a spar. She scrutinized the blonde teen. Spar. Right. That's why Yomi-chan's clothes are almost gone and Homura-chan here is showing everyone that she's really tan. His comment earned him various reactions. Naruto-kun. My clothes. Naruto-san, don't look. You bastard. Suzune considered taking up drinking as a vice when Naruto was around. Was that not professional? Rin wasn't sure if she cared. Regardless of the results, it was still a spar. Do not interfere without my instruction. She gave him a mild glare, seeing him roll his eyes. Two bright lights signaled the shinobi tension of the two girls disappearing. Yomi let out a string of incoherent words as she straightened her long skirt. Homura merely crossed her arms and turned to Naruto with a twitching eyebrow. Where were you, huh? A spark appeared in Homura's eye. Were you sneaking off with that graduate again? Ha, Hikage, I wouldn't trust him. Naruto deadpanned at her. Homura, that girl tried to abduct me multiple times, I would not sneak off with her. Naruto didn't even address the other part of her statement. I was with Dogen and Reo, not like it's your business anyway. He smiled a bit at her annoyed expression. Homura was too easy to mess with. Oh, what did they want, Naruto-kun? He turned to the curious duo of Haruka and Hikage. Suzune gave him a look that strictly told him not to answer that question. He wouldn't. For now. It's confidential. You'll find out eventually. Sorry, girls. He shot them both a smile that they both knew was mischievous. Yup. He's gonna tell us. Not very subtle, Naruto-kun. The thoughts were relatively similar among the two. Naruto-san. Is my clothing appropriate now? I'm sorry you had to see me in such a state. Yomi was madly searching her outfit for any wrinkles or pieces of lint. Her issue with modesty was non-existent in spars or missions, but when around Naruto it was a different story. Yomi-chan, your clothing is always appropriate. He left out the fact that her cleavage is ridiculous when she transforms. Unlike the other, Naruto felt the narrowed eyes from his girlfriend and Haruka. Unlike Homura, the tan teen sputtered in denial of his words. Naruto, come with me for a second. Suzune called out to him, hardly to talk but at the same time wanting to prevent Homura's upcoming argument. Walking away with Suzune, Naruto shot Hikage a wink, earning him a dry look. He held back a chuckle at Hikage's attitude. His teacher led them to a set of benches at the other side of the clearing. Taking a seat, Naruto waited for the standing woman to speak up. So. She kept her gaze on his face, eyes narrowed in thought. Scratching at the back of his head, due to the atmosphere, he decided to do what he does best. Break the ice. You're the one who wanted to talk to me, right, Suzune-sensei? If this is how all conversations for you go, I feel bad for your friends. Or boyfriends. He winced at the smack to the back of his head at the small insult. Hilarious. I wanted to slightly apologize for something, Naruto. The look on her face was akin to someone swallowing a lemon. She didn't particularly enjoy that sentence. Naruto's expression properly displayed his confusion, making the purple-haired woman shake her head and take a seat on the bench. She kept the distance between them very wide. I've been informed that you will be undertaking a mission from Ryo-sama. While I don't know the details, nor do I wish for you to reveal them, it's partially my fault for getting you wrapped up in that. She crossed her long legs and observed the clearing. Haruka was tinkering with her puppet robot creation, and Hikage was watching with little interest. Well, you did decide to tell them about Kurama and my clan after all. Naruto pointed out the truth to her. While he knew Dogen was interested in him, the news about his family and summoning certainly played a factor in this mission. Looking at her student from the corner of her eye, she coldly responded. I'm a Hebiho instructor and shinobi. My duty is to report these things to the head of the school. Dogen-sama happens to be the reason our school gets such an influx of missions. The school comes first. Naruto looked annoyed at her words. That's a poor way of apologizing, Suzune-sensei. Her words were true, but Naruto thought his teacher would be able to at least keep a few secrets within the group. Patting his knees slightly, he stood from the brief sitting and prepared to walk away. Don't expect me to tell you everything in the future, Suzune. It's like you said, right? The school comes first, not you. Naruto began walking away from the seated woman. She groaned lowly. That could have gone better. Biting her bottom lip slightly, she didn't know what to do here. She was an evil shinobi, yet at the same time, these students were hers. Whether or not their skills were developed fully under her didn't matter, she was their leader for the time being. Someone they could depend on in a world where evil shinobi stab each other in the back for little to no reason. Korea, what would you do? Summon me. Naruto appeared in his mindscape the instant he heard Kurama's words. Crossing his arms and tapping his foot impatiently, he stared at the prone fox. And let you make a mess like last time. I summon you one time. Once. And you cause a bigger mess to our shinobi room than ever before. Yomi-chan spent hours cleaning up. He berated the mass of chakra before him. You got a lot of nerve, brat. It's not my fault these claws are sharp, and that couch is subpar. The Biju growled out. Just do it. I want to take in some fresh air. Naruto still looked skeptical at the fox. Kurama, do not leave the campus. I don't think they'll like a huge fox walking around town. He warned Kurama and received a harsh glare as a reward. I am not a child, Naruto. Do not treat me as such. If anyone needs to be treated as a child, it's you. Yeah, you wanna be summoned or not. Insulting me doesn't help, ya know. Yes, shitty brat. Watch what happens when you get out there. Do not let that bean sprout girl go off on a tangent. So help me, Naruto. Kurama's answer was given in the form of a strange pull on the seal, and a small amount of smoke appeared from Naruto's scroll. Looking down at the once proud body of the Biju, Naruto gave a smirk. He knew this would work. Pumping out tails worth of chakra into that scroll would yield a larger summoning. Using the bare minimum. You will pay for this. Mark my words. You will pay. Kurama was now tiny in size, almost equivalent to a small dog. The Biju opened its jaw of sharp teeth to bite at Naruto's ankles. Ah, Kurama, what the hell? He yanked his leg away from the area Kurama appeared. You want to make me look like a dog, I'll act like a dog. Fox bastard. Clueless idiot. Stupid. Oh, is that Kurama-kun? Yomi's loud voice cut off their petty insults. Kurama's red eyes looked panicked at the words. So cute. Look how tiny you are. The blonde girl skipped over to Naruto quickly and reached to grab the frozen fox. Pushing Kurama into her covered chest, Naruto started laughing madly. Naruto, help me. The voice was muffled by the breasts of a female. This was not a situation Kurama had experience in. Nope. You bit my ankle. Enjoy this. Such soft fur. Kurama-kun is so amazing. Yomi's gushing voice brought the other girls' attention to the small gathering. Hikage was the first to reach them. Throwing herself on Naruto's back, he instinctively hooked his arms around her legs. They've been doing that for years, so he's come to expect that action. Haruka walked over with her large lab coat swaying alongside her hips. She fought a frown away from her face at Hikage's actions before turning her attention to the resident summon. Homura scoffed at the group before heading off to train more. She didn't have time for this. Despite how cute the fox looked. Yomi-chan, you're going to kill Kurama-kun at this rate. Haruka looked at the scene with an amused smile. The fox was practically disappearing into the pillow known as Yomi. Oh no. Sorry, Kurama-kun. Quickly Yomi placed Kurama down and patted the small fox on the head. The great Kurama, being patted on the head like a pet. Naruto grinned at the expression on the face of his partner. Wait, Naruto-san, can you please help me with cultivating my bean sprouts today? Your clones are very useful. Yomi's pleaded with him. He couldn't look away from that begging stare, so he gave a slow nod, feeling Hikage's legs grip him tighter. Jealous over bean sprouts. Hikage-chan. Naruto caught Kurama's eyes. The fox probably noticed the spike of emotion from Hikage. Alright Yomi-chan, we can go get it done. Hubby-chan, you wanna come with? Hikage was about to agree despite not caring about the activity involving plants before Kurama spoke up. Snake girl, come with me on a walk. Everyone looked a bit confused at the command. Naruto instantly was weary, but the serious look shot his way from the tailed beast shut him up. Okay, I guess. Lead the way, Kurama. Hikage reluctantly removed herself from Naruto's back and stared at the small fox. I'll join you both with the bean sprouts. I wouldn't be opposed to a nice ride right now, Naruto-kun. Haruka's tone was clearly sexual, and they all picked up on it. Besides one person. Oh, Naruto-san, Hikage-san always enjoys your piggyback rides. Do you think I can get one today? I'm sorry if this is sudden. Yomi bowed lowly and Naruto sighed tiredly at her words. Looking to Hikage for confirmation, the yellow-eyed girl shrugged. It was better to allow Yomi to do that than Haruka in her opinion. Dropping to one knee, he presented his back to the oddly red-faced Yomi. She tentatively approached the whiskered shinobi and placed herself on his back. Haruka pouted next to them. I call dibs next time, Naruto-kun. Her words were worded jokingly, but Naruto knew she meant it. Ahaha, alright, let's go take care of some bean sprouts. Yay. Yay. The excitement was palpable. Kurama and Hikage watched them walk into the distance before the fox approached the green-haired girl. Let's go. Follow after me. The Biju didn't wait for a response and Hikage had nothing better to do now. Walking in pure silence for 5 minutes, Kurama felt like a dam would burst at any second. Hikage may sound emotionless often, but the fox knew what she wanted. I'll answer whatever questions you have, girl. Yellow eyes widened slightly at those words. How did? With an ability of mine, I can sense certain emotions. Your silly claims of having none is comedic at times. You're practically bursting with anxiety right now. Hikage felt her face become a bit warmer due to Kurama's assessment. She watched 9 rather soft-looking tails wave in the air as they walked. Finally mustering up the nerve to speak, she needed to address something that's been bothering her for years. Ever since Naruto found out about Kurama. Please, don't take him away. Kurama stopped moving as she whispered that sentence. The calm setting on the outskirts of the campus was only ruined by such a statement. With narrowed red eyes, Kurama wondered what she meant by that. Take him away. 2 pairs of special eyes stared into each other. Naruto isn't from here. I know that. You're the only way that he can potentially go home. Hikage's previous monotone became slightly filled with desperation. I always said to myself that I want what's best for him. She gazed down to the dirt path. Previous unrecognizable emotions were brewing in her eyes. Kurama sat still as the Biju listened patiently. Can I be honest, Kurama? The Biju made a motion with its tails, signaling agreement. Sometimes. I wish you weren't with him and he would be stuck here. I love him more than anything and I know that's awful to think. Kurama didn't know how to take that but continued to listen nonetheless. Whenever I think about him and his memories are home, I feel weird. Hikage's face held a painful expression and if Naruto were there, he'd try to remove it immediately. Naruto and I are attached. It's been this way since his birth, whether I or you wanted it. However, you have to understand that he had people who depended on him, a home he saved and a world he helped unite. Do you think I want him to truly remember everything and spiral into depression? Right now, whenever I tell him about places or people, he almost treats it like a story. A story he's learning from. Naruto cannot fully grasp that it's his life at times. I don't blame him. Some of the events sound bizarre, but as long as I exist, his memories are safe. Kurama's words hit Hikage deep. She knew bits and pieces of Naruto's previous life, but truthfully she didn't dig too deep. He was in her life now and along with Hinata, they had years of memories together. She was selfish. He was a hero. It didn't shock her at all. Her Naruto certainly was a ray of sunshine for a lot of people it seemed. Hikage hated to admit it, but she noticed the changes in Haruka and even Yomi. Hell, even Homura was becoming affected by his presence. Indeed, a war hero and a savior of his own home. Naruto was an important figure. How do you think someone would react to losing a life like that? Hikage. If my chakra synchronizes with his own perfectly. The Biju's visage displayed a hint of sadness, knowing how that could affect Naruto. He'd be able to see everything clearly. I don't know how he'd react. Especially with the circumstances that brought him here. Hikage felt something stirring inside of her chest. It was similar to the feeling invoked by seeing Hinata on the ground slowly dying. Can you return to your home? And what circumstances brought him here? She needed to know. Hikage never wanted to pry too much, but her own fears were bleeding through her emotionless personality. Kurama breathed in deeply at her questions. The only plausible way I can see us returning home is through the help of his Uchiha friend. Unfortunately, both Naruto and I do not possess techniques to travel dimensions. For all his strength, ninjutsu like that was always out of his grasp. Once upon a time, he was able to be reverse summoned similar to how I come from that damn scroll. That contract has been null and void after his tumble through worlds or dimensions or time, whatever. We still can't be sure what truly happened. That whole explanation confused Hikage. She wasn't stupid, though she couldn't comprehend people being able to travel dimensions freely. The thought of Naruto not being able to return. She felt ashamed. Yes, ashamed. Because she felt good about that. As for the circumstances, I haven't even told him everything, Hikage. I doubt you'd personally enjoy the reason. Kurama gave a mirthless chuckle while speaking. Kurama, please tell me, at least some of it. Hikage was really desperate now. Who did it to him? You're getting the short version. I warned you, you won't like the events leading up to it. He was fighting a man on the moon. Yes, this is real, don't look at me like that. The way he got to the moon was caused by the one he was fighting. All I can remember was a bright explosion of chakra, and the next thing I know, I woke up to him using my own as a brat again. Kurama paused to let Hikage digest that information. The fox knew how such a story sounded. The moon. A man on the moon. She looked at the Biju with a flat expression. Kurama knew that was her standard face though. Yes, Snake Girl. His name was Tonari. There's too many details I'm leaving out for the sake of you not understanding chakra. Honestly, Kurama wasn't crazy about explaining chakra to other people. Naruto could do that if he wants, it wasn't the Biju's priority. Tonari. Hikage's eyes were wide, remembering her list of names. All those people he'd mumble about while having nightmares. He would mention that name when having nightmares. He'd also say Hinata. Kurama. Did he mean Ka-san? For the first time throughout their whole discussion, Kurama looked uncomfortable. I know how you are, Hikage. I've seen all of his memories. You're a possessive and jealous girl despite the love you both share. Though I won't lie to you. You mean too much to my partner for me to do that. Hikage closed her eyes at Kurama's assessment. Hinata. She loved him. Whether or not it was to the same extent as you, I cannot say. I'm a construct of chakra. Gauging love is not my forte. The truth got dropped onto Hikage and she felt even worse now. Hinata. A girl loved him. Were they together? She held her breath as Kurama's stare pierced her. Not exactly. Naruto didn't have help from someone like your Ka-san previously. He had no parents around and no one to explain what true love was. The Hyuga girl idolized the ground he walked on. He was going to pursue a relationship with her after they got out of that whole mess. Did he love her the same way? Again, I can't say. Ninetales laid flat on the ground alongside Kurama. The Biju knew Hikage was going to have to process that for a bit. Hikage felt something on her face. The wet sensation was one she was only faintly familiar with. Crying. She was crying. Kurama's ears dropped slightly at the emotions that were coming from the girl. Hikage silently cried. Her face didn't betray that sadness though. Kurama found it odd how a human could cry and still stare blankly ahead, seemingly lost in thought. Mentally cursing for getting into this situation, Kurama moved closer to the girl. Hikage was seated on the ground, still as a statue. Jumping into her lap, Kurama waved Ninetales around to bring her attention back. I'm not good at this. Kurama only comforted Naruto before, but they had a special connection. Hikage wasn't its partner, so this situation needed to be treated differently. Hikage, I want you to understand something. That boy has never been happier. He's experienced so much in his life, but that kid's never been with someone like you before. Naruto's never even had a girlfriend before. I told you he was going to pursue a relationship, there's no guarantee it would work out like yours. For all your unique characteristics, your feelings for my partner are real. Hikage laid her hands on the tails that moved gently with the light breeze. I didn't even tell him everything about Hinata. I'm ready for his anger should his memories return fully after our inevitable synchronization. He's in no rush to reclaim them though. You and those other girls are his priority. I won't have him wallowing in despair for something we can't change. Wiping at her face lightly to dry tears, Hikage let her lips pull upwards at Kurama. Thank you, Kurama. I'm sorry for what I said about you. I'm glad you're always there for my Naruto. She rubbed the top of the tailed beast's head. Faye, don't thank me, brat. I should be thanking you. You and that crude woman he calls Ka-chan helped connect us again. He may not be the exact same, but he is my Naruto. Kurama's eyes widened when the gravity of those words hit the Biju's ears. Wait, I don't mean. Hikage fully smiled at Kurama's words. You're Naruto, huh? Am I going to have to fight you too, Kurama? Hikage actually teased the fox for once. Kurama frowned suddenly. You're still fighting with that blonde Haruka, right? All traces of a smile were gone from Hikage. Yes. Doll girl doesn't make her advancements subtle, Kurama. Hikage would rather not be talking about her right now. Her feelings are genuine, Hikage. For Naruto, I mean. Kurama noticed the twitch of Hikage's hand and felt the jealousy coming off her body in waves. Stop that. You're with him, aren't you? He'll never betray you, idiot. He wouldn't even hold her hand in fear of betraying you. I had to explain that touching a friend doesn't equal cheating, as you humans call it. Silence overtook both the fox and Hebiho shinobi. And what? Do you expect me to let Haruka have him? Hikage hissed out. Kurama's tail whacked her on the head lightly. Enough. I'm not saying that at all. I just wanted to let you know she loves that brat probably just as much as you. So what? Exactly. I'm informing you. I'm not making you do anything. Naruto is your boyfriend. You got him first and that should be the end of it, but it's only a matter of time before she confesses to him. Hikage tried to speak aloud. Close your mouth. I'm not done speaking. I'm not here to say give up your boyfriend. Naruto is a very emotional person and his personality connects people from all ranges of life to him. Haruka surely won't be the only girl that enjoys his presence. I can't say. Hikage, give Naruto up. I know of your possessiveness. Ha, the Hyuga girl would be trembling in her sandals at the thought. The green-haired girl had no response for that comment. Do you mean I should share him with others, Kurama? Do you realize what you're saying? Hikage did not particularly like the sound of that. Even if he's my partner, I have no say in this matter nor does it affect me personally. It is your decision at the end of the day. Naruto would never cheat and be with anyone while with you. Just like I know you wouldn't be with a different boy. Kurama looked Hikage in the eye once more. The doll girl poured her heart out to him a few months back. She told him everything about her life. I'm not saying this to guilt you into sharing him, but I know he didn't tell you the details. He's close with that girl as well. I'd rather not see you and Haruka killing each other over him. While you may already have him, Naruto doesn't enjoy having the people he cares about fighting. He considers you all one big family, that's why he's trying to break that tan girl out of her shell. It's not working, mostly cause Naruto's a fool at times, but the attempt's there. He's been mine forever, Kurama. Talk to that girl then. You're a team, I don't need Naruto crying should anything happen on missions where you both can't get along. Jealousy aside, you're not children anymore, don't act like it. Being harsh but true was Kurama's best way of speaking. I'll talk to Haruka soon. Though I want to talk with Naru tonight. Whatever. As long as you don't start having sex with my connection open. Hikage's face lit up in a small blush. Ah. You all give me a headache. You really made me go from one of the most feared beasts of the elemental nations to some wimp who gives relationship advice. Matabi would have a field day. Damn cat. Hikage hugged the tiny Kurama to her chest and let another smile grace her face. Kurama wasn't that bad. Tell me some stories about Naru. Embarrassing ones. Kurama's dark grin could be seen for miles. Who knew taking care of bean sprouts would take so long? Naruto complained as he stretched. His companion flashed him an amused smile. It's not only taking care of them with Yomi-chan, it's a history lesson every time. Haruka commented as she stood close to Naruto. They were currently walking the halls of Hebiho to reach the same clearing from before. Naruto hoped Kurama didn't mess with Hikage too much. Yeah, it's endearing though, ya know. Yomi-chan is only positive when talking about them, she doesn't hide anything. Naruto's comment elicited a raised eyebrow from Haruka. What do you mean by that, Naruto-kun? Yomi-chan is usually happy all the time. The girl had her fits of embarrassment or moments of seriousness in spars, but to imply she was hiding something. Haruka didn't understand that one. I can't explain it well, but Yomi-chan gets this look in her eyes at times. Today when she made Homura admit to losing, her eyes didn't look anything like the innocent bean sprout girl. He explained with a pensive expression. We are evil shinobi, Naruto-kun. Haruka commented with a shrug, not seeing the issue. What is an evil shinobi, Haruka? Are we really that evil? The question was out of left field and Haruka blinked in confusion. Sorry, you don't have to answer. It's just something I think about sometimes. He raised a single finger to scratch at his whiskered cheek. No, it's alright. I understand your question. I don't have a great answer, but I feel like we are simply shinobi. Although, the evil connotation came from those before us. Who knows, Naruto-kun? Maybe you'll be the one to give us evil shinobi a better name. She winked at him and he chuckled. Funny. My goal isn't that widespread, Haruka-chan. Naruto told her with a grin. You say that for now. Though, I appreciate your desire to make sure all of us are safe. How cute, Naruto-kun. She smiled genuinely with a small blush. Naruto shook his head with another laugh. You all are a pain in the ass at times, I guess that's why you're my teammates. I know Hebiho and other shinobi don't care about their groups, well I do. I'm not even sure if most would risk their lives for others. But I would. After seeing how Miyabi-chan got put out of commission for years in a coma, I can't let that happen to you girls. Naruto's blue eyes were determined, seeing Miyabi's injuries really affected him. Not for himself, rather for the girls he's surrounded by. Haruka looped her arms around his with a devilish grin. You're too sweet, Naruto-kun. That's what I like about you. She coughed lightly, seeing his confused eyes. I doubt Hikage-san would put her life on the line for me though. She changed topics away from her potential confession. Haruka reminded herself that it wasn't the time. Haruka-chan, you and hubby-chan really need to get along. I know you have a rivalry, but you two should depend on each other. He chided her gently. Haruka continued to pull him by the arm to the clearing they trained in. Evil shinobi, remember Naruto-kun. Her offhand comment made Naruto plant his feet firmly in the ground. She was stopped by his unmovable form. Haruka. His voice changed from the playful one she was familiar with. Remember what we talked about. Being better. You aren't evil, Haruka-chan. Don't address yourself that way. I meant our title, Naruto-kun. We are evil Shin. Fuck that title. His eyes glinted with underlying anger. Just because that's what Hebiho and a bunch of corrupted assholes or shady businessmen address us as doesn't mean we have to be truly evil. I'm not the best at history, but all shinobi are killers by nature, right? Haruka-chan, our reasons do not matter in the end as long as know who we are inside. He pointed a finger at her heart. This is what's important, so while that may be our profession, we are human inside. Don't make me repeat myself from that night, Haruka-chan. Haruka's body shuddered at his tone. Naruto-kun. He's so serious. She grabbed the hand that was pointing at her chest with a tight grip. Naruto snapped out of his speech to quizzically watch her. As long as you don't forget that either, Naruto-kun, then I'll follow that ideology always. She noted how big his hand was compared to her own. And, doll girl, release Naruto's hand. Thanks. The flat voice of Hikage cut Haruka's words off. The blonde girl felt her eye twitch as she turned to the one who interrupted her moment. Kurama was following by the girl's feet, red eyes locked onto Naruto. Of course, hubby-chan. Releasing his hand ever so slightly, she waited for Hikage to have a comeback. Hikage didn't take the bait. The green-haired girl walked up to Naruto and presented Kurama to him. Haruka was confused. Where was the usual back and forth? Did Kurama behave, hubby-chan? Naruto narrowed his eyes at the sneaky fox. I told you already, Naruto, I'm not a child. Keep that up and I'll have a nice biju bomb ready for you next time you summon me. Kurama behaved like a good fox. Hikage, why? Naruto grinned widely at the interaction. Happy that his partner was getting along with his partner. Can I cancel the summoning now, Kurama? Kurama grunted and turned away, so Naruto took that as a yes. Withdrawing a half-open scroll, he closed it with a snap and the biju disappeared in a small plume of smoke. Even the smoke cloud is smaller for Kurama now. Naruto snickered at his observation, ignoring the growl that suddenly rang throughout his head. Hikage was quick to grab his hand and interlock her fingers with his. Her grip was usually fierce, but this was a bit extra. Naruto felt like she was holding onto him for dear life. Naru, can we go to our room? Please. He wasn't able to say no to those half-lidded yellow eyes. Shooting Haruka a weak smile, she gave a lopsided one of her own back and turned to leave. I have to go do some experiments and such anyway. I'll see you later, Naruto-kun. Hikage-san. Haruka's words were said hastily. She picked up her pace to leave the hall they were residing in. Naruto watched her retreating form with a sad look. You two really have to get along, hubby-chan. Hikage pressed her face into his chest and inhaled his scent deeply. Naruto stroked her back slowly. Kurama, I swear if you did anything to make her upset. HMPH. Just talk to her. I'll talk with her soon. Naruto blinked at that answer. He didn't expect it, but he wouldn't complain. That's great, Hikage-chan. You two would be great friends. He smiled down at her. She merely ducked her head back into his chest. Room please. Naru. I gotcha, hubby-chan. He separated from her to get down on a knee and offer his back to her again. Yomi-chan took your ride before, so I gotta make it up to you. Hikage didn't take long to get on his back. He felt her large breasts push into his back as she moved to get close to his ear. You will make it up. Right now, Hikage whispered, causing him to shiver. Oh no. Sliding their room door shut, Naruto felt Hikage unwrap her legs from his waist. Slithering off his back like a snake, Hikage moved to the bed and sat with a blank expression. Hubby-chan, you're very quiet. Quieter than usual. What did Kurama tell you? Don't tell me. It's not true. I did not kiss a boy twice. Hikage gave him a 1,000-yard stare. She opened and closed her mouth multiple times to form a response. What? Forget it. What did you want to talk about? He moved over to sit on the bed next to her. Kurama told me more about your past. Hikage bluntly told him. Naruto knew how much that bothered her, so he was already regretting letting Kurama out. I asked for it. I'm glad I learned some more, but at the same time. Her long tongue darted out to lick her lips. Naruto, if you could find a way home or back to your world, would you take it? Assuming Kurama helps you regain your memory. She patiently waited for his response with bated breath. Falling back onto their soft mattress with a sigh, Naruto stared at the plain ceiling. Hikage-chan, I know I had a life before this and Kurama told me how important my position was, but that's all in the past. I can never abandon you here. I'm sure once I remember everything it'll stop feeling like secondhand experience. I never want to leave though. I may not have been born here, but I belong here. The time I spent with you and Ka-chan could never be replaced by memories that I lost. Trust me on that. I love you so much. He covered his eyes with an arm as he continued. I don't want to ramble on too much, but this is my life now. This school, our team of elites with Kurama helping, that's my life. I can't say it's too bad. Not when I get to see all these cute girls daily. He laughed loudly at the hard hit to his chest. Naru, I love you too. Promise me that no matter what happens or changes, we will always be together. Hikage's eyes were practically glowing as she stared at him. I told you all this before. It's the promise of a lifetime. You're stuck with me, hubby-chan. Until you get bored of me at least. He teasingly replied. Hikage didn't reply with words, her climbing on top of him was more than enough. Never. I'll never get bored. Don't ever say such a stupid thing. Naruto didn't know if her position of her ass pressed against him was either noticed or ignored, but it didn't matter. You'll always have my heart, Naruto. That's my promise of a lifetime. Her smile. That was all it took for Naruto to lean up and initiate a kiss. Lemon time. Their kiss turned steamy fast. It didn't take long for Kurama to cut the connection as the Biju had a weird sense of foreboding. Hikage wasted no time in licking at Naruto's lower lip to state her desire. Naruto obliged easily enough and opened his mouth slightly for his own tongue to sneak out. Feeling Hikage's right hand gripping his spiky hair, Naruto did his best to fight back into the kiss. Every time they made out, he struggled for the simple fact that her tongue was way different than normal. Hikage's tongue basically coiled around his own, pulling it gently while they swapped saliva greedily. Her left hand raked down his uniform-covered chest, trying to rub at the toned muscles underneath. Naruto didn't let his hands be idle, though for once he attacked a different area. Hikage's breasts were an obvious weak point for her. The size of her breasts and sensitivity of her hardened nipples made her putty in his hands often. But changing it up on her yielded better results. Palming her backside and groping it roughly, Hikage began unconsciously grinding into the erection, straining his thin dress pants. Keeping the almost one-sided kiss going, Naruto explored with his hands some more. This time he reached for the front of her body, revealing the high-rise orange-colored thong she wore beneath her skirt. He slowly ran his fingers along the fabric covering her maidenhood. Hikage locked up at his touch, not expecting him to go there. In the 2 years they've been doing this, they both haven't explored much there surprisingly. They never took that step. They've seen each other naked more times than they could count, but their groping usually was interrupted or stopped prematurely. Tracing the outline of her panty-covered mound, Naruto heard Hikage hiss into their kiss. Her tongue wasn't quite as fierce anymore, the pleasure from his action stopped her cold. She removed her grip on his hair to support her other hand in frantically unbuttoning his shirt. Naruto reluctantly stopped his light fingering below her skirt to start on removing her rather torn uniform. Naruto's black dress shirt was removed the second he sat up a bit more. Hikage spared no time in ripping it off and discarding it like trash. She ran her yellow eyes over his well-toned chest, molded from years of sparring and training from a young age. Her snake locket hung proudly in the middle of his chest. Naruto didn't want Hikage to feel left out as he lifted her top quickly. Hikage was more than happy to assist to reveal her soft pillow-like chest to his hungry eyes. It seems she neglected a bra today. Her soft pink nipples were already stiff due to his actions and the racy kiss. She mashed her lips against his own again, her nipples rubbing against his chiseled chest, which succeeded in making her body heat up more. Their relatively small bedroom felt much tinier in the heat of the moment. The kiss didn't last long, as Hikage leaned back and a trail of saliva connected them. Panting very slightly, Hikage got up, much to Naruto's very quick disappointment. That disappointment only turned into more hunger as she stepped off the bed to step out of her short skirt. Gripping the waist of the fabric, she lowered it slowly, biting her lip with almost enough force to draw blood when she noticed his keen expression. Standing there with only a small, tight orange thong to cover her modesty, Hikage didn't care anymore. I love him so much. I feel so hot right now. What is happening? She felt her own breathing getting heavier at her line of thinking. Naruto's eyes studied her form intensely, and despite seeing everything before, there was something so erotic about the look on her face. Hikage was emotionless normally, only giving smiles and frowns for certain situations. Yet, as Naruto stared at the girl whose chest was rising and falling alongside her quickened breathing, he knew there was no going back. Take them off, Naru. Then I'll do the same. Hikage loosely grabbed the thin strings of her thong. That deal was one only a fool would deny, and Naruto Uzumaki was no fool. Sometimes. Regardless, he wasted no time in reaching his own waistband and beginning to strip himself. The dress pants were kicked away to join the pile of clothing and shoes on the floor. Hikage's eyes left his face only to stare at the obvious hint of arousal hidden behind Naruto's black boxers. I've always seen it. Why does this feel so different? What's happening to me? She remembered her first time seeing his erection promoted some embarrassment from her despite her possessive nature towards him. Now though all she felt was a sense of longing. You go first, hubby-chan. The way his voice was rougher, due to the lust and love both were feeling, made Hikage's body tingle in excitement. She didn't argue or try to flip the tables on him, she merely hooked the straps of her thong and lowered it to join the skirt. Her most sacred place was revealed to him, but this time it wasn't only because of a shower. Her so-called maidenhood was completely devoid of any hair, showing that she maintains herself despite them never moving this far. The lips of her glistening vagina were a pretty pink color that complemented her nipples nicely. It contrasted with the dark snake tattoos that covered her body. Naruto had to resist diving at her again to kiss her senseless. Reaching to his boxers to free his own arousal, Hikage grabbed his hand tightly. There's no going back, Naruto. This is it. I want this. She struggled to get the words out, probably due to her heavy breathing. If this is what you want, Hikage-chan, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. He gave her a dirty smirk that reminded her of Haruka's lewd gazes. That thought didn't kill her arousal, if anything it amplified it due to the unexpectedness of his action. She pulled his boxers down quickly and let his erection free, allowing it to spring out and stand proudly. I've seen it before. She could barely think to herself as she observed the certainly large-looking appendage. Hikage had nothing to compare his size to, it wasn't monstrously huge or grotesque. No, to her it was perfect. Years she spent loving and obsessing over Naruto, and to finally see such a private part of him right before they went all the way, she couldn't keep her eyes off of it. Tracing every vein, every twitch of the hairless shaft before her eyes, she snapped her attention back to his face. He looked just as hot and bothered as her, and she lost patience. Jumping back onto the bed, she straddled his naked body again, pressing her ass against Naruto's shaft as she began to slowly grind into him. Her movement wasn't practiced or experienced, it was pure instinct driven by desire for the boy she loved. Naruto. Her word came out in barely a whisper. Her usual emotionless or monotone voice broke into one that Naruto knew was driven by her current state. I told you. You owe me a ride. The way her yellow eyes shifted to his blues and her tone drove him crazy, but the way she began sliding her body down closer to his erection was driving him insane. I know. Protection. But I know we will be okay now. Her words and mind were still obviously affected by the preceding events. Just pull out. All right. Okay. Naruto heard her and despite the situation, knew the consequences of his actions if he didn't pull out. While it would be his first time and certainly a challenge, he wouldn't be Naruto if he didn't defeat those challenges, pound them into dirt and spit on their remains. In this case, he was going to be having unprotected sex for the first time and despite the potential danger. I don't care. The feelings he had for Hikage were in overdrive. Everything else was gone from his mind for now. He gave her a determined nod that she barely recognized as she swung a leg over each side of his hips, showing her desire to be on top as she lost her virginity. Naruto didn't mind in the least. Her large breasts swung with her movements, making his already throbbing shaft feel much harder. Crouched over him slightly, Hikage looked him deeply in the eye and whispered a very small set of 3 words. The I love you made his heart beat faster for a moment before the tightness that overwhelmed him made his teeth become gritted in pleasure. Impaling herself on the hard shaft beneath her, Hikage felt immediate effects. Pleasure, but pain. Her Ka-san mentioned losing one's virginity would bring about some pain, and with Naruto's length, it was amplified a bit. This didn't deter her. Naruto's concerned look at her focused, painful expression made her body heat up even more, but she persevered. She was owed this ride after all. Sitting with him inside of her for a minute, she knew he didn't care about the lack of movement from her. It was obvious from his expression that her clamping down on him like a vice was extremely pleasurable. That thought filled her with a sense of pride. Then she decided to move. Placing her hands on his muscled thighs to steady herself, she began to bounce at a steady rhythm. Naruto's face instantly changed to one that made her heart thump in her chest. The pleasure he was feeling was unexplainable. Every time she lowered and rose again on his shaft, the feeling would set her whole body on fire. Every nerve in her was crying out in happiness. The way his appendage hammered into her as it hit spots she never knew she had. I'm so happy. Ah, ha, ha. Hikage began moaning at the intense tight feeling in her stomach and core. Naruto heard the noises she was releasing and through his own pleasurable grunts, reached and grasped her 2 swinging breasts gently. Rolling the hardened nubs in between the fingers on both hands, he was rewarded to even more moans from his hubby-chan. Her riding grew more intense, and they started to get a little louder. The effect of her fastened movement created a notable clapping noise as her ass slammed onto him after every fast rise and fall onto his penis. Naruto started gripping her breasts tighter, pulling at her hardened nipples in tandem with her bouncing. Hikage never felt anything like this and I love this. It feels so good. So good. So good. She kept that going in her head like a mantra as more low moans escaped her lips. Her walls began to feel tighter around Naruto's shaft, something he didn't even know was possible. He couldn't take it anymore. Releasing her breasts, Hikage's hazy mind barely noticed as he propped himself up, only to reach forward and begin to push her down to the bed. Hikage didn't care about the position anymore, the pleasure and love had taken her mind over. Seeing as she wouldn't be the one riding him anymore, Naruto let loose. Placing his hands on each side of the prone Hikage, he began to pound away at her quivering form. Each thrust would elicit more and more moans from the girl and grunts from himself. Her long tongue began to sneak out of her mouth unconsciously, the feeling making her lose control. Her hands laid open on either side of her before Naruto reached over and interlocked their fingers together. Holding hands, the two lovers got lost in the moment. It wouldn't be long before Naruto felt Hikage's walls tighten up with an unrelenting grip. Naruto, I'm. He felt her body begin to tremble uncontrollably and his inserted length felt wetter than ever before. She orgasmed before him, much to his happiness that he brought the girl he loved to such a state. Her insides were hugging him snugly and despite her almost thrashing as she rode the orgasm out, he felt his own release coming. A very small part of his mind told him to keep going but the rational side won out. Pulling out with the restraint of a god, Naruto couldn't hold back as he came all over the stomach of the girl quivering underneath him. His release even managed to hit the black snake tattoo on her hip. Hikage's intense orgasm died down the minute she felt Naruto's warm seed land on her body. Taking quiet gasps for air, Hikage's half-lidded eyes sought out Naruto's. He was panting just like her, with sweat glistening on his skin from their intense session. Both were previously virgins who never experienced anything like this, and despite their stamina for fighting, their orgasms knocked the proverbial wind out of their sails. Naruto collapsed right by her side as Hikage continued to stare. Hikage-chan, I love you. That was amazing. He patted himself on the back for the pull-out game being strong. Hikage raised a shaky hand to place against his face as her yellow eyes displayed more emotion than anyone could expect from her. I can't put into words how much I love you. I never felt anything like that. Her tongue wet her dry lips as she felt the warm release Naruto left on her body. I loved it. Naruto laughed lowly at her words. Me too. Guess we'll be doing that more often, hubby-chan. His words were answered by a weak kiss from the girl. Her usual tongue dominance was even weakened by their previous orgasms. Promise of a lifetime, Hikage said in between their small kisses. Giving her his best smile despite their lack of energy, he parroted her words. Promise of a lifetime, Hikage-chan. Meanwhile, in the seal, Kurama was laying low to the ground as the Biju felt the end to the absurd amount of emotions the two brats were giving off. I've never felt that much lust since Kushina or Sage forbid these words. Mito Uzumaki. That whole clan of women were seemingly insatiable. I pray for my sanity that Naruto didn't inherit those traits. Please. Cracking a red eye open to hesitantly open the connection again, Kurama was able to see Naruto still greedily making out with that girl. Closing the connection faster than the yellow flash himself, the Biju tried to force sleep upon itself. Uzumaki are a problem no matter the gender. Damn it all. Kurama felt like a lot of naps would be taken while Naruto was busy with Hikage. Haruka waited patiently outside of Naruto and Hikage's shared home. It was almost time for their third year at Hebiho and the small summer break was coming to an end. They knew of Naruto's so-called mission assigned from the higher-ups of the school. 3 of the girls weren't pleased that he was going to be absent during the school days and Homura pretended not to care. She probably did. Naruto-kun certainly isn't good at keeping confidential secrets. Haruka thought with a smirk as she crossed her arms under her bust. The day after his mission was assigned, he told all of them about it. When Homura threatened him with spreading it around, he merely told her, "Snitches get stitches," and she sat down. It was a childish way of dealing with it, but Naruto and Homura have an odd relationship. Homura made it clear she didn't trust them all very much. In the months of them knowing her, she didn't open up much. Haruka, Hikage and surprisingly Yomi didn't push her. They figured why should they care if she doesn't tell them about herself. Naruto on the other hand, would do his best to anger her or make her flustered so she'd act more like herself. He was incredibly stubborn at times and his dedication to a seemingly pointless cause was ridiculous. That's why I love him. Haruka's smirk changed into a genuine smile before disappearing quickly. Where the hell are they? I know they are in there. Raising her hand again, she didn't get the chance to knock on the door as it opened. Bored yellow eyes eyed her up and down. It was still hard to determine what Hikage was feeling and Haruka knew her for some time. Though for almost 3 months now, Hikage has been in a better mood. That didn't mean Haruka wouldn't try to rile her up. This time, Haruka felt her own annoyance flare up. Their outfits. They were wearing the same thing. Summer was coming to an end, but the weather was still warm enough to warrant a sundress. Haruka didn't even know Hikage wore anything besides ripped-up jeans and skirts nowadays. Nice sundress. Your boobs are spilling out. I wonder why. Hikage's comments made Haruka's delicate eyebrow twitch. That's rich coming from the girl whose sundress looks to be a few sizes too small. Hubby-chan, it's unfortunate that you need to wear such clothing to garner Naruto-kun's attention. Haruka replied with a bit of her annoyance slipping through. Hikage gave her a small smile that practically screamed, I know something, and you don't. That wasn't a good sign. Quote. You look nice, Haruka. You do as well, Hikage-chan. Hikage opened the door more as a signal for Haruka to enter. Which she did somewhat happily. Where's Naruto-kun? Is he out back with Yomi-chan? Haruka began taking off her expensive high heels as Hikage watched with a dull gaze. Ah, he should be. Or he's cooking. He's making a lot of ramen and various kinds of meat. You know, if Homura comes. Haruka nodded. Homura did love meat. She'd be surprised if the girl showed up. It was a small hangout Naruto arranged at their home. While the girls weren't jumping for joy at the prospect of hanging out, they couldn't deny that their group had a certain connection due to. Yo, Haruka-chan. Good to see you. Naruto walked up to them with a huge grin. Dressed in his casual clothes of jeans and an orange short-sleeved shirt, he was genuinely excited about hanging out with what he referred to as his girls, and Kurama. The fox was currently summoned and was hitching a ride on Naruto's right shoulder. Naruto-kun. Haruka barreled right into him, ignoring Hikage's dry look. Pressing her chest close to his own, she heard Kurama growl lightly. Watch where you jump, girl, you almost hit me. The tiny Biju grumbled. Haruka raised her head from Naruto's chest to look the fox in the eye. Yomi-chan. Kurama-kun needs a hug right now. At Haruka's shout, Kurama began to shake in terror as rapid footsteps approached the hall they were in. Kurama. Oh, I knew you wanted one. Come with me for a while. I found the perfect ribbons at the mall that would go perfectly with your tails. Yomi entered the hallway wearing a conservative button-up green shirt and a long white skirt. Conservative didn't mean it did a good job of hiding her pronounced chest. And no, Naruto, don't let her do this. Kurama tried channeling as much chakra as possible to stay perched on Naruto's shoulder, yet the much younger girl somehow pulled the Biju off. She hugged the construct of chakra tightly to her chest and squealed. Come on, Kurama-kun. Wait, where are my manners? Welcome to my home, Haruka-san. Yomi bowed low with Kurama in her clutches before running off to her room. But, this is my home, Naruto whispered as Hikage rubbed his back lightly in response. Haruka giggled at the atmosphere of the room. For all the talk Suzune-sensei and other teachers gave about friendships and connections being useless for heavy shinobi, Haruka couldn't go along with that line of thinking anymore. She briefly wondered what it would be like without Naruto. Would she even be here right now? Green eyes blinked when the sound of snapping brought her attention back to the real world. Doll girl, help us with the ramen in the kitchen. At least make yourself useful. Hikage told her with her usual expression in full effect. Naruto poked Hikage in the side lightly. Oi, no insulting each other today. This is a friendship day, right? He gave them both a mock glare. They both reluctantly nodded, which made him smile happily. Turning around, he started to walk to the kitchen, satisfied with their answer. Hikage, can we talk later? Haruka asked while the snake-eyed girl whose gaze was focused on the back of Naruto's jeans. Haruka deadpanned at Hikage's stare, but she couldn't blame her. It was a nice view. Why? What do you want? Hikage whispered to her, and admittedly she should have talked to her a while ago. Things came up. People are busy. Training, school, sleeping, laundry. Hikage was purposely putting off their conversation for as long as possible. A girl talk. That's all. Are you okay with that? Hikage did not miss the subtle shift of Haruka's voice. She sounded vulnerable. Since Naruto-kun is going to be missing during the day for a couple months, I just need to talk. They both reached the kitchen to see Naruto standing over a very large pot. Fine, we can talk. Haruka. Hikage's answer made Haruka smile. Thanks, Hikage-chan, that means a lot to me. Her response made Hikage fight to resist a small smile. She seemed sincerely happy that she could talk to her. She's definitely planning something though. Hikage knew Haruka. As much as they didn't get along due to an obvious reason, they knew each other's habits. Girls, you gonna help me or? Naruto looked to them with a raised eyebrow. The sound of knocks at the door made him widen his eyes. Never mind. You two handle the ramen, I'll be right back. He shouted as he began moving out of the kitchen. Hikage and Haruka both sighed lowly. Naruto got to the front door before fixing his clothes. If this was Homura, then she'd certainly attack his wrinkled clothes verbally, and then it would devolve into a fight. That's how they were. Pulling the door open, he was rewarded to the expected sight of a somewhat embarrassed Homura, but his purple-haired teacher and a small figure hiding behind her. That was new. Naruto. I found her walking up and down the street. She was passing your house for the past 10 minutes. Suzune told him with her arms crossed. The woman was still wearing her teaching outfit. Naruto wondered if she had other clothes. I was not. Do not believe her bastard. I didn't even want to come to a stupid hangout. Homura's tanned skin flushed at his growing smirk. Stop smirking. I'll wipe it off your face. Oh yeah, you and what weapon? I see you're not carrying around that glorified cane you call a sword on your back. Naruto taunted her as he looked at her clothing. She was also wearing a pair of blue jeans and a white short-sleeved shirt with the Japanese kanji for meat. It fit her extremely well. Homura's fist started to shake in rage as she got into his face. Homura paused as her nose caught the scent coming from inside the house. Bastard, are you making ramen? She asked him seriously. Naruto smiled widely. Yup, extra pork too. I'm going in. Not for you, or for those girls. I'm just hungry. Homura began to push past him before freezing in place. Oh, Pipsqueak, introduce yourself to this fox boy. With those parting words she let her nose follow her to the kitchen. Pipsqueak. Naruto looked confused and rightfully so before Suzume sighed. Naruto. This here is Mirai. She's going to be a new student at Hebiho. Yes, she'll be joining the elite class alongside the others. Naruto titled his head to look at the girl who was attempting to hide behind Suzume's skirt. The hidden girl had long straight black hair with a few bangs covering her forehead. Her eyes were red, almost the same shade as Suzume's, though a peculiar eye patch with red tomo sat over her left eye. Naruto blinked repeatedly at her face, that looked familiar. Her outfit consisted of a short blue skirt with a pink tank top that held a yellow star design in the center. She was very flat. He didn't let his stare linger long, however, there was no denying she was cute. Though Suzume mentioned she's joining the elites. How? Shaking his head, he gave her a tentative smile and began speaking to the hiding girl. Hey, I'm Naruto, soon to be third year at Hebiho. So you're Mirai. It's nice to meet you. Suzume was momentarily surprised at how gentle he sounded. So how old are you? That's why. He thought she was young. I'm 15, but I'll be 16 in a few months. Her voice grew louder as she began speaking more. Naruto's mouth dropped in shock. She was around the same age as Homura and Yomi. Coughing to hide his shock, he heard Suzume speak. Yes, she's set to be a first-year student due to a curious way she found out about us. Mirai, Ryo-sama allowed this information to be given out correct. At the black-haired girl's nod, Suzume continued. She's an avid user of the internet and technology. She was somehow able to dig up information on Hebiho through various sources and chat rooms. Both Ryo-sama and Dogen-sama were shocked at this knowledge. What's stopping a good shinobi from utilizing this information if a civilian could access it? Mirai agreed to show us where the information stems from if we let her join our school. Naruto was impressed, majorly impressed. That's so amazing, Mirai-chan. I can barely use the laptop that Hikage-chan has. You must be so smart. His smile was bright towards the younger girl, making her look down at the ground quickly. Don't mock me. Her shout made him stop in his tracks. Suzume sighed again. You're just saying that. You're going to call me a nerd next or some other insult. I won't let you. She pointed at him with a glare from her one visible eye. Naruto raised his hands to show he meant no harm. Whoa, calm down. I mean it, you sound super smart. I'm nothing like that. He bent slightly to get closer to her, ignoring her body locking up at his action. Between me and you, when Suzume-sensei starts talking, I fall asleep. She just goes on and on, ya know. I'm right here, Naruto. Oh, sorry, Suzume-sensei. He rubbed his head with a sheepish grin. Mirai watched him closely. This is an evil shinobi. Why's he smiling so much? He seems so happy. He was happy. She figured that much out. But why? She wasn't happy. She was ignored or picked on for such a long time. How could he be so happy when people were cruel? Something grabbing her hand made her eyes widen in panic. Alright, Mirai-chan, let me introduce you to the girls and you can hang out with us today. Suzume-sensei, you coming in? He held Mirai's hand with his own. The girl had no idea what to do in this situation. Suzume already turned around at his question, showing she will not be joining them. No, don't forget Ryo-sama needs to meet with you tomorrow morning. Have one of the girls show Mirai around campus before the year starts, she already has a uniform. Suzume began to leave. Hey Suzume-sensei. Naruto's shout made her stop walking, but she didn't face him. One day I'm going to take that stick out of your ass just like Homura's. It's almost like you two are mother or daughter sometimes. His words were rude and Mirai looked on in shock. What would Suzume do? Surely an evil shinobi wouldn't take an insult like that. You are the reason I started drinking, Naruto. Her words held a bit of mirth in them. Naruto began to chuckle. Love you too, Suzume-sensei. She didn't respond, of course, rather she vanished with the wind. Mirai couldn't comprehend the scene before her. How did he get away with talking like that to a superior? How was he so happy? Mirai-chan, come on, let's go eat. He pulled on her hand and her body moved on its own. Cute eye patch by the way, love the design. Mirai was never complimented before. She'd treasure her eye patch even more now. What a disgusting eye patch. I hate the design. Kurama dragged Naruto out of the kitchen the minute the fox saw the tiny girl with her covered eye. Calm down, Kurama. It's not a Sharingan. Yep, I remember. But it's not a Sharingan, it's really just an eye patch. Naruto explained to the irate-tailed beast. It better be Naruto. Who knows if I could be controlled again? I told you, didn't I? Those awful eyes were able to control me in the past, what if they have something similar here? Despite the fact that Kurama was confident in their ability to handle opposition, the thought of being controlled again angered and worried the Biju. I doubt it. Look, nobody even knows what you really are here, Kurama. Haruka-chan told me there's a few ways to control people, but I doubt that would work on. Well, pure chakra. Naruto rubbed his neck nervously, but not for a reason one would expect. Please don't make a scene. I spent hours making the ramen like Ka-chan. Behave, Kurama. Naruto picked the fox up despite heavy protests and entered the kitchen where the table sat. Naru, everything okay? Hikage looked up from her bowl of ramen to the annoyed duo of partners. Yeah, Kurama is just being a dick ow. Kurama bit at his ear with extremely sharp teeth. Asshole, you want to start something right now? Naruto shouted loudly. Kick his ass, Kurama. I'll help. Homura yelled from her place at the end of the table. Multiple bowls of ramen were stacked around her as she messily ate. Single quote ... This is delicious. Not that I'd tell him or anything. As if she'd admit that to Naruto. Please no fighting at the table, everyone. We should all be grateful that we can even have a meal right now. Yomi spoke as she ate her food with perfect manners. For a girl who grew up on the streets, she didn't lack etiquette. Haruka-san. Is this how they always are? A bewildered Mirai sat next to the buxom Haruka who was watching Naruto intently. Humming in thought, Haruka looked to the smaller girl. Yes, this is our little group of evil shinobi. It's special, isn't it, Mirai-chan? She gave Mirai a closed-eye smile. Mirai sat in front of her untouched ramen in silence now. Why were they like this? Why were they close? It didn't make any sense. They got along too well. They were evil shinobi. Suzune-sensei told her multiple times that bonds and connections were useless, but then her own students act like this. Mirai couldn't stop herself from speaking up. Why? Her voice came out as a whisper. All the commotion in the room stopped as they heard the future first year. Why? Why are you all so happy? A simple question, but one that held a lot of weight. None of the girls answered quickly, but Naruto certainly did. Kurama already knew Naruto would go off on one of his famous tangents. Well, famous to Kurama at least. Why not? We are shinobi, but that doesn't matter here. That crap Hebiho talks about concerning emotions and bonds. It's stupid. Good shinobi. Evil shinobi. Who cares? Everyone should be happy, Mirai-chan. You're going to be a part of our group from now on, so it'll be my new goal to make you happy. Naruto showed his ability to ensnare people with his words again. Mirai couldn't understand. You don't even know me. I don't need friends. Mirai shot up from her chair as her body shook. The other girls, even Homura, watched in silence. You're right. We don't know you, Mirai-chan. It takes time, but I know you'll get used to us. He continued to smile disarmingly at the girl. I never wanted to be an evil shinobi, though this is where I ended up due to some circumstances, and you know what? I don't regret it. I made friends here, even if some don't agree with that. His eyes moved to Homura, who turned her head slightly to avoid the stare. Nobody cares about your past, Mirai-chan. Everyone's had it hard to some degree. If we are going to be together as a team, we can't be negative and hateful all the time. Mirai still didn't look convinced, and Naruto knew. See Yomi-chan over there. He pointed to the bean sprout lover, who just happened to be adding them to her ramen. She tried robbing me in this very kitchen. Homura almost choked on her meat at the information. She never knew that. Now look, I let her live here whenever and we are pretty good friends. Yomi nodded with a light blush. Yes, we are, Naruto-san. I'm still sorry about the robbery. The blonde boy waved off the apology. It was a long time ago now. Let's see. Homura-chan and I don't get along over there, and she threatens to kill me daily. But I think our friendship is growing. He dodged a thrown fork with ease, sending her a large grin. We are not friends, dickless. Homura-chan, what did I say the last time you called me that? Homura didn't plan on calling him that anymore. Now I'm curious, Naruto-kun. Haruka leaned against the table with a calculating look. How did he get Homura to calm down? No, it's alright. Sorry, Naruto. Bastard. Homura hastily called out. Do you get the point, Mirai? It doesn't matter what happened before or whatever Hebiho says. Friendship is important, though they may all not agree. We are evil shinobi, but that doesn't mean we can't have a life outside of it. Sit down and eat. Nobody's forcing you to be something you're not right now. Kurama snorted at his words. You and your friendship speeches. Some things never change with you, Naruto. All of the girls besides Hikage were confused. Naruto never gave a speech like that before. However, Haruka did know he always wanted more friends. Mirai slowly seated herself back in the chair and picked up the discarded chopsticks. She looked Naruto in the eye and felt warm at the way he stared at her. Focusing her attention entirely on the food, she began to finally eat. Naruto was glad she was a bit more comfortable as he began to attack his own bowl of ramen ferociously. The other girls all ate at their own pace. Some small talk went around regarding training or the upcoming year. Mission talk made Mirai interested, so she began to ask Yomi and Homura very quietly. Towards the end of their meal, Kurama jumped off Naruto's shoulder to go take a nap on the couch. The fox claimed it was much more comfortable than some. Dirty mind. That comment always offended Naruto. Finishing his ramen and making sure to savor it, Naruto looked around the table at the chatting girls. They somehow grabbed Hikage into the conversation regarding Hebiho, which only left Haruka to sit in silence. Naruto was seated at the head of the table with Hikage to his right and Haruka to his left, so when he felt something touch his left leg, he knew who it was. He felt Haruka's bare foot start to go up and down his leg as he flatly looked at her. She continued to smile directly at him. She knew what she was doing. The way her eyes wouldn't leave his face made him feel hot. He blamed it on the fact that they just cooked in the kitchen. Obviously the temperature would be raised a bit. It's still summer too. Yeah, obviously. He mentally reasoned with himself. His eyes widened when Haruka's foot began to reach places that would certainly cause problems. Her eyes were predatory as she licked her lips. Nope. I will not get hard in the kitchen among a new member of this team. Nope. Naruto shot out of his chair like a bullet. Mirai. The youngest girl jumped slightly at his raised voice. Hey. So I was thinking we can give you a tour Hebiho today. You know, this way you don't have to do it when classes start. Haha. Good idea. Great idea. Hikage narrowed her eyes at the way he was acting. Kurama was sleeping. She was talking. Haruka. Hikage met Haruka's gaze as the blonde girl smiled cheekily. Doll girl is playing a dangerous game. I'd love to give Mirai-san a tour. I can even show her my homegrown beansprouts. Yomi looked excited at that prospect. If I come, I want to spar Naruto. After all this delicacy, all this food, I need a good fight. Homura caught herself before she could compliment the one person who got on her nerves constantly. Naruto gave her a thumbs up. Sure, I'll kick your tanned ass all over Hebiho. Homura shot up with her own glare. Naruto-san, why do you always make comments about our backsides? Yomi questioned with a cute confused look. Naruto-kun obviously has an ass fetish. Yomi-chan. I can confirm, he always stares when I transform. Haruka offhandedly said. You know, he does usually. Hikage got cut off by Naruto moving in a flash. He covered her mouth with his hand and a nervous smile. Hee okay hubby-chan, you and Haruka-chan can stay here and talk about girl things. He made sure everyone heard that before whispering. We don't need you both ruining Mirai. Please. Hikage smirked at him as her eyes glinted. You owe me. Hubby-chan, I live in a perpetual state of owing you. Big word Naru. Kurama has changed you. Naruto moved away from them to get close to Mirai. The girl hesitantly nodded. That's fine. Thank you for the food and. She looked down at the kitchen floor. Thank you. Naruto wasted no time in placing his hand on her head and rubbing it. She's adorable. Like a little cat. It was a fair comparison. Her facial features were cute enough to remind him of a cat for some reason. She was only missing the ears and tail. Okay girls, I'll lead the way. He moved to the exit before Haruka decided to give him more trouble. Homura-chan, Yomi-chan. Naruto-kun still gets lost when it comes to streets. Please watch over him, he's like a small child. Her words made his head drop in defeat. Naruto-san, I can help show you the way. Mirai's quiet voice told him. He should feel embarrassed that a first year would say that, but he figured it'd help her open up a bit. Okay Mirai-chan, lead the way then. He held a hand out to the shorter and younger girl. She very hesitantly took it again. Hikage watched with no jealousy. She knew how Naruto was. He didn't see this girl in a romantic light, he was just really good with people. It just made her fall deeper in love with him, if that was even possible at this point. Hikage and Haruka sat in the kitchen as they heard the voices of their teammates fade away. Haruka coughed once. Hikage did nothing. Haruka coughed again. Hikage's eye twitched. Want to help me do the dishes? Sure Hikage-chan. They both stood to approach the sink with various empty bowls and glasses. The only sound came from the running water and Haruka's fake coughing. Okay. What do you want? You keep coughing. We both know it's fake. Hikage passed the girl a bowl to dry off. I have a question. How's your relationship with Naruto? Haruka didn't look up from sink at the questions. Hikage squinted at the question. What do you mean? He's my boyfriend. I mean, are you both doing well together? Hikage instantly knew how out of character it was for Haruka to sound embarrassed. How's this your business? Hikage's answer was cold, but it was true. Haruka tightened her hold on the bowl. It's not. I'm just. Hikage, let's not act stupid here. I love Naruto. Haruka's words only succeeded in making Hikage stare. That's really hard to tell when you're rubbing him with your foot under the table. Hikage shot back at her and Haruka was stunned. How? I grew up with Naru, I know when he's embarrassed. Obviously I didn't do anything to him, your hands were above the table as were his. The feet were the only logical option. The girl who was normally spaced out or bored had a surprising amount of deductive skills. I picked up Ka-san's detective skills when it comes to Naruto. She was the best when it came to that. I see. I'm sorry. Haruka dried her hands and turned the faucet off. Hikage, I originally planned to steal him away from you. Even if she was only ridiculed and put down by Hikage here, she had to say it. Naruto would be busier for the upcoming months because of his Hanzo mission. She needed to get this off her chest. I'm an idiot sometimes. He's madly in love with you. Haruka sat at the cleared table and put her head into her arms. Now I'm confessing my feelings to his girlfriend. Steal him away. We've been together since we were 8, Haruka. Hikage clarified for the girl with a sense of smugness. I know. I can't steal him away or even fully attempt it. My father. He cheated on my mother every night. I can never do that to someone else. What kind of evil shinobi am I, huh? Haruka mockingly laughed at herself. Hikage frowned lightly. Naruto always says even if that's our title, we can still be good people. Hikage recalled the many times he's spoken up about being an evil shinobi. Suzune-sensei always got annoyed. You deciding not to break us up, no matter how badly that would go, means you aren't evil in that sense, Haruka. Here I am telling the girl who I made my rival about my feelings for her boyfriend and she's complimenting me. Haruka looked into those yellow eyes that Naruto always got lost in. Do you know how jealous I am of you? Naruto, he makes me feel complete, Hikage. I have nothing besides my career at Hebiho and a broken home, which is partly my fault. Whenever I'm with Naruto I feel amazing. He makes me smile and laugh. His presence, it's like a sun. It sounds stupid but that's how I feel. I'm the same way. He's my son. Hikage agreed with her on that. You know how I am though, Haruka, you expect me to give him to you. He means more to me than anything. Sometimes I think what life would be like without him here and I'd be completely emotionless. For years I couldn't understand anything. Being happy, sad, angry, love, whatever. With Naruto, he makes me feel. I'll never go around with a bright big smile like his. Even though that's how I want to be whenever he's nearby. I can't lose him. Haruka listened with complete attention and was beginning to lose any sort of hope at the chance of being with Naruto. She deserves him. Haruka felt like crying. So much for the nice day of relaxing. Do you truly love him? Love, not lust. I'm not asking if you want to have sex with Naruto. I know how you flirt and touch him. Is it really love? Hikage's tone shifted to one she copied from her late mother's stern voice. I do. I talked to him one night in the park after we met Kurama for the first time. I told him everything about my life but not about my feelings. I couldn't do that even though I wanted to scream it out loud. I love him, Hikage. Haruka was equally as serious. The kitchen fell into a deep silence. Hikage spent a minute or two with her eyes closed. When the hell did this happen? You loving him? Hikage's voice was a bit lighter, it was returning to her usual monotone. Probably when we first met. It sounds silly, but before I met you both I had no one. I spent all day in my house and I still only have you girls and Naruto as friends. Haruka smiled fondly at the memory of the park. I can't stand Naruto. He's too good with people. Kurama was a beast that thrived on hatred apparently. Look what that fox is now. No way. I refuse to believe that. Kurama-kun. Yes. Believe it. You sound like Naruto-kun. Hikage chuckled quietly at Haruka, which only caused the blonde to let out her own set of giggles. He has that effect on people. That he does, Hikage-chan. Hikage breathed in deeply, mentally beating herself up for the next few sentences that would come out of her mouth. I won't ever give him up, Haruka. I'll make that clear. What you feel for him is genuine and I can't feel good, knowing that you'll constantly be in pain over this. I get it, he's yours. I can't ruin your happiness. I'll just share. I feel like throwing up. Share. I've known you for years and I can tell you aren't lying about anything now. Haruka couldn't even believe what suggestion just came out of Hikage's mouth. What? Please. Please repeat that. Haruka's heartbeat started increasing. No. Since I was young, Naruto has been mine. He's still mine and will forever be mine. It was brought to my attention that he's the kind of person that attracts others. He doesn't just do that physically, no, he uses his words and actions. You're the best example. The idea of sharing sounds like a joke, but you and I both know, Haruka, I suck at jokes. Haruka's hands started shaking and her eyes began to water. She could be with the boy she loved. Sharing or not, Haruka realized she couldn't keep him entirely to herself, but as long as she was in his heart. That's all that mattered. Hikage. This isn't something I'm extremely happy about. Being with Naruto showed me that the feelings of other people matter. I only ever cared about him even when Ka-san was here, he was my number one. He still is, though now I have others to care about, right? Sharing. What a weird concept. Hikage's eyes widened when Haruka threw herself at her. The girl was crying into Hikage's shoulder, and for the first time Hikage felt like she truly had someone other than Naruto. A friend. Leaning back and wiping her eyes, Haruka began to talk through her tears. Why you don't have to do this? I can't interfere with love, Hikage. I can't. Not anymore. I want to be better. Hikage's lips twitched up at her words. You aren't interfering. I told you. He's still mine. Nobody's losing. I'll win. He'll win. You'll also win maybe. I'm still a jealous, possessive girl as Kurama says. I just can't feel good about myself if I tell a girl who loves him like me to get lost. Haruka couldn't contain the smile from breaking onto her face. After years of animosity between them both, it was ending. I won't lose to you ever, doll girl. You still have to make Naru agree to try this. Maybe it wasn't lost entirely. Haruka had to taunt her back. Oh my. That's easy, hubby-chan. I'll have him head over heels for me. She wouldn't go down without a fight. Some ground rules here if this works out. 1. I don't like girls. Sorry. I won't do anything with you. Hikage plainly stated. Yes. Me either. I am Naruto sexual. That is. Wow. Haruka started giggling at Hikage's reaction. Soon she also broke and started chuckling again. 2. If Naru doesn't agree, then it's done. 3. You do all my schoolwork for the next year. Hikage looked at her with a dead expression. I agree with number 2. Number 3. No. Stop being lazy. You and Naruto-kun are awful with schoolwork. Did you even study when you were younger? Hikage stared at her blankly. Okay. Right. Hinata. Never mind. Still no. It'll help you for the future. Education is important for someone your age. Haruka put her foot down on that matter. Acting like a parent wasn't her intention, but that's what Hikage picked up on. You sound like a mother. Shut up. I'm just concerned for your grades. Homura-chan slacks off too much as well because of Naruto-kun in our shared classes. He constantly flicks paper at her, and it isn't helping their education. Seriously, for all their skill in combat, they failed at basic studies. Alright, fine. We both have to talk to Naru then. Okay, that sounds. Well, what an interesting conversation. Kurama walked into the kitchen with a feral smile. Both girls froze, having forgotten about the sleeping fox. So you finally cracked, Hikage. I told you, Naruto's been attracting people for far longer than you realize. If he could sway enemies to his side, attracting females. Easy for my host. Kurama seemed almost too proud of Naruto here. Kurama-kun, you heard everything. Haruka watched the tiny Biju nod proudly. Doll girl, I've known about your feelings for my host for a while now. I told Snake Girl here some months ago that you want Naruto. Of course, she wanted no part in sharing, or whatever you humans want to do to him. Maybe that's what intercourse does to a person. Lowered her jealousy. Hey, that'd be the day. Hikage blushed at Kurama's reference to their activities. Intercourse. You already have sex. Haruka's face was red at the thought of herself and Naruto doing that. For a girl whose primary behavior focused on teasing, the concept of being in bed with Naruto made her embarrassed. Do they? I cut the connection to Naruto's seal almost every night. They don't stop, and honestly I'm getting annoyed. She can't keep her hands off him. Not that he's any better. Hikage buried her face in her hands. Wow, that's Hikage-chan. Is he? Good. Haruka was very curious. I refuse to hear about my partner's performance in bed. Although if he's anything like his mother. What a monster. Haruka didn't understand that at all, and even Hikage was a bit confused. His mother, Kushina, tell me more about her, Kurama. Hikage asked the fox evenly. What? You mean Hinata, right? The woman who raised you both. Haruka looked between the two with confusion clearly showing. I couldn't stand Kushina, that insufferable woman. Naruto only told Hikage so far, and considering how much you love the brat, it can't hurt. Let me tell you a little interesting fact about that boy. It isn't a little fact, Kurama. Hikage mumbled lowly. Kurama darkly chuckled at her. I know. You girls get the abridged version. I don't have years to dedicate to retelling Naruto's life story. Kurama stared at the bewildered Haruka. Now, since this escapes Naruto's mind when he's around you girls, he isn't exactly from here. Haruka was having a hell of an interesting day. Naruto dragged himself home with shredded clothes. He forgot his shinobi tension scroll at home and was forced into an awful predicament with Homura. Lacking weapons and a transformation, he really needed to bother Kurama for more jutsu. A 3-on-1 isn't very fair. Especially with Mirai-chan on the side throwing kunai so accurately. These girls would be the death of him. Yomi and Homura were able to make quick work of his cage bunshin, and there was no way he was going to use Kurama's chakra. His speed and fists only got him so far, as eventually Mirai decided to sneak behind him with a knife. Sneaky little cat girl. It wasn't even a loss, they just cheated. He grumbled to himself as he got closer to Hinata's home. Kurama mentioned this Rasengan, I really need to get around to relearning it. Slapping his face with a loud smack, he was rejuvenated. Alright, I'll start tonight, that fox better come through. Naruto was sure Reo wouldn't mind if he was a bit late for the meeting. Opening the door to the modest home, he kicked off his shoes before heading towards the direction of three voices. One was Kurama, which meant trouble was afoot. I'm back. Yes, I look like shit right now. Kurama, don't even say it. The Biju held its tongue when Naruto called it out. Homura-chan, Yomi-chan and Mirai-chan actually got me a little messed up. They are staying at Hebiho tonight, by the way. This way they can get Mirai-chan used to the school, so she's staying in your room, Haruka-chan. The blonde girl on the couch didn't respond. Naru, your clothes are barely hanging on. Hikage commented with an appraising look. Homura-chan is relentless. I even tried making my clones transform into a sword. Kurama, she shred through them. The pain of my clones. The phantom pain. Naruto clutched his chest tightly, earning a tail smack from Kurama. Kurama, Rasengan. I need to learn it. Imagine the possibilities. Oh, what if I combine it with my blades? The whiskered boy was grinning at the thought. We can start after you have a little conversation here. He. Good luck, Naruto. Kurama left the room to find a new place to rest, preferably somewhere away from the hormonal shinobi. Conversation. Naruto let his eyes wander from Hikage to Haruka. Hello, Naruto Uzumaki. Kurama-kun is full of information. Haruka told him with no emotion. Haruka-chan. Wait, I was going to tell you all about everything eventually. It's just so confusing, it barely makes sense to me. Hikage-chan knows because we've been together for years and Kurama has a big mouth. I didn't mean to hide anything, I had no way of explaining this all without sounding crazy. He pleaded with girl sitting next to Hikage. His girlfriend actually looked amused at his state. Naru, come here. Hikage got up and pulled him to the couch. Placing him in the middle of them both, he felt even more confusion. Was Haruka going to kill him? Was Hikage going to help? Hikage-chan, are you going to help Haruka-chan kill me? I thought you loved me. He looked crushed at the overdramatic thought. Feeling a rather harsh punch to his arm, he yelped as Haruka glared at him. Hikage didn't get angry with the girl, which made Naruto's head spin. What's going on here? Naruto-kun. I'm annoyed, yes. I realize how insane this all sounds, but I believe it. Especially since Kurama is obviously not a summon similar to Suzune-sensei's. While Kurama told me the basics, I expect to hear a lot more from you. Okay. She asked him with a sweet smile, but he knew it wasn't much of a question. Hikage began to lean her head on his shoulder and he wondered what would happen next. Doll girl loves you. Hikage was a master at social interaction. Naruto froze at the words while Haruka began sputtering. Hikage. What? Why would you say it? Hikage only removed her head from Naruto's shoulder to tilt it at Haruka. What? It's like ripping a bandage off. Get it over with. This is nothing like that snake slut. Watch your mouth, doll girl. My love for Naruto-kun should not be compared to a bandage. It's a metaphor. I hate you. But you love my boyfriend. Naruto looked up at the ceiling. He wondered where Mirai got such a cool eye patch. Maybe she got it online. Man, he sucked with computers. He should fix that. He heard you can find more manga on the internet and he did enjoy reading those. He couldn't remember any of the websites. He didn't even know how to get to a website. Wait, he did. Naruto. Google. You use Google. Both girls looked at him with mass confusion. What? That's his response, Haruka. Guess he doesn't feel the same way. Sorry. Better luck next time, or never really. Hikage smirked at the girl. Haruka's hands tightened into fists, she grabbed Naruto's leg. Naruto-kun. I love you. There, I said it. Hikage and I talked before and she said. Haruka couldn't even continue, the embarrassment was getting to her. I said I'd consider sharing. You're mine, Naru, but doll girl is equally as obsessed with you. I wouldn't feel right letting her wallow in despair anymore. It was fun for 2 years. Now it's sad. Haruka gaped at those words. Hikage. I will. Is this all true? Or are you messing around? Hikage. Haruka. Naruto's voice was serious and for good reason. Yes. While you were gone and before we spoke with Kurama, I talked to Haruka about this. Hikage interlocked her fingers with his own. Haruka, you love me, even after I didn't tell you about Kurama and everything. Haruka nodded at breakneck speeds. I am upset that you waited to tell me, but that doesn't change my feelings at all. You're the love of my life, Naruto. She felt good saying these words. It was liberating after bottling it up for years. Wow. You know I'm with Hikage-chan though. I like you a lot Haruka-chan and I don't know what to say. I love hubby-chan too much to betray her. Hikage felt her heart soar at that while Haruka's dropped. Hikage decided to stop teasing Haruka and actually help the girl out. I really changed. Help the girl get with my boyfriend. Ka-san is rolling in her grave. Hikage knew Hinata told her to kick other girls' asses if they tried taking him. Oh, she'd kick Haruka's ass, but the affectionately nicknamed doll girl was being sincere. Naru, I love you, and I know this is unexpected, but I told her we can share on a couple conditions. I'm not instantly allowing this. Hikage started to tell him. How's this fair to you? I get to date multiple girls but you're just with me. Do you realize that? Naruto's facial expression was set in stone. You know I'd never want anyone else. It's fair because I know how you are as a person. You have a big heart. Anyone can see that unfortunately. You're still mine Naruto. There's far worse than Haruka out there. Remember Akio? Haruka scowled at her. You're the worst winged woman ever. Haruka told her with a scowl. Are you both serious about this? Love isn't a joke you know. I take this seriously. Love and friendship mattered a lot to him. Naruto-kun, as long as I can be with you, I don't care about sharing. I've been in love with you for years now. I'm past caring about Hikage-chan having your affection too. I just couldn't steal you away. Because. Naruto knew what she meant and held a hand up so she didn't have to continue. Hikage-chan, this sounds like something out of those harem manga we read when we were younger. Naruto rubbed at the back of his neck with a sigh. No harem. It's not a harem. These girls. Nope. No harem allowed Naru. Absolutely not. Naruto didn't get it. Wasn't that what they wanted? I never said I wanted a harem at all. Isn't that what you're both suggesting? 2 negative shakes of the head was his answer. No, never. Think of it as a shared relationship Naruto-kun. Naruto stared at them incredulously. I'm not sharing with anyone. I'd never let a guy get close to any of you girls. He received 2 smacks to the back of the head. I don't want anyone else Naruto-kun. You're the only one I want. We never even said that. Stop being stupid Naru. Maybe Homura-san hit you too hard. Naruto threw his head back against the couch. This was crazy. Haruka-chan, what if I can't return your feelings? It was an important question, one that had no definite answer for the time being. Haruka gave him a sad smile. I can't force you to love me that way Naruto-kun. I know this is not normal and could break my heart even more but Hikage-chan is actually giving me a chance here to be with you. If you agree to trying, I'd be happier than anything. Well that didn't put any pressure on him. Looking for his moral support, aka Hikage, she rose a green-colored eyebrow. What? I'm not jumping for joy over this. I'm giving her a chance as my friend. She loves you like I do and remember our promise. Our promise of a lifetime. I know we will always be together. She got him there. He remembered she mentioned something about, no matter what changes, it seemed this was the change. Hikage was all he had for years, a relationship like that was too strong to break. Say I'm with Haruka-chan, how would you feel Hikage-chan? He could never make someone feel less loved, but Hikage has a huge advantage. The snake-eyed girl looked thoughtful for a second before shrugging. Jealous. Though if you fall in love with her too that's different Naru. You're not leaving me and never will. You have a lot of love to give, Kurama was right. I guess Haruka can have some. I will kick your ass if you favor someone over me though. Naruto mentally reminded himself to know the full extent of the conversation Hikage had with Kurama. Agreed. My plan is to make you fall in love with me Naruto-kun. I have no issue punishing you for favoritism. The sultry Haruka was back and Naruto was somewhat glad. Sad Haruka was awful. You're both insane. I don't know how this will work or what will happen. Okay fine. I'll give it a chance. Not to cheat on hubby-chan, but only to see where this goes Haruka-chan. He started to smirk playfully. What kind of guy would I be to say no to basically having 2 girlfriends? Both girls glared at him and he shivered. Hikage's unique eyes and Haruka's calculating ones were a dangerous combination. No. Harem. Naruto-kun we already discussed this. I didn't even mention the word harem. I don't want a harem. Good cause you're not getting one. If other girls try anything. She let the threat hang. Haruka nodded, once more supporting Hikage. That's right. No other girls. You'll be ours. Assuming this works, which I hope it does. I really hope. Haruka felt like a weight was lifted off her shoulders. This isn't an invitation to have sex with my boyfriend Haruka. Hikage reminded the girl and Naruto facepalmed. Here they go. Oh, are you scared that I could show him a better time Hikage-chan? Haruka didn't like the smirk that appeared on Hikage's face. Show him a better time. Sure. Virgin. Haruka was devastated by that word. There was no comeback for that one. Can you both not talk about this right now? Naruto didn't want to think about having sex with 2 of the most beautiful girls he's seen. It was bound to cause problems. No Naru. I'm giving her a chance to be with you. I'm not giving this up. Hikage grabbed at his torn jeans roughly. Haruka began to blush again. Hikage-chan. Naruto stammered out. This is mine only for the time being. Don't even try anything Haruka. Hikage firmly stated with her hand on Naruto's crotch. HMPH. Haruka threw her on hand onto Naruto's upper thigh. You have an advantage Hikage-chan for now. Don't worry Naruto-kun, once we are fully together, I'll blow your mind. Naruto had to look away from both of them. Their sundresses were low cut and the cleavage displayed was too much for him. He started to discreetly make signs with his hands. Hikage didn't move her hand but she began to have a stare down with Haruka. You wouldn't even know how to do anything. Virgin doll. I'm sure I can take some pointers from the snake slut right. The only pointer I can give is pull your dress up. You're not wearing a bra. Neither are you. You're right. Hikage squeezed her hand over Naruto's pants only to blink when the feeling was way too soft. She broke eye contact with Haruka only to see a gigantic pillow. Naruto was gone. What? Where did he go? Our hands were on him. How the hell did Naruto-kun get away? Naruto was running with the agitated Kurama on his shoulder. He woke the fox up and set out to the training area he set up in Hinata's old clearing. Mentally praising the Kawarimi no Jutsu, he had to clear his head of that bizarre situation. You're welcome. I talked to Hikage a couple months ago and it seems you having sex with the girl calmed her vicious jealousy. She knows you'll never leave her. Naruto eyed the fox with annoyance visible. I didn't ask to have another potential girlfriend Kurama. I had a feeling you played a part in this. Idiot. Haruka loves you. It's still your decision whether to go through with it or not. I'm sure Hikage wouldn't be upset if you said no. I don't know what I feel for Haruka-chan right now. I love hubby-chan too much to cheat on her. He admitted to Kurama. It's not cheating if she allows you to be with her is it? Hikage has come a long way from the little girl who couldn't leave your side. She still can't, but she's grown to value others. Naruto reached up and patted Kurama's head, resulting in a very small glare from the fox. Those girls are all important to me Kurama. Why'd you get involved though? As my host, I have to care about your feelings, and I knew you hated how they argued. Them arguing over a boy like they are children needed to end. You are shinobi. Besides you deserve this after all that's happened. Kurama was referring to the whole Tonari event, which Naruto missed. I deserve more girlfriends. Really Kurama? He deadpanned at the fox. You are the holder of the greatest tailed beast. Your pedigree is higher than any other human worms. Naruto started laughing loudly at that. It's true brat. I'm sure it is Kurama. Let's focus on training though okay. You mentioned the Rasengan multiple times. I'm eager to relearn it Yano. Kurama began laughing evilly. Oh Naruto. Your hands are going to be hurting like hell until you get this right. Sure. That's why I have my cage bunshin. They are banned. I hereby ban them from this training session. You monster. I've been called far worse. Kurama did appreciate the compliment though. Naruto. Are you listening? Naruto yawned loudly, which yielded two separate reactions in the room. A stern glare and a small chuckle. It's quite early Ryo-san, I'm sure he'd rather be around those girls he favors so much right now. Dogen's words made Naruto alert. I still do not approve of relationships among students, though I suppose you're a unique case Naruto. Everything about you is out of the ordinary. Ryo rubbed his forehead lightly with a sigh. Let me go over this one last time, I expect your full attention. Yeah, I hear you old man. Naruto told him with a shrug. The lack of manners were something the two men were used to at this point. Naruto Uzumaki will be entering Hanzo Academy located in Asakusa with the intent of regular study and shinobi training. Dogen-sama has a few connections that forged transcripts and arranged your arrival with the principal. The principal of the academy is well aware that there is a shinobi populace among his regular students. Fabricating information about your so-called clan was simple enough. While most of the information is basic, the mention of a powerful summon was included to solidify your status. You are not to reveal your ties to Hebiho by any means and further parameters for your mission will be revealed over time. However, your starting goal is information gathering that Suzune prepared you for over the past couple years. We expect good results Naruto. Ryo concluded his briefing and waited for Naruto to digest it all. Dogen watched with a small smirk. Can I ask questions? Naruto raised his hand lazily. That depends on what you want to know. Your mission is not disclosed entirely on the off chance that you are discovered and interrogated. Respect this decision Naruto. Ryo's answer made Naruto's hand drop slightly. This is such a pain Yano. Do you have any idea what shinobi I'll be joining? Also, I need to confirm, it's not an all-girls academy. Naruto didn't want to go through the whole fangirl issue again. It was hell at Hebiho and these were evil shinobi. Naruto-kun, all my contact was able to dig up on the shinobi were their genders. 5 females. It's similar to your own group of girls, well 6 now that young Mirai has joined. Dogen laughed at Naruto's exhausted expression. More girls. I hope they aren't like Homura-chan. As for your other question, it is not an all-girls academy. Ryo-san, did you obtain that uniform I sent out for him? Dogen inquired with the principal of Hebiho. Ryo nodded and reached to the side of his desk, tossing the bag roughly to Naruto. The blonde teen caught it easily. No offense, but this is even more boring than Hebijo's. Naruto scowled at the white button-up shirt and blue tie. The matching blue pants and brown shoes just looked so plain. Not a hint of orange or yellow. Or red. That is not our concern, Naruto. Tomorrow the year starts for Hanzo Academy and you are expected to remain there daily. Ryo commanded his shinobi. Although your grades are not important, Naruto-kun. You won't be graduating from that academy after all. Focus on your training first. You may even be able to learn some things from those good shinobi. Naruto felt relieved at Dogen's words. He wasn't looking forward to more school work. Naruto. Shake his hand, I want to confirm something. Naruto furrowed his brow at the odd command before shrugging, much to the room's occupants' confusion. He approached Dogen slowly, which made the man feel on edge. Thanks, Dogen-san. I really hate school work, so that means a lot. He gave the man his best smile as he stuck his hand out. Dogen blinked before grinning at the boy. Accepting the firm handshake, Dogen waved him off. Not a problem, my boy. I know talent when I see it. You're a more hands-on learner. Book work does nothing for you. The largest benefactor of Hebiho told Naruto. Right. Glad we agree on that. Can I head out now? I want to spend the rest of the day training with my team. He asked the two senior shinobi as politely as possible. You're dismissed. Do not fail us, Naruto. A successful mission like this can lead to an esteemed position in the future. Ryo reminded him sharply. Oh, would it be similar to the position that Miyabi would have held if not for her unfortunate coma? Dogen's words made Ryo's hands tighten considerably. I'm leaving. You two can, work this out. Naruto didn't want to deal with these two men for longer than necessary. Reaching the door fast, he called out to Kurama. What did you need to check? Do you know how Haruka controls people via her puppetry? I can never detect a thing from those affected by her technique, it's like they aren't fully there. Similar to a dead body. You always say it's hard to sense their emotions or whatever, right? Or whatever. You're awful. Anyway, I get the same feeling from that man. Dogen is quite clearly in the room, and at the same time he's not. Do you understand me? Kind of. Don't get me wrong, Kurama, he creeps me out. He always seems one step ahead of me. Naruto began his trek to the training ground to work on his jutsu. Never let your guard down around him. If someone can evade my sensing, they are a threat. This mission to infiltrate a different academy can end badly, Naruto. Kurama warned Naruto. I know. I have so many questions that won't be answered by Ryo or Dogen. And I can't trust Suzune. Evil shinobi. While they accept everyone, they are the most untrustworthy bunch, aren't they? Naruto's question made Kurama grunt in response. It's not time to point out flaws in their shinobi system. Though I can't help being curious as to how good shinobi operate. I wonder if they take lives the same as evil shinobi. Kurama pondered the question. Hey, have I ever taken a life before? In the past, I mean. We already know what I've done here. Naruto continued his walk, although he wasn't paying any attention to the destination now. In the war you killed an uncountable amount of what we called white zetsu. They were previously humans caught in a despicable technique. So I'd say you killed a fair amount of people, Naruto. That makes me feel great, Kurama. Thanks. You also spared people, even those who didn't deserve it. Your kill count here or there doesn't matter. As long as you remember who you are, Naruto, the number won't affect you. Kurama's words made Naruto appear in his mindscape briefly. Kurama, you're a big old softy, aren't you? You always know what to say. Naruto attempted to hug the gigantic fox only to be knocked away and pushed out of his own seal. No hugs. And yes, I do know what to say. I had to deal with your positive outlook on life for years in the past. It's your fault I'm like this. Kurama's shout echoed throughout his head, making him cringe. Damn fox, it's too early to be yelling like that. Can't I train later and sleep with Hikage-chan now? Absolutely not. I want you to be training all day today. I saw her state before you left, she would not let you sleep, brat. You're not wrong. You've changed, Naruto. This world changed you. If only your former perverted sensei could see you now. Kurama knew the Toad Sage would be celebrating that his student was basically forming a harem. Kurama, I heard that. It's not a harem. It's going to be a harem. I don't have a harem. Going to be. Naruto had a bad feeling that Kurama was right. The next day was proving to be eventful. The start of their new year at Hebiho. He looks even wimpier than usual. Look at that tie. Homura's loud voice mocked the annoyed form of Naruto. The boy was standing in front of his team of elites with his Hanzo uniform on. Hearing her laughter, he started to feel his own rage bubbling. Naruto was still as hot-headed as ever. Better a wimp with a tie than a he was cut off by Hikage kissing him deeply. Placing his hands on her waist and resisting the urge to grab anything in front of a group, Naruto continued their kiss. Yomi-san, why are you covering my eyes? Mirai asked her senior in school. Yomi stood behind her with a wild blush as she tried looking away from the scene. This is not appropriate. Mirai-san is here. Yomi yelled at the two teenagers making out. Homura was doing her best to avoid staring as well. Noticing where Naruto's hand was going, Haruka decided to avoid ruining Mirai's innocence further. That's enough. Haruka placed her hand on Hikage's shoulder and had to dodge the knife thrown her way. How the hell did she do that so fast? Breaking the kiss, Hikage narrowed her eyes at Haruka. Girlfriend privileges doll girl. Hikage wouldn't allow this sharing situation to be easy. Alright, no fighting you two. Naruto placed his hand on both of their shoulders to erase the tension. He knew both of them enjoyed when he touched them for whatever reason. Where's Suzune-sensei anyway? I've been here the whole time. The cold voice of the adult woman spoke out. Naruto turned to see her seated on the couch of their shinobi room. You should have spoken up, Suzune-sensei. I know you're going to miss me. He enjoyed riling the woman up. You weren't even supposed to reveal this information to your teammates, yet you broke that rule now. Suzune told him whilst pushing up her signature glasses. I wouldn't say. Now haha. Naruto admitted sheepishly. Suzune shook her head in disappointment. You can't afford to mess this up, Naruto. While I may not know all the details, these girls apparently do. Mirai-chan doesn't. Let me tell her real quick. Naruto started to move towards the flustered young girl. Do not. Suzune shouted, succeeding in making the room stare. Raising her voice was not common. This is a mission for the betterment of Hebiho. You are compromising the parameters. She scolded him harshly. Suzune-sensei, I don't even know the damn parameters myself. Relax, you're way too easy to mess with. Are you sure you aren't related to Homura-chan? Homura didn't appreciate the comparison. If you weren't leaving today, I'd show you why I'm your superior. Suzune-sensei is madly in love with me, girls. Hubby-chan, are you jealous? Naruto turned to his girlfriend with a cheeky smile. She's old. No. Suzune bit her tongue at Hikage's words as the other girls all began to giggle. Suzune-sensei isn't that old, Hikage-chan. She has to be at least 30. Maybe 35. Haruka also joined in on teasing the woman. I've never seen her wearing anything besides that outfit, you know. That's more cleavage than Yomi shows when transformed. Homura noted and caused Yomi to hide her own face. That is untrue. I do not show my cleavage like Suzune-sensei. Yomi fried, defending herself. Cow. Mirai muttered lowly, but her teacher heard it. You girls. Naruto is leaving for the day, but you aren't. I'm going to make all of you regret this disrespect. The purple-haired teacher stood from the couch with a snarling visage. She didn't move when Naruto reached her quickly and grabbed her for a hug. It's been quite some time since someone's hugged her. Suzune, watch over them while I'm busy with Hanzo Academy, please. I know we don't trust each other that much, but I'm counting on you. Naruto whispered to her quickly. He released her from the sudden hug and paled at the angry looks on Hikage and Haruka's face. I was just saying goodbye. I'm only going to be around at nights on the weekdays, girls. That's all. He pleaded with them poorly. Naruto-kun, why does she get a hug? What about the rest of us? Haruka accepted a good answer. Naruto didn't have one. He had an idea though. Don't do that. Hikage will get extremely angry. Kurama tried warning him. It's not that bad, Kurama. When you're forced to sleep on the floor of your own room, don't try entering the seal. Naruto dashed to Hikage before kissing her on the cheek quickly. She didn't even have a chance to react as he did the same to Haruka. And Yomi. And Homura. And even Mirai. Now Hikage was livid. See you later, girls. Naruto made his hasty exit to catch a train that would take him closer to Hanzo Academy. Bastard. That was my first kiss on the cheek. And you just took it from me. Homura unsheathed her 6 katanas to chase the boy down. Yomi began her usual spiel of embarrassment and Mirai was doing her best impersonation of a statue. I enjoy this sharing idea, Hikage-chan. Haruka commented with a very small blush as she touched her cheek. Hikage gripped Hinata's knife until her hand began to hurt. Ka-san, give me strength not to kill Naruto right now. Rin watched that whole interaction with dull eyes. When she found Naruto and Hikage passed out by their mother's dead body, she would never imagine this is how things would end up. They were evil shinobi. Being affectionate and positive wasn't in their natures. That apparently didn't matter to her only male student. If anything, he treated the whole team like a family. That wasn't even a lesson Korea-sensei passed along to her. Naruto was turning classic shinobi lessons upside down. Shinobi, both good and bad, were supposed to put their career first. Who was Naruto Uzumaki? Rin wouldn't admit to the sense of foreboding she felt around him. He was destined for something here. She couldn't be sure of what. One thing was for certain though. The entire shinobi world was going to be shaken up. Bright blue eyes scanned a map of the school grounds. The campus of Hanzo Academy was large, roughly the same size of Hebiho. They even had their own set of dorms and fields. His other hand held a schedule of classes. He wasn't sure when he would contact these good shinobi, but he was sure they'd come to him. The principal knew of his totally legit lineage. I bet two tails that you're going to get lost getting to class and make a fool of yourself. Kurama lazily watched through Naruto's eyes. Students all wearing the same colors as Naruto walked around and chatted happily. Males and females this time, showing the co-ed nature. Kurama, I won't get lost. I'm just studying the map and planning the best escape routes. Naruto already felt lost. You can't lie to me when I can easily hear your thoughts. I'm cutting the connection, you ass. Naruto didn't cut it fast enough to avoid heading the snarky laugh from the Biju. Stupid Kurama, always making me feel dumb. He grumbled to himself as he walked with the map and schedule in hand. Whatcha mumbling about? A cheery voice called out to him and he looked up. His eyes widened at the girl before him. Green eyes stared at him with a bright grin. She was shorter than him with a very cute face and had very long blonde hair that reached her thighs. The bright blue headband in her hair complemented the plain Hanzo uniform. Her white school shirt was unbuttoned purposely to reveal a hint of her huge breasts. Naruto gulped at the thickness of her thighs. It seemed these girls weren't any different from Hebiho students when it came to skirt length. Good thing he cut the connection with Kurama. I'm lost. He couldn't believe he stuttered. Was he nervous? Was it because of her lewd school outfit? It couldn't be. He's seen hundreds of Hebiho girls dressed the same way. Aha, you're new here. I figured as much. I've never seen you around. She snapped her fingers like she solved a mystery. You got a schedule right. Let me have it. She stuck her hand out at him expectantly. Naruto shrugged before giving her the piece of paper. He put the map into his bag. It seemed he wouldn't be needing it for now. The blonde girl studied his schedule with an odd expression. You're a third year like me. And we even have the same classes. What a coincidence. She looked at him for an explanation. That's weird, I guess. My name's Naruto, by the way. Naruto Uzumaki. He might as well use his full name here. She gave him a toothy grin and responded happily. I'm Katsuragi. Nice to meet you. But this is an awful greeting, you know. Naruto looked at her in confusion. An awful greeting. Did he do something wrong? You see, I usually greet girls by groping their full bountiful boobs. You're a guy though. I can't do that obviously. Her words came out so proudly that it stunned Naruto. Gee. Grope. Excuse me. You're a hottie though. Look at those arms. Oh, and the shirt is unbuttoned enough to see your muscular chest. Mama likes. Katsuragi rose her hands to make grabbing motions. I've never greeted a guy like this before, so consider this my first. Naruto didn't know why the passing students ignored this scene taking place, and he didn't move when she approached him. First time. Katsuragi. What? Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll be gentle, she whispered as she neared him. Katsuragi-san, are you attempting to sexually harass a new student? A strict voice called out that reminded Naruto of Suzune. Both Naruto and Katsuragi turned to the new girl. Flowing dark black hair reached her thighs with flat-cut bangs resting against her forehead. Dark blue eyes watched Katsuragi with disapproval. She wore the same outfit as Katsuragi, although her top was fully buttoned, and the skirt was modest. Not long but not short enough to reveal her panties easily. She was incredibly busty and attractive still. Her face practically screamed discipline and rigidness. What the hell do they feed the girls around here? Naruto couldn't exactly complain even if it was shocking. Ikaruga-chan. I was greeting Naruto-kun over here. With my own personal flair, of course. Katsuragi pleaded her case to the girl and Naruto deduced that they knew each other. As class president, I cannot allow sexual harassment in any degree to be allowed. Ikaruga stood firm in front of them. Hehehehe. Ikaruga-chan, no one can stop me. Katsuragi jumped towards him and ignored Ikaruga's shout. These rock-hard muscles. It's so different compared to Ikaruga-chan's soft pillows or Asuka-chan's lovely boobs. Katsuragi literally felt Naruto up in the middle of campus as Ikaruga rushed to stop it. Naruto didn't know what he was expecting at Hanzo Academy. Being sexually harassed by a beautiful girl on his first day. Nothing was ever normal for him. A mission assigned from the higher-ups of an elite academy such as Hebiho should be one that prides itself on professionalism. Espionage and subtle sabotage should be utilized almost immediately. That was not the case at all for what Naruto was enduring currently. Oh, here's the cafeteria. The food sucks every day but Friday. That's ramen day. The happy form of Katsuragi bounced up and down as she held a tight grip on his arm. Naruto focused on the name of his favorite food and not the bouncing breasts of the girl in front of him. Ikaruga, the so-called class president, stood respectfully by his side. She claimed it was her duty to show a new student around and Katsuragi forced herself into that. Ramen. How good of ramen are we talking? Better than instant ramen? Naruto asked the giddy third-year student. Katsuragi flashed him a grin that resembled his own. Hey, it's way better than instant ramen. The real good stuff is available in town though, the cafeteria can't compare to it. Katsuragi bragged about the ramen spot that she held in high regards. I'll be the judge of that. I'm a well-known ramen expert. Naruto gave her a look that portrayed mock professionalism. I don't believe you. She yanked on his held arm with strength that made Naruto stunned for a second. You think you can come into my school and call yourself a ramen expert? Katsuragi placed herself in front of his face playfully. Katsuragi-san, please refrain from entering the personal space of any students. There's an appropriate distance one must take when interacting with others. This is not it. Haruka scolded the bouncy blonde. Personal space. Katsuragi gave one more squeeze to Naruto's muscled arm, making him shake his head, before approaching the dark-haired class president. Haruka-chan, I'll show you personal space. Katsuragi's hands already crept towards the other third year's bust. Haruka closed her eyes and sighed deeply before swinging her school bag at Katsuragi's head. It made contact easily and sent the girl directly towards Naruto. Deciding not to let the girl fall to the ground, Naruto reached an arm out and pulled her against himself. Dazed from the sudden hit, Katsuragi took a second to adjust to her new position. Feeling her body pressed against something she compared to steel, she turned her gaze upwards to meet Naruto's. Hey handsome, you come here often. Katsuragi pushed her body closer to his own. Naruto let go of her body and she unceremoniously fell to the ground laughing all the way. Is she always like this, Haruka-chan? Naruto asked the stern girl who was a polar opposite to her classmate. I have to ask you not to address me with such familiarity. She started to tell him, and Naruto was vaguely reminded of a move. That wouldn't stop him, in fact he planned on calling her that more now. To answer your question, yes. Katsuragi-san does not seem to know the meaning of boundaries. Katsuragi jumped from the ground easily and started giggling again. Boundaries. What a pointless word to me. Why should I be denied massaging those soft pillows of yours, Haruka-chan? Maybe it'll make them grow more. Katsuragi appeared thoughtful and Haruka felt her annoyance rising. Even if she's grown used to Katsuragi's habits, she didn't approve. Although, now I got a new piece of eye candy. Naru-kun over here is a 10 in my books. She shot an awkwardly smiling Naruto 2 thumbs up. Thanks, he said uncertainly as he reflected on the way she addressed him. It was like a combination of Hikage and Haruka. He prayed they wouldn't meet this girl. Enough. Class starts in a few minutes and Naruto-san needs to find his proper classroom. May I see your schedule to assist you? Haruka held a hand out to the boy. Katsuragi slapped the hand, causing a loud smack to echo throughout the hall. No need. He's got the exact same schedule as us this year. Katsuragi seemed pleased by this information as the gears started to turn in Haruka's head. The exact same schedule. Did Katsuragi forget what the last 2 classes of their day related to? Narrowing her eyes, she held her hand out to the whiskered student again. Please let me confirm. Katsuragi-san is quite scatterbrained at times. Let us not make any mistakes due to her inattentiveness. She insulted her fellow classmate slightly. Katsuragi continued to grin, unaffected by her words. She leaned closer to Naruto and whispered loudly. Pissed. I think whenever she uses words like that, her huge tits grow. That's why I let her say it. Naruto started to laugh at Katsuragi's whisper. Haruka was not very happy that the new student was getting along so well with Hanzo Academy's resident sexual harasser. Schedule, please. Haruka demanded with a bit more force. Naruto shrugged before handing off the slip of paper. Running her eyes over the classes, her confusion and suspicion only grew at the fact that Katsuragi was right. It was the same schedule as their own. How? Korea-sensei specifically made up their own schedules. There was no way that Naruto. She looked up to observe the duo of blondes snickering at passing students. Katsuragi was probably insulting some of the regular underclassmen. See how wimpy they look. Look at that guy. He can't even carry his bag properly. Katsuragi pointed a discreet finger at what appeared to be a first-year male student that struggled under the weight of his backpack. Naruto began a new round of chuckles at her assessment. I have to ask that you do not insult those underclassmen, Katsuragi-san. They are still students and deserve the same respect as others. Haruka made sure to correct the girl's behavior again. Of course, mistress. Forgive these 2 delinquent students for their actions. Katsuragi grabbed the ends of her short skirt and performed a small curtsy as an apology. Naruto gave his own fake bow. I can already tell that both of you together is going to lead to more headaches. Haruka mumbled to herself. As president, the principal allowed her to handle certain events in the school. Welcoming new students was one of those events. That would be an easy task if it wasn't for this new issue. She never would have imagined someone, especially a boy, could get along with Katsuragi that well. They were friends, but Haruka was aware that Katsuragi's attitude and personality didn't do her many favors. His schedule as well, how could they share the same classes? Chewing her lip slightly at her worrying thoughts, she listened in on whatever nonsense Katsuragi was spewing. And there's even a small hole in the hallway outside the girls' locker rooms for peeking. I can definitely show you if you're up for it. Katsuragi's conversation made Ikaruga's eyebrows twitch. Let us proceed to class. Naruto-san, I ask that you do not entertain any ideas of sexual harassment on or off campus with Katsuragi-san. Ikaruga continued to lecture them like children. Naruto and Katsuragi looked at each other. They both had one thought going through their heads. We can mess with her together. Naruto was used to teasing stuck-up or sophisticated people, and Katsuragi always looked forward to bothering Ikaruga. Come along, you two. Ikaruga began her elegant walk to their first class. Katsuragi wasted no time in dragging Naruto with her. She knew what the first class was. Math. Her face turned sour at that. Naru-kun, how do you feel about math? She made sure to actually whisper this time. It's absolutely disgusting. Katsuragi let a smile split her face again. They would get along. They'd get along real well. Meanwhile, Ikaruga was already planning to somehow patch this so-called hole that allowed a person to see inside the girls' locker room. It was her duty as class president and a shinobi to protect the students after all. Ikaruga genuinely enjoyed doing her school work as a sort of break from her other lifestyle. Training as a shinobi didn't allow many breaks, and the weight of her own family's pedigree weighed on her shoulders at times. That's why she didn't mind the education or studies of Hanzo Academy. In fact, she looked forward to the new year. Math was a subject she excelled at, not that she wasn't planning to ace the other courses as well. However, the presence of two people in the classroom affected her enjoyment to a certain degree. Katsuragi was usually able to focus. Usually was the key word. Many hours were spent catching the girl up on school work that she blew off in favor of practicing her kicks or shinobi arts. While she knew Katsuragi planned to graduate and become a noteworthy shinobi, she certainly wasn't the best at studying. Knowing her fellow third year for some time now, Ikaruga tried to curb her less than savory habits and hobbies. It wasn't very effective, and she hoped this new student wouldn't amplify Katsuragi's already wild nature. Feeling a small impact on the back of her head, Ikaruga turned around once she was sure the teacher wasn't looking. Catching the smirking faces of Katsuragi and Naruto who sat shoulder to shoulder in the back of the room, Ikaruga felt her blood pressure rising. Leaning over her seat and retrieving the small piece of paper that nailed the back of her head, she opened it up to reveal a crude drawing of female anatomy. A pair of awfully drawn breasts sat in the middle of the note. Turning her annoyed irises back to the duo in the back, she saw Katsuragi make a small grabbing motion with her hands. They weren't focusing. It was Naruto's first day and he didn't even care for the lesson. Gripping the note tighter, Ikaruga prepared to turn back to her notebook when the clearing of a throat made her freeze. Passing notes in class, Ikaruga-san. The voice of her current math teacher reached her ears. No. I apologize. It was on the floor, and as a member of the student council, I cannot allow litter to reside in the classroom. Ikaruga quickly made up the best excuse she had, and judging by the approving look on her teacher's face, she was in the clear. Very well. Refrain from doing that during class though. It may be the first day, but I don't intend to repeat myself. Ikaruga bowed her head deeply at that, and her teacher returned to the front of the room. Sparing another small glare at the causes of the problem, she stuffed the note into her bag as she watched them stifle their laughter. Returning to her notes, Ikaruga felt a tightening in her stomach as her mind drifted to Naruto. There was no way he was a shinobi, right? This all had to be a coincidence or a mistake. It wasn't that she was appalled by the idea of him being a shinobi. No, it was the thought of how much damage Katsuragi can do alongside a partner in crime. Ikaruga already had her hands full assisting Korea with the two new first years that joined their group a few weeks ago. Yagayu and Hibari. Not to mention Asuka was a second year now. Out of the corner of her eye she saw Naruto attempting to balance a pencil on his lip as Katsuragi mimicked the action. Releasing a quiet sigh, she decided to pay attention to the teacher and class. There was no point in stressing about the future. She'd prefer living in the moment. Class ended fast for Katsuragi and Naruto. They both spent the entire time joking around or drawing poorly. I feel like I learned a lot. What do you think, Naru-kun? Katsuragi's insistence on using such a way to address him showed how quick she was to open up to people. He didn't mind too much. He always wanted more friends. Now if only he could make contact with the shinobi of the school to start his mission. He did miss his girls already though. Shifting his eyes from the students packing up for their next class to Katsuragi, he responded. I suck at school, Katsuragi-chan. We are going to need one of us to pay attention at least. He watched the girl throw her head back with a groan. Ikaruga-chan can help us out then. Katsuragi told him as she leaned back in her chair. No. Unless I see some degree of effort, I will not help. The girl in question made her presence known as she clutched her school bag closely. Katsuragi began to pout at her shinobi friend. Ikaruga-chan, you won't do it for me. Katsuragi bit her lip and posed in a way she deemed sexy. Ikaruga was unaffected. Clearing her throat, she focused on the amused Naruto. Naruto-san, do not fall behind in class. As we share the same schedule, I'm going to make sure you focus on your studies like the rest of us. Katsuragi-san will be doing the same. The only reason she was going this far for a new student was her own sense of righteousness. Yeah, you got it, boss. Naruto gave her a lazy salute as Katsuragi watched with a smile. This was new for her too. Besides Korea, who was not exactly a friend to her, she's never interacted with a boy like this. A lot of the boys in Hanzo Academy were either boring and unappealing to her or simply leered at her for her looks. While she made no effort to hide her pronounced cleavage and flashing of her panties, nobody cared to get to really know her in the 3 years. That was true for both girls and boys. Outside of her shinobi group at least. On the other hand, Naruto had this presence to him that made her feel almost excited. It's a shame he wasn't a girl so she could grope another set of breasts that she loved so much. I have to say, this view isn't bad, not one bit. Katsuragi eyed the unbuttoned school shirt that revealed a hint of Naruto's muscular chest. A curious snake-themed locket hung loosely around his neck. Snakes. Blah, she's never cared for snakes. One thing she did care for was the attractive boy sitting next to her. Her mind starting to create daydreams of alternating between groping something as soft as a Karuga or Asuka and then moving to Naruto's developed form. She started to giggle like a true pervert at her own conjured images. You're sure she's always like that, right, Ikaruga-chan? Naruto and Ikaruga witnessed Katsuragi giggle to herself with hazy eyes. Yes, that was a lie. Ikaruga wasn't fully sure herself anymore. I have a friend who would get along with her. Naruto supposed Haruka was equal amounts of perverted as Katsuragi seemed to be. Minus the groping girls thing. Haruka strictly wanted him. That made him think back to the conversation they had. 2 girlfriends. How the hell can I make that work? Kage Bunshin. No. That'd feel weird. She's not even my girlfriend. I'm with hubby-chan. Why would she even suggest that then? Can I really love Haruka-chan as well? Naruto crossed his arms and put his head down in thought. Ikaruga now had to deal with a spaced-out Naruto and a Katsuragi who was consumed by her own perverted nature. She was optimistic about her morning before she arrived on campus. Ikaruga was looking forward to the brand new year still. She wouldn't let these two drag it down. Reaching out and grabbing them both by the ear, she marched alongside 2 pleading third years to their next class. Oi, stop. This is how you treat new students. Naruto yelled out as she led them painfully. Ikaruga-chan acts like such an old woman sometimes, it's crao. Ikaruga pulled sharply on Katsuragi's ear. Silently Ikaruga fumed at those words. She was not a old woman. She simply cared about students' performance. I can see it. Though I don't think a granny would have a chest like Thy. Naruto's ear was pulled with the same intensity. Various students that ranged all years were treated to the view of the class president dragging around 2 complaining blondes. Hanzo Academy would never be the same now that a certain maelstrom was in attendance. Asuka-chan, are we going to eat now? The higher-pitched voice of a girl whined out through the hallway of Hanzo Academy. That voice belonged to a unique-looking girl. Bright pink hair that was styled into pigtails and decorated with black ribbons framed her cute face. Outside of her innocent-looking facial features were her eyes that held a unique pupil and color. Light blue with pink pupils was an oddity that not many could say they've witnessed on a person outside of contacts. These were very much real and they practically oozed positivity as she held her stomach at her hunger pains. Hibari. Asuka already told us that we needed to meet up with Ikaruga and Katsuragi first. A stoic voice explained to the pink-haired girl gently. The now named Hibari turned with a small pout to the one-eyed visage of her classmate. One red eye stared back at her while the other was covered with a brown eye patch. In contrast to Hibari's bright hair, this girl's white hair was pulled into a twin-tailed style. Yagayu-chan. Class was so boring though. You wouldn't even let me eat my hidden cookies. Hibari pleaded her case to the set-in-stone expression on Yagayu's face. Cookies are not nutritious and should not replace a balanced breakfast or lunch. Also, I did not want you to miss the lesson. It was a fair point. Hibari still didn't like it. Asuka-chan, maybe they are waiting for us up ahead. Hibari shouted to the quiet second-year student. Oh, sorry Hibari-chan, I was distracted. Asuka, another beautiful girl, rubbed the back of her head with an apologetic smile. Brown hair tied in a tight ponytail and fashioned with a white ribbon moved along with her hand. Her hazel-color eyes scanned the crowds of students as she searched for the third years of their group. Hibari was about to accept the apology easily before the loud voice of Katsuragi was heard throughout the hallways. Naru-kun. Give them to me right now. Katsuragi shouted at a male student who held multiple cups of instant ramen close to his chest. Asuka and the 2 first years had no idea who this boy was and why Katsuragi was chasing him. Haha, no way. I told you, all the ramen belongs to me. He ran faster than Katsuragi, which Asuka knew was no easy feat. You ass. I should have never told you the lunch is awful. You managed to buy out all the ramen cups. Katsuragi made a dive at him which he evaded with a playful smile. Asuka finally noticed Ikaruga standing nearby with a small glare focused on the two blondes. Ikaruga-chan. What's happening here? Asuka approached the third year who looked surprised at her presence. Oh Asuka-san. Katsuragi-san is chasing Naruto-san down for buying out all the instant ramen. I already informed them about running in these crowded hallways, yet they ignore me. Ikaruga would definitely be pushing herself a little harder during training to teach Katsuragi a lesson. Naruto. Asuka. Yagayu and Hibari repeated the name curiously. While Yagayu and Hibari were first years, they've known Katsuragi for a couple weeks now. She's never mentioned a Naruto. Yes, he's a new third-year student. Naruto Uzumaki. He was not at the entrance ceremony for the new year. However, between him and Katsuragi-san, I will be working overtime as class president. Ikaruga's words only added to the hidden shinobi girl's surprise. They seem friendly with each other. Asuka smiled at the scene. A small part of her found it strange that this boy was able to dance around Katsuragi so easily. Indeed, they hit it off immediately. Ikaruga mentioned to the second-year student. Yagayu-chan, we should join them. They look like they are having fun. Hibari tried jumping forward, only for Yagayu to pull on her school shirt and kept her in place. Hibari struggled pointlessly against the grip. I think it's nice that Katsune has a new friend. Asuka showed her familiarity to Katsuragi with the nickname. Ikaruga nodded slightly. She supposed Katsuragi making a new friend was a good thing. Perhaps the endless groping will cease. Katsuragi stood up straight with a twitching brow that changed when she caught sight of Asuka. Grinning with her pearly white teeth, she abandoned the pointless effort of catching Naruto to say hello to her favorite second year. Naruto followed her after he realized she gave up. Asuka-chan. Look out! Hibari exclaimed and poor Asuka jumped in place before her face lit up in an atomic blush. Katsuragi made herself comfortable by grabbing Asuka's large chest and fondling it roughly. Luckily the hallways were cleared now that most students went off to lunch and avoided the two weirdos chasing each other over ramen. Naruto reached the group of girls and didn't know how to react to Katsuragi harassing the cute brown-haired girl. His blue eyes quickly observed the group. All of them were clad in Hanzo Academy uniforms and to no one's surprise, they were busty and curvy. The only unique piece of clothing he spotted was the brown-haired one's red scarf that wrapped around her neck. Ikaruga managed to pry Katsuragi off Asuka's chest and leveled her with a fresh glare. Katsuragi, I won't ask again. Follow the school ground rules. Sexual harassment is a crime. Katsuragi placed her back against Naruto's arm, who rose an eyebrow at the action. She was way too comfortable around him in the span of hours. A negative line of thinking passed his mind. I can use her to get to the shinobi maybe. Naruto didn't want to be manipulative but this hunk right here. A palm belonging to Katsuragi slapped his chest. Is Naru-kun. Naruto Uzumaki. Yep. She corrected herself due to the confused stares she received from the younger girls. Yo. Naruto offered them a head nod as his hands were filled with precious ramen cups. The brown-haired girl shot him a big smile, which the pink-haired one copied easily. The white-haired girl on the other hand. She watched him like a hawk. A hawk with one eye. Hiya. I'm Hibari. Do you like cookies? I have a bunch of sweets I am willing to share. Naruto never met someone this cheerful before. She radiated pure excitement. It's nice to meet a new friend of Katsune. I'm Asuka. The brown-haired one seemed very upbeat as well. Yagayu. The white-haired girl only gave a respectful nod. He got mixed vibes from her. The eyewear reminded him of little Mirai, but the stoic nature screamed Amu or Miyabi. Miyabi. I haven't visited her in a while. Naruto shook his head before giving the group of girls a shining grin. Nice to meet you all as well. Katsuragi-chan mentioned her friends are all cute. I have to say, she wasn't lying. Naruto wasn't intending to flirt, even if it was easy to perceive his words that way. Asuka's turned her face away from him, the previous groping from Katsuragi and now a compliment from an obviously attractive boy. She wasn't used to situations like this. Hibari continued to smile, not even realizing his compliment. Yagayu kept her eye narrowed. Okay. Naruto. You're sharing that ramen with me, damn it. Katsuragi pulled on his arm tightly as she marched to the cafeteria. Naruto looked hopelessly back at the girls. Asuka gave him a sympathetic incline of her head. She was aware of Katsuragi's lack of understanding personal spaces. Come on everyone, let's go make sure Katsune doesn't kill him. Asuka joked slightly and Ikaruga already started to head into the cafeteria. Hibari and Yagayu looked at each other oddly. Yagayu-chan, don't we eat in the shinobi room? Korea-sensei said that's where we can go. Hibari was a little uncomfortable at the thought of eating with a large group of students. We cannot. Naruto is not a shinobi, he is not permitted to enter the room. Yagayu explained to her fellow first year. Ikaruga heard Yagayu and gripped her bag a little tighter. Being around Naruto for a couple hours plus his schedule and ability to evade Katsuragi. She was beginning to have her doubts. Lunch went smoothly for the Hanzo girls. While it may not have been within the comfort of their shinobi room, Naruto certainly made up for it. Even Ikaruga and Yagyu could admit there was a certain quality about him that seemed easygoing and open, not unlike their own blonde teammate. His jokes and arguments with Katsuragi at lunch made all the girls relax slightly. The rest of the day also progressed well for Ikaruga. Katsuragi and Naruto both calmed down after greedily starting an impromptu ramen eating contest at lunch. They weren't nearly as distracting during classes. It was reaching the end of the usual school day when Ikaruga felt her anxiety spike. What would happen? These next classes weren't in the usual areas of campus. No, they were in the shinobi room. Dragging her feet to the room, Ikaruga ignored the chatter of Naruto and Katsuragi. Again, the blonde girl seemed to have no issue with what was happening. There was no way she was this comfortable around Naruto. Ikaruga realized Katsuragi liked his personality, but for the girl to neglect her suspicion. That's a bit much as far as Ikaruga is concerned. Pushing open the sliding doors of their shinobi room, Ikaruga spotted Asuka, Hibari and Yagyu waiting patiently as they sat together. All three younger girls looked surprised at Naruto entering with Katsuragi. Putting her hands behind her head, Katsuragi strutted into the room with no worries. Naruto ran his eyes over the room with confusion. This was strange. Where were the other students? Why were their first and second years here? His body unconsciously tensed up, almost as if he was sensing something was off. The sound of something whizzing through the air caught his ear. Blue eyes turned cold for a second as he shoved Katsuragi forward and intercepted a thrown kunai. Throwing the weapon back in the direction where it came from, he reacted instantly and took a defensive stance. The Hanzo girls, especially the two first years, could only watch in stunned silence. Katsuragi, on the other hand, knew it. I knew it. She did a small dance in happiness that had everyone confused. Before anyone could question her, the well-dressed teacher of Hanzo Academy appeared. Korea's eyes were unflinching as he analyzed everything about this newcomer. Korea knew who he was. The principal made it no small secret to the hidden shinobi instructor. Naruto Uzumaki. The transcripts and information stated he was a practitioner of shinobi arts and held a lineage that spans generations. Apparently, at least, summoning mythical creatures sounded appealing to other shinobi, to Korea though. Something was off. The fact that this boy also matched the exact appearance of the one reported by Hanzo Academy shinobi 2 years ago added to the suspicion. His stance was textbook too. The way his hands hung loosely yet ready to strike at a moment's notice. His feet spread at the proper angle and the blue eyes that waited for him to make the slightest muscle movement. Korea was not sure of anything surrounding Naruto Uzumaki except for the sole fact that he was dangerous. Then the boy opened his mouth. What's your problem, pretty boy? Who the hell throws a knife at a guy just trying to go to class? The way Naruto spoke momentarily threw Korea off. Going from a picture-perfect defensive shinobi to a smart-mouthed teenager. He knew of one other student like that currently. Katsuragi. He. Pretty boy. It fits Korea-sensei. Katsuragi had no problem standing next to Naruto. Can someone explain what is going on here? Please. Asuka's voice displayed her bewilderment. Ikaruga watched Katsuragi with increased scrutiny. She said she knew it. Knew that he was a shinobi. No regular student could catch a weapon like that. How did Katsuragi know? Perhaps the scheduling gave it away. Korea faced his students. The group of girls waited with bated breath. Katsuragi was nodding approvingly to herself, as if she knew something that they didn't. Which technically she did. Naruto was genuinely lost though. I kinda want to know too, ya know. He let his verbal quirk show by accident and Katsuragi's eyebrows shot up at the additional words. Naruto Uzumaki. The principal of Hanzo Academy has allowed him entrance into the school and offered shinobi training due to his lineage. Korea's explanation made each girl switch their attention back to Naruto. He was about to mentally call for Kurama to wake up before he realized he was beginning to rely on the Biju's emotional sensing. Ka-chan taught him how to tell if a person was lying based off body language or habits. He'd have to put that into practice here. Katsuragi. You claimed to know he was a shinobi. How? Korea interrogated the happy blonde girl. Easy. Look. Katsuragi reached to the front of Naruto's chest and rubbed him up and down. Naruto's brain shut down. What the hell was wrong with her? The other Hanzo girls couldn't believe she'd do this right now. He's built like a fighter. A hunk of a fighter, one have to add. That's not all though. His schedule was the same as mine and Ikaruga-chan's. During math class, the way he threw paper at Ikaruga-chan's head was perfect, similar to how we throw shuriken. Oh, before lunch, he was able to dodge me every time I went to tackle him. I wasn't going full speed, but I should have been able to catch a random student. After Katsuragi's example, the room was perfectly silent. Naruto couldn't believe he gave that much away with regular actions. The schedule wasn't his fault, but the feats of dodging and throwing did seem suspicious. He let his mind recall the words from his heavy-ho briefing. 5 girls similar to his squad. These girls certainly fit that description. He also couldn't believe she still was feeling him up. The tug on his locket snapped him out of it. I like the necklace. Shame about the snakes. Never was a fan of M. Naruto grabbed her roaming hand harshly at that comment. Snakes were special to him, for sentimental reasons. Katsuragi's face displayed her surprise at his action. All day he didn't react like that. She let her hand drop and fought a frown off her face. As surprised as I am. Good job, Katsuragi. It is fundamental for a shinobi to look underneath the underneath. Kariya praised the girl lightly. I can't believe Katsuragi-san deduced all that from such simple things. Ikaruga knew Katsuragi wasn't stupid by any means, but to figure all this out. Impressive. Cool. More friends. Hibari seemed pleased with this information and Asuka nodded along with her. They didn't mind this in the least. Yagayu still appeared to be unsure. Naruto froze up again at Hibari's shout. More friends. He had a mission. While he didn't know the end goal, he suspected it wouldn't end well for Hanzo. Hanging out with Katsuragi for hours today, he felt a friendship could have formed easily. If not for her being a shinobi here. He felt a small pang in his heart for what he'd have to do and due to the way he grabbed Katsuragi's hand. Sighing, he pushed her shoulder playfully to elicit a response. She shot her head up and saw his smirk and gave her own back. Then she threw her arms up. Take that, Ikaruga-chan. It seems you aren't the smartest one here. I will allow you to regain that title. For 1 hour of titty grabbing. Ikaruga looked annoyed at the stipulation and mocking tone of Katsuragi. Katsuragi. There's a time and place for your jokes. This is not either of them. Naruto Uzumaki. You can call me Kariya. Come sit here, I have questions of my own about your clan and education. Then the girls and I will introduce you to the shinobi history of Hanzo Academy. This is all on order from the principal, not me. Kariya made it clear that he didn't trust Naruto. The Hebiho third year picked up on that easily. Katsuragi wasted no time in securing his arm again and dragging him to the seated group. Dropping herself in the middle of him and Ikaruga, she waited for Kariya to begin the questioning and history lesson. She hated lectures, but she couldn't deny her curiosity over Naruto. There was something about him. Kariya knew he would be having a long meeting with Hanzo-sama tonight. A lot of changes were coming to Hanzo Academy and he wasn't sure if they would all be positive. He caught Naruto's eyes again and he couldn't get a read on the boy. He wasn't outright cold or rude, judging by how close Katsuragi was already. Although that could be a well-crafted disguise. No evil shinobi would willingly walk into a school of this prestige. While shinobi were hidden among the school's populace, one boy versus hundreds of shinobi was impossible in Kariya's eyes. Dogen, Reo, Suzune. I better not have to kill these girls. Naruto tightened his hands into fists. These 5 reminded him of his group. Their personalities were different, but the makeup of the group was not. He was glad he made contact with Hanzo's shinobi this early. He was not happy about having to prepare for a long-winded lie that he'd have to spin to the girls that already claimed to want friendship. Naruto Uzumaki. Are you listening? Kariya asked him with force. Yes I am. Time to lie his ass off. The wonder on the faces of the girls made him dread this mission already. It hasn't even been a full day. Kurama opened one eye inside of the seal at the emotions seeping out of Naruto. This evil shinobi business was going to have an effect on him eventually. Let's see what his boiling point is. Kurama woke up fully to listen in on whatever lies Naruto was crafting up. The distrust from the white-haired man was palpable. Dance for the honor of evil. What a load of garbage. Honor. Hey, there's no honor in this. The Biju knew it was only a matter of time. Kurama had no issue waiting for Naruto to snap and stir up trouble for all sides at play here. They couldn't avoid attention anymore. Hanzo and Hebiho. In the end, Kurama's host would be no one's pawn. A dark smirk came across Kurama's face. It's been a while since they went on a little rampage after all. The school bell rang, and Naruto silently followed the crowd of students leaving Hanzo Academy for the day. One long interrogation from Kariya later and he was glad he could return to Hebiho. The man didn't trust him. It made sense, he supposed. That kunai he threw could have killed an unsuspecting person. Kariya was certain he'd defend himself and Naruto proved him right. He knew more about Naruto than Naruto knew about him. That was not good. Those girls. They are innocent. Naruto had a skill, one that he honed in Hebiho. He had an easier time reading people and these Hanzo girls were no different. Even without Kurama he could describe these girls to some degree. Asuka, eager and ready to advance in her shinobi career. She was knowledgeable on the history of good shinobi, to an extreme actually. Possible relation to a lineage of shinobi was high. She was upbeat and trusting. Yagayu. Intelligent as well. Hard to discern her true nature based off her aloof exterior. The eye patch hinted at a loss of vision but that didn't affect her study or shinobi practice apparently. Her suspicion was only second to Ikaruga's. Ikaruga. Perhaps the most intelligent of their group. She didn't trust easily unlike her other teammates. The girl fit the motif of a strict class president and held the aura of a noble or upper-class citizen. Hibari. After she offered him a huge amount of candy, Naruto realized she was just as trusting as Asuka. The girl was constantly happy. He wasn't sure if this was a mask of hers or genuine, but judging by her curiosity of what he could summon, she was probably like this all the time. Not exactly the smartest of the group, though Naruto knew she was a first year. This was all new to her. Katsuragi. Deceptively smart. She wasn't like a Karuga with the book smarts, but she was able to discover his skill from small actions. Her habit and tendencies for sexual harassment was strange, and Naruto figured there had to be something deeper there. She made it clear when they went over shinobi history that she aims to be well known in the shinobi world. Her drive was commendable, and Naruto believed she could do it. Trusting. Even more so than Hibari. He couldn't understand this one. Was it because they clicked so well? He realized how easy it was to make jokes or mess around with her. Was she also pretending? Imagine yourself as a female. And if you were a sexual deviant. That's basically her. Kurama's assessment was scarily accurate. Kurama, were you asleep the whole time, or did you notice anything odd in that shinobi room? He internally questioned his tailed partner. Nothing besides what you figured out. The man in the suit was suspicious and untrusting. The girls, all of them believed you to some degree. Some way more others. Kurama noticed Naruto's emotions flare again. Do you think I'll have to? Naruto didn't even know if he wanted to ask the question mentally. Dogen certainly wants you to evaluate each of them. Whether it comes down to you or your group of girls eliminating them. It's possible, Naruto. Naruto grit his teeth at Kurama's words. This is the path you're walking down right now. It's up to you to decide if you'll see it through. The Biju's wisdom calmed down Naruto a little bit. There's no getting out of the mission now, Kurama. There wasn't a chance in the first place. In the case of everything going to hell, Naruto, I want you to know that I'll be here every step of the way. Knowing better than anyone how Naruto felt about friendship and betrayal, Kurama had to reassure him. You're the best, Kurama. Your kind words won't let you escape from training tonight. Get ready for those hands to hurt again. Sadistic fox bastard, Naruto whispered as he walked off the campus of Hanzo Academy. The familiar voice of Katsuragi reached his ears as she ran at him. Katsuragi-chan. He wondered what she could want. Maybe Korea was sending her to follow him home or something. Korea-sensei is spending this week getting the first years up to speed or whatever. That means I'm free after school. Remember that ramen place I mentioned? You up for it? She nudged him with a big smile. She's not pretending. The fox told him. It was becoming clear to Naruto as well. Katsuragi really was this open with people. I can't today. I have to get home. He didn't have an excuse planned, but he really did have to return to Hebiho. Katsuragi let her smile drop for a split second. That's fine. More for me, I guess. She laughed and Naruto could tell it was somewhat fake. How's about we go Friday? You said they have ramen in the cafeteria on Fridays. We can have double the ramen that day. Naruto's suggestion made her face brighten up considerably. Pumping a fist in the air, which caused her chest to jiggle, she was quick to agree. Alright, it's a date then, Naru-kun. Huh. Katsuragi held her stomach as she laughed at his expression. Joking. You think a couple bowls of ramen is all it takes to get with this? She gestured to her curvy body. Guess again. I doubt you can even handle a couple bowls, Katsuragi-chan. Naruto felt the need to tease her. How dare you? You know what? Let's have a little bet. The most bowls eaten on Friday gets a favor from the other person. Deal. She stuck a hand out for his agreement. With no hesitation, he shook her smaller and softer hand. Don't go crying when I win. Katsu-chan. Naruto whispered the shortened name to Katsuragi, and for the first time all day, a tint of red appeared on her cheeks. She coughed loudly and withdrew her hand. We shook on it. The deal is set. I'll see you tomorrow, Naru-kun. With that she dashed off to avoid embarrassing herself. Never has someone made her blush. Never. She's groped more girls than she could count at this point, and not even that made her embarrassed. Why did the way he whispered her shortened name make her face warm? She rationalized it was because she was thinking of the ramen. That had to be it. The ramen. Do I need to remind you to be careful? You're already dealing with Hikage and Haruka. Kurama lazily asked him. What do you mean? I'm teasing her, Kurama. It's teasing for now. Who knows what will happen in the future? Naruto shrugged off Kurama's concern. She said it herself. It's not a date and she enjoys harassing girls. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. After you rudely cut the connection this morning, I reopened it in time to hear her say it was the first time she's done that to a boy. Kurama reminded Naruto as he began to walk to the train station. One train would get him to Hebiho easily. Meh, she was joking, I bet. Katsuragi-chan probably has people lining up for her. I mean, you see how she has no shame, right? I swear, Kurama, I can tell you how many damn stripes are on her panties. Naruto still didn't see the point Kurama was making. A joke, right? I'm sure Snake and Doll Girl would love to hear about their love getting felt up by a good shinobi. The entire way back to Hebiho, Naruto had to deal with Kurama's taunts. Reaching the castle keep ruins that housed the school of evil shinobi, Naruto avoided the lingering crowds of girls around campus. Opening the doors to the shinobi room he was most comfortable with, he was greeted with a swift punch to the gut. Blue eyes widened at the sudden strike. Kurama already began laughing at his expense. That was for taking my first kiss. Homura held a fist up threateningly. Despite the small amount of pain lingering in his abdomen, he gave Homura a smile that would only anger her further. I missed you too, Homura-chan. It was an honor to take your first kiss. On the cheek. Naruto ducked another punch, this one aimed at his head. Homura made a move to grab him again before a pull on his tie dragged him into the room. Naru. Hikage escorted him to the large couch. He didn't even notice her because of the fun he was having teasing Homura. Hubby-chan. Quickly kissing him, she pushed him onto the couch before sitting next to him and pulling his head into her lap. How was your day? Hikage asked as she played with his spiky hair. Focusing away from his girlfriend's face, he realized they weren't alone in the room besides Homura. Yomi sat respectfully near the window and smiled at him serenely. Mirai was seated in front of the couch with a laptop. Wait, where's Haruka-chan? Naruto felt the hands in his hair tighten. She's right here, Naruto-kun. His legs were picked up and placed onto the lap of Haruka now. Stuck laying between the two girls, he didn't try to resist. The sound of Homura's loud footsteps getting closer meant she was somewhat curious about Hanzo Academy. My day was interesting. Met some people, went to class, basically got interrogated by a shinobi. It was a normal day honestly. Naruto's description promoted reactions from all the Hebiho girls. Hikage glared at him from above, Haruka gripped his leg and Mirai appeared to want to know more. Yomi was blatantly concerned and Homura. Interrogated on your first day. I can't say I'm surprised when it comes to you, fox boy. What did you do? Summon Kurama in the middle of class. Transform by accident. Homura already began poking fun at him. I'm not an idiot, Homura-chan. Naruto growled out at her. Homura took a seat on the floor near Mirai and laughed at his reaction. Relax. Seriously, what happened, Naruto? Homura knew Naruto wasn't a fool when the situation called for him to act serious. That didn't mean she wouldn't try to insult him at any opportunity. Everything was going all right before the end of the day. My last classes involved the shinobi of Hanzo Academy. The teacher, think of a male Suzune sensei, was definitely suspicious. I kept making up more lies about my family and Kurama. Eventually he calmed down after his students started to believe it. Naruto was omitting some details for the time being. What were the students like, Naruto-kun? Haruka asked her own question now. They were just like our group. 5 girls. Naruto was almost hesitant to admit that piece of information. Girls. Naruto already felt Hikage's glare before it formed on her face. Looking up at her, he gave an apologetic smile. Yes. 2 third years, 1 second year and 2 first years. I don't have a lot of information about them besides first impressions. As time goes by I'll have more intel. Naruto felt a tap on his arm and noticed Mirai shyly observing him. Naruto-san. Did they try to attack you? He didn't expect a question like that from the first year. Doing his best to shake his head, which was still in Hikage's lap, he started to respond. Mirai-chan, they were rightfully suspicious of me but the girls didn't attack me. It's a school for good shinobi and based off my forged information, I come from a lineage of good shinobi. It isn't like Hebiho where some girls think it's okay to punch people in their stomachs. He leveled Homura with a glare. I wouldn't punch you if you didn't put your lips where they don't belong, bastard. Homura crosses her arms with a huff. I have some places for your lips, Naruto-kun. Haruka started to move her hand up and down his leg. Remove that hand or you'll lose it. Hikage still didn't appreciate others touching her boyfriend. You would stab my hand that's on Naruto-kun's leg. You would hurt him, Hikage-chan. Haruka didn't stop her hand and Hikage's face displayed her annoyance. Haruka was right. That didn't stop her from trying to reach Haruka's hand to slap it away. Mirai-chan. Whatcha doing with the laptop? Naruto ignored the 2 girls who were holding him and trying to fight each other. I asked her to find me the best prices for bean sprouts nearby, Naruto-san. Did you know there's an untapped market for bean sprouts on the internet? Society doesn't seem to hold them in high regards. Yomi also moved close to the group. The Hebiho elites were all crowded around the large couch now. Mirai-chan, can you teach me how to use the computer a little better? I mean you don't have to, but since you are the best one here with them I figured you could help the most. Mirai blushed at the fact that he chose her out of everyone. Oh, of course. I am the best with computers. None of these cows can compare. She covered her mouth with her hands as she realized what slipped out. Naruto started laughing loudly. Sorry. Mirai shut her eyes tightly, expecting the outcome of her words to be negative. Slipping out of the grip of Hikage and Haruka, Naruto placed himself next to the seated Mirai. Grabbing her small hands, he pulled them away from her eyes. Hey, it's alright. They are your teammates Mirai-chan, you can mess around. I found it funny, but sometimes it's hard for people to tell if you're joking or not. He leaned closer to her and began to whisper. I swear they are all drinking or eating something around here. Is that normal? Naruto jokingly made a gesture towards his chest, hinting at the busty figures of almost every girl he's known. Mirai began to smile against her will. She was about to start teaching him basics about the laptop before she noticed 4 people standing over Naruto. Naruto-san. Mirai stuttered out and he blinked at her. What? Turning around he was face to face with 4 girls. Naruto-kun, are you trying to say something about our development? Haruka asked him with a close-eyed smile. You like them and you're sitting here slandering them. Naru. Hikage made her disapproval known about his whisper. Homura grinned. She wanted another excuse to mess with Naruto. This worked perfectly for her. Yomi did not enjoy hearing her body could be developed from her eating habits. Bean sprouts were healthy. She would have to teach Naruto the hard way. Girls, calm down. I'm joking around, ya know. They didn't drop their expressions. Okay. Mirai-chan. Naruto inched closer to the girl and closed her laptop slowly. Handing the laptop to her, Mirai didn't know what he was planning, and she became embarrassed when he picked her up bridal style. Let's get out of here. The elite girls watched him dash towards the room's exit. By the way, a girl felt me up within my first 10 minutes on campus. I didn't have a chance to let anyone know without fearing for my life, but since I'm making my escape. Naruto hurriedly left the room. Homura and Yomi were right on his heels despite his claim of being groped. Hikage-chan. Haruka turned to the oddly calm girl. You're not going to chase him. She found it strange that Hikage wasn't the first to track him down. No, why would I chase him? He has to return to me eventually. Hikage sat down on the couch and pulled out her mother's knife. Flipping the blade lazily, she spoke again. He can run, Haruka. He can't hide. He also can't sleep anywhere else. Haruka giggled before daintily sitting next to her teammate and friend. You think the girl who groped him was like Akio? If so, we don't have anything to worry about. Haruka questioned Hikage. Hikage felt a sting of jealousy at the we in that sentence before she shook her head. I have a feeling it wasn't a big muscled girl. Hikage locked her yellow eyes onto Haruka's amused greens. How good are you at interrogation? Oh Hikage-chan, we are going to get along so well. Hikage enjoyed and hated the way Haruka's face lit up while answering. A beautiful friendship was blooming from the most unlikely scenarios. The week flew by as Naruto began adjusting more to his new mission and life. Balancing Hanzo and Hebiho wasn't that hard even though he missed being with his own group every day. Hikage more than made up for their lost time together at night, but he shuddered remembering how Haruka tried forcing information out of him. Straight up asking wouldn't work and cornering him only ended with her blushing because her own lewd thoughts. It was completely wrong for her to tie him up and toss him into the community showers with Akio. How Haruka knew the huge shinobi would be in there, he had no idea. And he didn't understand why someone who graduated was using the showers for students. The only positive that came out of that situation was it forced him into using one-handed seals for a very handy jutsu. The Kawarimi no Jutsu was a lifesaver as far as he was concerned. If he hadn't used that jutsu to escape, he didn't know what would have happened. Naruto immediately broke and told both girls about Katsuragi. Hikage had to hold him extra tight that night due to his fear of Akio breaking into their room. When asked what they would do with the information about Katsuragi, they both smiled. That's the only answer he got out of them. He placed his head against a tree as he tried to focus on his own exercise. He was simply balancing leaves with chakra on his fingertips before shredding them with his own wind nature. Kurama said this killed 2 birds with 1 stone, as it gave him more control on both fronts. Although, Naruto noticed when he used his shinobi tension, the ability to use anything related to his chakra nature was far easier. Even if Kurama has been stingy with letting him learn new techniques. Naru-kun, are we still good for today? I'm starving even after all that ramen at lunch. Katsuragi landed in front of him in her transformed state. They were in a clearing near Hanzo Academy for some light training. Katsuragi's outfit made him feel many emotions. Bewilderment was among the top. Her outfit wasn't complex, not at all. It was a school uniform but changed slightly. Her usual Hanzo Academy shirt with a blue plaid skirt covering her muscled thighs. The shirt made no sense to him. It was unbuttoned to reveal almost her entire chest. Somehow, someway, by some magic, her nipples were not revealed. Even when she moved, nothing. Naruto knew she could not sit still for a second, but she never exposed herself. Katsuragi's main weapon on the other hand was her mechanical iron greaves. They were large on her feet, yet she moved with ease. She even decorated them with the same blue ribbons she had in her hair. Naruto was fascinated by that as a weapon. Especially since she happily showed him how they worked. Channeling her shinobi energy into the greaves allowed them to transform in their own way. Katsuragi was able to create small whirlwinds for levitating and for propelling herself forward into the air. Dropping the shredded leaves, he stood to his full height and gave her a cocky smile. Yes. I hope you remember our bet. Naruto had to dodge one of her kicks as she tried attacking him. Damn it. How the hell do you dodge every time? I thought I had you off guard with that question. Katsuragi kept one leg raised, ready to throw another kick out. Naruto strictly kept his eyes on her pouting face. The blue and white striped panties were doing their best to draw his attention. He couldn't lose. Not to a piece of fabric. Maybe you're too slow, Katsu-chan. He shrugged and ducked a high kick that soared for his head. Katsuragi was instructed to train with him while Ikaruga assisted Kariya with the other girls. Apparently they were practicing summoning today and Ikaruga was better suited to help with that. Hey, stop with that stupid nickname. Katsuragi knelt and pretended to inspect her greaves when in reality the name got to her. She was getting embarrassed around this boy and she didn't know why. Nope. You keep calling me Naru-kun, so deal with it. He stuck his tongue out at her and widened his eyes at another frontal assault. Raising a forearm to block the greave, he channeled chakra to the limb. Those iron boots were no joke, and if he didn't use his chakra in his untransformed state, well, she could probably break a bone or two with them. Arg. I would keep trying to kick your ass. Katsuragi giggled at her own joke and Naruto deadpanned at the poor attempt at humor. But I'm hungry. What do you say we ditch this and grab food now? Kariya-sensei won't even notice. She loved training, especially kicking things repeatedly, but hunger was calling. If you're that eager to let me earn a free favor, sure. I'm the undisputed king of ramen. He stuck his nose up on the air in a show of mock superiority. Katsuragi hit him on the chest with an eye roll. I wanna meet whoever the hell made you king and kick them. Multiple times. A bright light covered her form as she ended her shinobi tension. Her Hanzo uniform was now less provocative. Come on, fake king, let's go get some good-ass ramen. Katsuragi wasted no time in pulling his arm along with her. Naruto felt conflicted at the way everything was going with Hanzo Academy. In only a week, Katsuragi was treating him like her best friend. Asuka and Hibari were always welcoming and friendly. Ikaruga and Yagyu were not quite as loud with support for him being in their little group, but they certainly never complained. Kariya watched him like a predator at all times. Naruto made sure to think before showing off any of his shinobi training. All Kariya knew for the time being involving his true skill set was he was able to summon a creature when he transformed. Everything else Naruto played off as being trained by his adopted mother. Which wasn't necessarily a lie. Hinata did teach him a lot. Naruto couldn't help but compare Suzune to Kariya, it was something in the way they taught their students. Then when she tried fixing that hole in the girls' locker room, I slapped her on the ass, and she ran out of there embarrassed. I wish you could have seen it. Katsuragi looked back and noticed Naruto spaced out during her retelling of what she deemed to be a good story. Scowling, she pinched his held arm harshly and smiled when he flinched. Narrowing his eyes and rubbing his sore flesh, he had one question. Why? When a lady tells an interesting story, you are supposed to listen. Were you raised by wolves, Naru-kun? Quote. Sorry. Start over then. I was just thinking about the ramen. As ramen king, I get distracted. He played off his wandering thoughts with a joke and Katsuragi snapped her fingers together. Fine. You're getting the longer version of the story as punishment. It was Wednesday afternoon, I'd say around noon. Naruto smiled as he listened to her ridiculous story that involved a woman trying to fix the hole Katsuragi made in a changing room of all things. This felt bittersweet to him. It was a feeling he tried squashing down. Katsuragi was someone he really enjoyed being friends with, even if he knew the end result wouldn't be pretty. Whatever Dogen was planning had something to do with these girls. And she said, excuse me. Of course, I had to do it again, the groping I mean. Katsuragi continued to go on with her story much to his amusement. Her entire story contained nonsense and filler that had no place being there. Naruto was convinced she made everything up. The small story time ended when they ended up in the shopping district of Asakusa. Neither realized how fast the trip was because of Katsuragi's poorly planned retelling. Here we are, Katsuragi shouted with her hands on her hips, pulling Naruto along with her into a nicely themed ramen restaurant named Ichiran Ramen. Naruto didn't even have a chance to take in the decor or the delicious smells as Katsuragi forced him into sitting down. Shoulder to shoulder she grinned and gave a low chuckle. You ready to taste defeat, Ramen King? She rubbed her hands together like a cliché villain. Naruto flicked her on the nose and gave her a grin to match. You're going to eat those mocking words, ya know. The second they were able to place their order, the competition would start. Green and blue eyes glinted at the challenge. Only a few seconds later they called out their orders. Piles upon piles of ramen bowls stacked up to the ceiling. It was comical in a way. No way should a human being be able to consume so much food in such a short period of time and continue eating. Naruto and Katsuragi attacked the ramen with passion for their favorite food. All the while throwing out insults and taunts, much to the other customers' annoyance or amusement. Finally, a sense of fatigue affected someone. And it happened to be Naruto. 45 bowls of ramen. He was defeated at last. Sparing a weary glance at Katsuragi, he tried counting her piled bows. She stopped slurping up the remaining food to slam a bowl loudly on the table. 46. That's 46. Katsuragi was beaming as she put the bowl down. Naruto's jaw dropped in shock. How the hell did she do this? She won. Him. The Ramen King, defeated by a mere girl. I am the Ramen King now. Bow to me, Naru-kun. I can see you are defeated. Accept your defeat with dignity. Katsuragi began to boast as she got into his face. Naruto visibly slumped in despair. What is this girl? Kurama was awake to witness such a barbaric display. Naruto couldn't even respond to his partner right now. I win, hehehehe. She continuously poked him in the ribs to get a reaction. Naruto weakly grabbed her hand and started chuckling. Alright. You win this time. Damn it. Where does all that ramen go? He couldn't help but wonder. Isn't it obvious? Katsuragi had no shame in grabbing her own bust and jiggling it a few times. These girls need to eat, you know. It should have embarrassed him or made him blush due to her actions in public, but all he felt was more laughter bursting to the surface. She began cracking up alongside him. Whatever customers that were left glared at them now. Paying for their gigantic meal, something the chef loved and hated, they exited the restaurant finally. The sun was beginning to set and its last rays were cast down onto the streets. Naruto felt something impact with his back and braced himself. Warm breath hit his ears and a groaning voice spoke to him. Carry me. I literally don't want to move. Katsuragi was stuffed completely after that display. That's the most ramen she's ever eaten in her life. Naruto quirked an eyebrow up as he wasn't used to doing this for anyone besides his girls. Figuring it couldn't hurt, he knelt down and let her get onto him. The large breasts pushing into him was a familiar feeling at this point. You're becoming desensitized, boy. Kurama was speaking only facts today. Was it worth it, Katsuragi-chan? Naruto heard her groan in discomfort. Quote. Yep, I get a nice favor. Suck it, Naruto. She was too tired from overeating to even use the little nickname she made up. Naruto hooked his arms between her thighs to support her and started to walk. Katsu-chan. I don't know where the hell I'm going. His lack of direction was showing again. Katsuragi giggled lowly before pulling on his ear. I'll direct you. Just follow the sound of my voice. She blew into his ear and he felt his body shiver. Her giggling only increased. I still got it even when I'm half dead from ramen. You're too easy. Naruto pinched her thigh, getting a loud yelp from her. 2 things. 1, that's revenge for earlier, and 2, I'm not easy. Katsuragi pulled on his ear again. Whatever you say, loser king, now follow my directions. Naruto grumbled at her command and followed her directions perfectly. Katsuragi led him to another train station near the academy. Waiting for a train with her on his back, Naruto couldn't help his curiosity again. You don't stay in the dormitory. He was used to Hebijo's living conditions by now. Nah, I have a house. I stay there sometimes with the girls, but for the most part I'm home alone. Katsuragi's voice was subdued, losing the traces of joy and happiness. Naruto picked up on her sadness quickly. Katsuragi was emotional, but this was a big change. Hey, you don't have to be alone, you know. You can invite the girls over to stay with you, or I'll even come by and hang out, Katsuragi-chan. Naruto didn't enjoy hearing about people being alone. That's one of the many things he was passionate about. Hee. Is that how you ask for another date? Katsuragi smiled at the tint of red she picked up before he turned his head away. The sound of a train arriving alerted them both. Tapping his head, he helped her down and she stumbled for a second. That ramen is killer. You know what they say, right? The things you like most will kill you. Or something like that. Those words were meant to be a joke, but Naruto felt a stab at his heart. They were becoming friends and he knew that was not good. Hebiho, Dogen and Reo. They expected him to go along with whatever this mission was. That's my train. Thanks for hanging out, Naru-kun. I haven't had fun like that in a long time. Katsuragi grinned up at him and flipped her hair to the side. Weakly smiling because his regret over this situation, he scratched at his neck. It was really nice, Katsu-chan. Nobody has ever eaten more ramen than me. That's a first. Katsuragi gave a sneaky smile at his words. Maybe I'll be taking some more firsts of yours, Naru-kun. Seeing his stunned face, she dashed off to the train. He. Like I said, you're too easy. Katsuragi waved cheekily as the doors closed. Naruto sighed. That girl was different. The train pulled out of the station quickly and he couldn't deny that he had a good time with her. He noticed there was no one else in the station now, only the sound of faint wind howling was picked up by his ears. Not wind. No. Something was up. Naruto. I know it feels like a shinobi kekai. Pulling a scroll out of his pocket, his shinobi tension activated in no time. A pair of deadly trench knives held in his grip. If there was something he disliked more than being alone, well, he hated those barriers. The clacking of what he imagined to be wooden sandals was heard throughout the station. Holding his knives in a white-knuckled grip, he turned his body around with a glare. Seated on a bench was an aged man, eyes closed with an easygoing smile. Dressed in a brown and black kimono, the elder brushed his gray bangs off his forehead. Naruto felt the warm flow of his chakra coursing through his system. His blades ignited with the bright blue essence, a hint of white energy licked at the edges. What do you want, old man? Naruto eyed the barrier with disgust. Teens these days. So rude. Even after such a hot date. You get those huge jugs pressed against you and you still act disrespectful. The older man seemed disappointed. Naruto narrowed his eyes and felt his anger spike. Was he following them? Oh, put those weapons down already, boy. I just want to have a little chat. Come take a seat. The old man pointed at the bench he was seated on. Naruto lowered his guard very slightly but kept himself aware for a surprise attack. Kurama was also observing this fully. I don't bite. Unless you're a curvy, busty, bouncy, youthful, developed. The man continued talking even as Naruto's sweat dropped. Anyway, Naruto Uzumaki. We are long overdue for this talk. The older man finally opened his eyes. Gray eyes that screamed experience and strength zoned in on Naruto. Tell me, you don't support the notion that flat is justice, do you? Naruto struggled to hold on to his blades now. What the? A young man like you shouldn't hold such distasteful ideals in his head. Come, let's discuss the finer details of a woman's body. Naruto and Kurama both couldn't comprehend this strange man. I'm not getting any younger over here, boy. I need to know, life or hometown? Hanzo entered Naruto's life with a question. A question about breasts or asses. This would be the start of a meaningful one-sided mentorship.